Hello friends, welcome to the session on social issues. In fact, this is an introductory session, and in this session I just give you a broad overview of what constitutes social issues as per the general studies syllabus, UPSC syllabus for general studies. Now, as you know, in general studies there are multiple papers. The first paper, GS1, it has topics related to history, geography, culture, and also social issues. In fact, UPSC does not mention which topics are related to history, which topics are related to geography, or which topics are related to social issues. It's for our own sake, right, for making it simple. We have done this kind of a classification. Now, the question is, what all topics we are going to discuss under the broader category of social issues. So what I do is I just give you the instances which can be clubbed under social issues. Not only that, what we do is we also look at the broader approach that you should have for this part of the syllabus. So let's have a look how things are. The first topic under social issues is salient features of Indian society, diversity of India. Now, first thing that we are going to discuss here is what is society. Since we have to understand Indian society, the first thing that we need to understand is what is society, right? Society is something which has been extensively studied. In fact, there is a discipline sociology, right, which studies society. But it's not just sociology which studies society. Other disciplines also have linkage with sociology, or they try to understand society. For example, politics or economics, anthropology, right, all have different kinds of linkage with society. So the point is, first we need to understand. We should have some bare minimum understanding of what constitutes society, what are the different characteristics, what are the different features. So we'll do that. Then we will talk about some specific features of Indian society. Now, if you look at Indian society, there's massive amount of diversity. People speak different languages. People again have different kinds of culture. We have something called as the caste system. There are so many tribal communities in India. People not only speak different languages, they also have different kinds of food practices and other things. So, or India has massive amount of diversity. What are these elements? And also we need to understand what are some of these things. Like when I use the term caste system, what does it imply? When I use the term tribe, what does it imply? We have got questions from these kind of topics. So all these things are part of the features of Indian society. We'll have a good understanding of all these things after the discussion on this. And despite the diversity in India, we still have very good unity. Right? There's a strong national identity. So what ensures that the society remains united despite this much amount of diversity? In fact, the diversity might be giving strength to the Indian nation. It might be giving strength to the Indian society. How does it happen? All these components we are going to discuss under this. Apart from this, one point that we have to keep in mind: societies are not necessarily static. They don't remain the same. They keep on changing. So how do societies change? What are the factors which brings about change in society? We'll try to understand that. And in case of India, how is the change happening? I'm not saying something bad is happening or something good is happening. I'm not talking about that. In fact, we're not analyzing that. What we analyze is how society has changed. What are the factors which have brought about change in society? So, what is society? What are the features of Indian society, and how societies change? This is going to be the focus area, the first topic. The next topic is role of women and women organizations. Now, at different points of time, we have had different women organizations. Right? If you look at history, then we have come across different kinds of women organizations. Similarly, if you look at post-independence, right, again different kinds of women organizations are formed, and these women organizations have played different roles. The issues faced by women have varied across time. Organizations have come up which have tried to address these kind of issues, these kind of challenges. Right? So there is some form of relation here as well. So what we will do is we try to analyze what have been the different kinds of women organizations, what kind of roles they have played, and how effective they have been, how successful they have been in addressing the issues, challenges that women have faced. So that is going to be the second topic. But keep in mind one thing: this topic also has a massive overlap with another topic in general studies paper. In general studies, there is one topic: mechanisms for different vulnerable sections. So under that, we study women. We study how women are vulnerable in society, both in the domestic sphere as well as in the or in the professional sphere as well. So they also discuss about different ways by which women's situation can be improved, different kinds of challenges that women face, how can it be addressed. So there's an overlap between these two topics, and we'll take them together. So this topic and the women part of mechanisms for vulnerable sections, there we are going to discuss. These things we'll take it up together. Now moving to the next topic: population and associated issues. So India has a huge population. India is the second most populous country, and in future, India will be overtaking China. In fact, for the larger part of 21st century, India will be the most populous country. This is what different estimates point out. These are different projections. These are all based on different projections. Now the thing is, if we have a huge population, there can be different kinds of challenges. Also, it is important to understand how population changes over a period of time. Right? At this point of time, yes, we are the second most populous country, and in future, yes, we will be the most populous country. But it's not that our population growth rates have been always increasing. In fact, our population growth rates have been gradually stabilizing. In 1980s, whatever was the population rate, in 1990s, the population growth rate was less. In 2000s, the population growth rate was even less. Why is this the case? In fact, if you look at the recent data, national family health survey data, the fertility rates have gone down. Many states in India, they have their fertility rates below the replacement levels. So in future, the challenges that we have been facing because of maybe population explosion and other things, right? Not at this point of time, we may not have population explosion, but in 1970s and 80s, those years were there. Those kind of years might not be there at this point of time. So how did this transition happen? How effective we have been in bringing about these transitions? In future, what kind of challenges we might face? So all those things we are going to see here. What has been the underlying formula behind our population policies? All those things we are going to take up. Also, if we are not able to stabilize our population, what can be some of the issues? So this is what we are going to take up. The next topic will be poverty. Now, poverty is something which can mean different things, right? How do we define something like poverty? Poverty can be a felt experience, but if we have to tackle poverty, we need to have some objective criteria to understand, measure poverty. So what is that? How has India tried to measure poverty at different points of time? How do other countries measure poverty? So understanding poverty becomes very important. We know that we should not have people under poverty. We need to ensure that people should become more affluent. But to do this, first of all, we should all have a common understanding of what constitutes poverty, right? So we try to do that. We try to understand the different dimensions of poverty. We try to understand what causes poverty. We try to understand what can be done to address poverty. And also we will evaluate what has been our performance till now, in which direction we have been heading, and in which direction we are most likely to head. The next topic: urbanization. As we are discussing this, right, many of you will be in urban areas. So as we are discussing this, many of you might be wondering about the problems, challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis in urban areas. Some of these things maybe you would not have faced if you had been in the rural area. Now, what are these problems? What are these challenges in urban areas? We need to have some understanding of that. But what is even more fundamental is understanding what is urban. How do you define what is urban? What is the difference between an urban area and a rural area? What is the phenomenon of urbanization? Right, does it imply people moving to the cities, or does it imply cities becoming larger? How has this shaped up in the Indian context? In fact, how does India fare in terms of urbanization? Do we have a larger population or do we have a smaller population? And what is the linkage between urbanization and development? If we want the economy to do well, if we want the society to do well, should we have more urbanization or less urbanization? These kind of questions we might have had. We try to answer these questions. And also, most of the urban areas in India, they face massive issues. Some places there's massive amount of traffic congestion. It's not easy to move from one place to another. Bangalore being a classic example of that. Some places in India, they have huge problems because of air pollution or different other forms of pollution. Like maybe some of you are from Delhi, you can relate to this. So different urban areas in India, they face all these challenges. And in case in future we are going to have more urban areas, the problems might also increase. What do we need to do about it? We also look at some of the solutions by which we can mitigate for some of these possible problems that might emerge in the future. So organization, problems and remedies, that is what we are going to talk about. The next topic, globalization. Effects of globalization on Indian society. This term globalization, again, is something which is very frequently used. Right, every now and then. So if you look at the business section of newspapers or the economy section of newspapers, you come across this term. If you are studying international relations, right, they also come across this term. And many times, whenever there is any discussion about jobs or skill development, all these things, they also come across this term globalization. And in fact, if you talk about culture, there also the term globalization comes up. So the point that I want to make here is globalization has massive impact on many dimensions. So how is this happening? Or how has globalization impacted so many dimensions? In fact, the most fundamental thing, what is globalization and how does it shape? And how does it shape the different sectors? So we try to look at that. We'll understand what is globalization. We'll try to find out what are the features of globalization, how the base of globalization has changed over the period of time. Also, how globalization has impacted our culture, how it has impacted our society, the different components of society, how does it impact the economy. And in recent times, there have been different questions raised about the process of globalization. In fact, if you look at some international events or processes in recent times, right, it seems as if globalization is being questioned, or there are different kinds of attempts to stop the process of globalization, or there is a backlash towards globalization. For example, Brexit, or different kinds of trade wars between US, China, and other countries. They all kind of give an idea or the hint that maybe the way globalization used to happen, great interaction between countries, it might not happen in future, maybe, or it might get impacted. So we'll understand those processes as well. The next topic, the last one, communalism, regionalism, secularism, all these things are together. In the syllabus, we take it up one by one. Communalism, secularism, every now and then we hear this term. Every day or every second day, the news debate is related to something related to communalism or secularism. But what is more important is having a deeper understanding of these things. So we try to understand what is the meaning of the term communalism, how it has evolved over a period of time, how communalism might have become stronger over a period of time, or it might have become weaker over a period of time. We try to look at that. What are the factors causing communalism and what can be some of the solutions? Similarly, the term secularism is quite frequently used. So what is secularism? Is the Indian version of secularism the only version of secularism, or there are some other variants as well? How does secularism stand in the present context? What are some of the threats to secularism? So all these things we are going to discuss. And another topic, regionalism. So again, this term regionalism you might have definitely heard of. Many times you might have used it also. Why are some people exhibiting this regional behavior? Why can't they just accept whatever is being imposed on them or whatever is being asked from them? So the term regionalism is again a very common word, but it can mean different things. In the international arena, it means something. In the domestic arena, it means something. And again, within the domestic context, it can have multiple meanings. Sometimes regionalism can mean demand for creation of a separate state. Sometimes regionalism can mean demand for greater administrative powers. Not necessarily you need to create a separate state. Sometimes regionalism can mean opposing a kind of culture that is being imposed on you, an alien culture that is being imposed on you. Sometimes regionalism can also imply demand for separating out of the Indian Union. Those things also happen. So regionalism can mean different things in different contexts. There have been different kinds of regional movements in India. The results have been different. So we'll try to understand the factors leading to emergence of regionalism, what can be done to address these kind of regional sentiments. And also, we look at both the sides. There can be some positive aspects to regionalism, there can be negative aspects to regionalism, and we'll try to evaluate that. So these are the topics in General Studies Paper 1 that we are going to take up under the broader topic of social issues. Now you might have a question, how important is this part of the syllabus? What are some of the things that we possibly need to take into consideration when we are studying social issues? The first thing, see, most of the topics that you saw right now, they all seem very relatable, right? Population, poverty, regionalism, secularism, communalism, globalization, urbanization. You have at some point of time heard of it. And I mean, since we are all discussing social issues and we are all part of society, many of the things in society are already aware of. So these topics are very relatable, which means that it will be easy for you to understand these topics. But there's a caveat here. Since these topics are very relatable, many times what happens, people, some of the candidates, right, they will ignore it, right? Why do we need to study? We already know about it. We are anyway part of the society, right? We're all social animals. But the thing is, many times our idea about these topics is based on commonsensical notions. And commonsensical notions might not necessarily be correct. Right? So the point here is, you should try to understand this topic. You should focus on data, empirical evidence. Your understanding of the topic should not be based on common sense. Things that you just hear around. There's enough academic literature on society. And many times what happens is what you think and what the reality is, there's a massive variation. Many things might be counterintuitive. Right? So don't think that all these things are very easy. All these things are as per what we have heard. Many times you find there's massive variation. So don't ignore this part of the syllabus. Don't keep this part of the syllabus for the later or the last stage, just before the main study, and I will be able to get marks. It might not help you. Second thing is, you might have some knowledge about some of these topics, right? Because you'll be reading or you'll be coming across these things. But what happens is, many times we might have this one perspective. We need to have multiple perspectives. As civil services aspirant and as future civil servants, we need to have a holistic understanding of topics. Anything, there can be multiple perspectives. Look at all these perspectives. Then only you can decide, right? Then only you can decide, take different decisions. Then only your answers will also reflect your understanding, right? So, and if most of the topics will do that, right? For example, if I'm talking about population, we look at multiple areas. There are some researchers who say population growth is a good thing. There are some researchers who say population growth is a bad thing. We look at both these things. When we study regionalism, right? Again, there are some good elements of regionalism, but at the same time, there are negative elements of regionalism. We have to look at both these things, both sides. So, ensure that you are not missing out on multiple perspectives. The third thing that I want to point out here, social issues, part of GS1. One question typically people have is, how many questions we are going to get? And is it relevant for prelims? When it comes to prelims, not much significant, because I mean, most of these things that we're discussing, they're mostly from examination. Sometimes we might discuss some policies, some schemes. Those schemes might be relevant from the prelims perspective, right? Let's say we're discussing poverty, that are relevant for poverty alleviation, there might be different policies. So these things can be asked in general studies prelims paper, but not much important from prelims perspective. But when it comes to mains exam, this part is extremely important. Two reasons why it is important. If you look at the GS1 paper, typically you will have around 5 to 7 questions from this part. So if you're having 220 questions, a huge part, right? Somewhere between 25% to almost 30% will be from this part of the syllabus. So 5 to 7 questions out of 20. So this is general studies paper 1. Second area where it is important is essay. Usually in the essay paper, you have one topic which is related to social issues. So that also is another area. And again, in interview also many times you get questions related to society, right? Because again, the interviewers will try to find out what kind of meanings you have or how much you understand things around you. Right? So these are all ways by which people can start conversation, and in interviews also you might ask these kind of things. So weightage in exam is huge. Commonsensical understanding might not give you any advantage. Also, many times it might be wrong. Apart from that, if you are having a thorough understanding of the topic, how can you have a thorough understanding of the topic? Only when you look at multiple perspectives. Only when you have a thorough understanding of the topic, your answers will fetch you the right marks. So this is broadly about the subject. Now the question is, how do we prepare this, right? What should be your approach? There are two things here. One part is the reading part, or the broader studying part. The second part is the writing. So how do we read? Or how do we read these components? The one thing is the lectures that we have, right? Be very, very attentive in the lectures, all the recordings that are here. Again, most of these things are on the slides. You'll be having the slides. You can make your own notes. Most of the things that I'm going to talk about are there on the slides. But if you think that there's something new, you can always make notes. But the thing is, first try to reach out with the tablet recordings. And the focus should be on understanding, right? If there is some information, some data point, you can ignore maybe. But understanding of the topic is very important, right? So try to focus on that. Understand the different processes that are happening. Understand the dynamics between different kinds of concepts, right? Focus on that. Second thing that we have to do is, for each of the topic, right? What we have done is we will have multiple readings. We have curated all these things. Indian society is such that you not get everything in one place. We have attempted to do that as well, but it is always good if you look at multiple sources, right? The best sources. So we have curated all those things, and those readings are there. So go through that. Third thing, you can refer to the Bible's notes, that compilation that we have, the books that you provide for. And fourth thing that you have to do as part of reading is keep a track of how all these things are happening, how relations are happening, how operations are happening. And what do I mean by this? Keep a track. Whenever you're reading newspaper, whenever you're reading magazines, look for these points or look for concepts related to these things, right? And in your notes, right, you can add this. If let's say government comes up with some policy to reduce poverty, note it down. If you come across a data point that poverty in India has actually gone up, include that. And try to find out why poverty has gone up. I mean, I'm just giving an example. Poverty most likely will not be going up unless there is something like that. Or if you find out some instance or some policy in a particular state in India which is trying to tackle poverty, and new approach, maybe note it down somewhere. If there is some communal incident somewhere, and the government did a good job in addressing that communal incident, maybe note it down somewhere. The point is, with your preparation should be supplemented by your current affairs readings, or newspaper readings, etc. So do that. So these are things that you have to keep in mind while reading. Focus on the tablet recordings. Second thing is all the curated readings that are there, right? You should go through it with the Bibles book. And fourth thing is newspaper magazines. Now, one point here, in social issues, many of the things that we study, they're not, I mean, you have to read newspapers and other things, but as compared to other parts of the syllabus, for example, social justice or economy or politics, social issues is more static in nature. In the sense that we're discussing about different processes. And when we discuss about processes, we discuss about broader trends which have been going on for centuries and decades, right? So more importance is given in this part of the static portion rather than the dynamic portion, but that does not mean that if something is there in the news related to some of these topics, we'll ignore. Now, reading will ensure that 60% of the preparation is done. Then what about the remaining 40%? It will be through writing. This part of the syllabus requires a lot of writing. Most of the things that we're going to discuss, they will be conceptual, they will be analytical. Information-based things will be less. So when you have questions, the questions are also like that. It will be more analytical, conceptual. What are the different trends? Why we are not able to address poverty? What is causing poverty? What is the linkage between poverty and population? What is the situation of middle class women in urban areas? How is globalization impacting elderly people? These are all analytical things. These are all information-based things. So for analytical things, if you have to write good answers in your exam, you have to be prepared beforehand. If you are having information-based questions, even without preparation, you can go and write answers. But analysis-based answers, all these requires skills, and you cannot acquire the skills overnight. It's not that exams get more and overnight you become a skilled person when it comes to analytical writing. So you have to practice answer writing. So this is something which is very, very important. 40% of the preparation will be through this. How do you do it? For each topic that we're going to cover, we have some questions at the end. We have questions from previous years in some cases, some questions that we have graded, we'll share very quickly. So answer those questions for sure. Apart from that, try to frame your own questions. Try to join different test series, right? When you're joining these test series, you again come across question banks, so to say, answer those things. So write as many answers as possible. That way, your preparation will be top notch. And also keep in mind that you write answers within the fixed time frame. When you're initially starting to answer the questions, it will take time. Maybe initially you might take 30 minutes, 40 minutes to answer one question. But ensure that by the time you are prepared for the main exam, you should be able to answer these questions within 6 to 7 minutes. That should be your aim. So this is the social issues syllabus, and I hope now you have a greater clarity about how to approach this part of the paper. And as we study each of these individual topics, you'll have a better idea. Thank you. Hello, friends. Welcome to the first session on social issues. So, as you can see, the topic is Salient Features of Indian Society, Diversity of India. So, what are we going to discuss? discuss as part of this topic. And how are we going to discuss this, right? What is the roadmap? So what we do is first we try to understand what is society. The term society is something which we use every now and then, but we understand the term. We know what are the different dimensions of it. What are the different kinds of processes involved. So what we do is first we will look at the concept of society. What is the meaning of this term? What is the definition of this? Now once we understand what constitutes society, then we will go one step further. We try to understand Indian society. What are some specific features of Indian society? Society is world over. They're not the same. They're very similarly, Indian society is also having some unique characteristics. And unique does not necessarily mean good. It might mean good, it might mean also some dimensions might not be good as well. Right? What we do is we just look at the features. We will not do any value judgments over there. So we'll see how Indian society has so much amount of diversity. What are the axes along which you have diversity? Despite this diversity, how come Indian society has been to a large extent? We look at the caste system in India. We look at what kind of classes exist in India. We have different social classes. Then we try to understand the extent of religious diversity that is there in the Indian context. So all these things we're going to explore one by one. So the second part will be features, and we'll spend a decent amount of time exploring different features. The third part, we'll try to understand how societies change. What factors lead to changes within society. So first we'll see some factors which lead to changes in society. Then we try to look at things that have happened in the Indian context. What are some of those major things which has happened in the last maybe 60, 70 years, which might have implications on society. So this is how the roadmap looks like. Society, then features of Indian society, then social change. What are some factors which bring in social change? So let's get started. The first part, what is society? Now, I would want you to maybe pause this video, maybe for 1 minute, and try to reflect. What is society? What do you understand by society? The term society used quite frequently. In fact, almost every second day you will be using the term society. What do you understand by this? When you use the term society, what do you mean by that? Give it a thought. Pause it, and pause the video, and maybe for 30 seconds, 1 minute, think about it. What all are those components of society? Yeah. So I hope you spent 1 minute thinking about the different aspects of society, the different needs of society. So what is society? We'll try to look at the definition, but before that, just maybe give a thought to it. Is society a group of individuals? If let's say 5, 6 people come together. Is that what society is? Those physical beings out there? Or is there something more to that? If few individuals come together, they might form a society. But is it just those physical beings, or is it something else? See, when some people come together, yes, they form a society. I mean, that's the most basic unit of society, maybe. But society is not just individuals. Society is more than that. Society means, yes, those individuals, but also the kind of relations that exist between them, the kind of interactions that exist between them, the kind of transactions that exist between them, the kind of interconnections that exist. All these constitute society, all these are integral part of society. In fact, these beings, physical beings, these human beings, they might not exist. They might die. We're all mortals. But because they came together, there was some interaction which happened. Something new might have emerged. There was something which emerged. This thing will continue to survive. I'll give you an example. See, at some point of time, the kind of languages that we have right now, they didn't exist. Right now, I'm talking with you, interacting with you. In fact, I can't see you. You can see me on the video, but we're not interacting live. But we are able to understand each other. I'm speaking a particular language. I'm speaking English. We're also able to understand English. At some point of time, English language would not have existed. Few individuals would have come together. They would have tried to communicate with one another. They might have made different kinds of science gestures. With the help of that, they would have communicated. Over a period of time, from science gestures, people would have developed gradually, right? They would have development of language. One of those languages would have been English. In fact, the way we use English right now, the same English would not have been used in the past. The language is also evolved. The people who would have introduced the language, who would have developed the language, no longer exist. But we are able to communicate using the language. Right? So those physical beings, they came to the form of society, but when they interacted, they created something new. They don't exist, but whatever they have created exists. It's something new emerged out of those interactions. Similarly, different kinds of values, norms that we have. We all will be having some values. We will gather different kinds of norms. Okay, not everyone answers equally to all norms. Some of us might be following all the different kinds of societal norms. Some of us might not be following it completely. But to some extent, we follow. All these social norms, values have not been created overnight. You have not created it most likely. Someone else, multiple decades, centuries back, maybe would have created it. Some norms are relatively new, some norms are centuries old. And people continue to abide by them. Those who would have created those norms might not exist. In fact, the norms might not have been created in one go. So what I'm trying to say here is, society is not just a group of people. It is much more than that. It is a relationship that exists between people. It is the relationship which creates multiple things. Different things emerge out of these relations. Different things emerge out of these interactions. Right? So all these things are part of society. This is one definition. Another definition that I more or less same. Society is a web of social relationships. In society, we are in relationships with different people, different other members of society, different kinds of relationships. Family is one social institution. Within the institution of family, particular kind of relationship is there. If you look at economy, right? Again, you will find different kinds of relations over there. When you are in workplace, you have different relationships with your subordinates, with your superiors. In the markets, again, different kind of relationship between producers and the buyers. All of us are linked with one another through different kinds of relationships. Society is nothing but this web of social relationships. Every individual has multiple relationships. Society is that. Another way to think of it, society refers not to a group of people, but to the complex pattern of norms of interaction that arise among them. Something that I've already talked about. Society is not just few people. It is much more than that. Among these people, you have different kinds of interactions. And how these interactions are happening, they're based on different kinds of norms, which again the people have come up with. These people might not exist tomorrow. They're all models. But these norms of interaction might continue to remain. The next generation might follow it. But they might also tweak it. It's not that whatever norms have been created, they remain like that. They are also continuously evolving. They also continuously changing. So people, along with that, the relations, the interactions, the norms, all these things that have been created. All these constitute society. Right? So when you think of society, think about this. Don't think that only few people coming together leads to formation of society. What we'll do now is we'll try to understand some of the features of society, right? Some of the components of society, some of the characteristics of society. That will give us a better understanding. Now let's look at some of these features, characteristics. First thing, society is abstract. What is abstract? Something that is not tangible. You cannot go feel, see the society, right? You cannot touch and see society. You can see the manifestations of society. If I ask you, show me society, will you be able to do that? Most likely not. Society is something which is abstract. It's not something which is tangible. You cannot touch society somewhere. You cannot locate society somewhere. But the manifestations of society you can feel. I'll give you an example. In different places, we behave differently. And again, when I use the term we, I'm talking about most of the people. Some people might be completely different, they might not be socialized. But most people will behave in different ways in different places. For example, if you're entering into a place of worship, most likely that place of worship will have its own norms and regulations, and you'll adhere to that. Most likely will not take your footwear inside. Again, you will not most likely will not be speaking loudly inside the place of worship. These are all accepted societal norms over there. So people are adhering to that. But why are the people asking that? Because again, these norms they have somehow assimilated. You can't see society here, but you can see that people are following certain kinds of societal norms. So the manifestation of society is this: people are adhering to all people inside the race of worship are adhering to these norms. The manifestation of society, manifestation of these norms. But if I ask you where is society, you will not be able to figure that out. So society is something which is abstract in nature. You can see the manifestations, you cannot directly go and see society. The next aspect, society involves likeness, similarities. In society, we find similarities. For example, some people, a group of people, they might be linked with blood ties, or they might be linked with because of marital ties. They're all relatives. Right? Those who are linked with blood ties, they're relatives. If people are linked because of marriage, they're also relatives. So they will try to find out that, or they will try to think of the similarities that exist among them. They will try to associate themselves. They will say, okay, we are part of the same kin group. We are part of the same extended family. Right? So this is an example of likeness. People are trying to find out some similarities between them. This is just one example. Sometimes people might follow a particular kind of religious value. And they think that they're part of the same religion. People might consider themselves to be part of the same caste. So these are all different kinds of similarities that exist. Right? People who are from the same caste, they think they have something in common. People who are part of the same religion, they think they have something in common. At a higher level, nationality, people might feel that they're part of some imaginary construct. We are all part of the same nation. That is why we are same. Maybe we have something in common. Maybe we all speak the same language, or maybe we have same history, or maybe we are all from the same religion. All these things might be binding together, and this can be the basis of formation of different national identities. So in society, you will find likeness. There will be people who will be trying to find out what is similar between some others. Right? The different kinds of groups might form on the basis of this likeness. But at the same time, in society, you will find differences. You will find variations. You will find people among whom there will be different kinds of biological differences. There are some people who will have a particular skin color, and others people who have another skin color. There will be biological differences. Male, females, third gender, right? Biological differences. But at the same time, you have differences maybe in terms of wealth. Every society will find some people who are affluent, some people who are maybe not as affluent, some people who are extremely poor. These differences, these relations also exist, and it is universal. Go to advanced economies, there also will find these kind of inequality. Go to poorer countries, there also will find some people who are rich among those who are poor. So in society, differences also exist. Some differences are biological, and some other kind of differences might exist. Differences in wealth is not necessarily biological. So both similarities and differences, likeness and differences, are integral part of society, and they are universal. For the next point, sometimes these differences are something which is natural in nature. Everybody will find differences, but sometimes the differences might be graded. Those who have wealth might be considered superior. Those who do not have enough wealth, they might be considered inferior. On the basis of skin color, some people might be considered superior, and some people might be considered inferior. That happens. Different kinds of racial discrimination exists even now in some of the advanced societies as well. Right? So societies are also divided into different layers, different strata. Strata means layer. So stratification takes place. People are graded. Different groups are given different positions in society. Some are considered superior, some are considered inferior. And again, in between multiple layers can be there. So there are stratification based on status, prestige. There are stratification based on classes. Class typically refers to someone's wealth, income situation. Right? So you might have an upper class, you might have a lower class, somewhere you have a middle class. And again, within these classes, again, multiple compartments can be there. Lower middle class, upper middle class, etc. So stratification on the basis of wealth does take place. Stratification on the basis of status is also there. Caste system is an example of this. Some people are considered superior in the caste hierarchy. Some people are considered inferior in the caste hierarchy. Right? So this is nothing but status. People who are considered to be superior in the caste hierarchy may not be wealthier. For example, typically in India, most of the cases, Brahmins are considered to be at the top of the caste hierarchy. Are they the wealthiest? No. There can be others who are wealthiest. But in terms of prestige or status that the society awards, maybe they are at the top. And I'm not saying this is good. I'm saying that this is what happens in many places in the country. So differences exist, and many times differences lead to stratification. Society again grades people. There is some form of gradation, and this gradation can be in terms of status, it can be in terms of classes. Sometimes it is also in terms of power. Some people are extremely powerful. Politicians, and among politicians also there are some politicians who might be extremely powerful. Maybe the prime minister in some countries might be president. Then you might have the legislators, the members of the judiciary, bureaucrats. On the other hand, there will be people who are powerless, ghosting. They're not part of any influential forum. They don't have any contacts. So gradation can also take place on the basis of power. So these are all things which happen in all societies. These are all universal features. Within society, you will also find interdependence. Between people, you will find interdependence depending on one another. One of the most common examples is family. In family, there's dependence. I'll give you an example. Within family, not all members will be earning money. Right? Maybe those who are adults, they are the ones who make money. What about the younger ones? The younger ones, they're supposed to be in school, or they're not supposed to work, right? Child labor, all these things are not, they're all prohibited. And again, if child labor happens, then all these things can have different kinds of negative impacts on the child. So the young ones are dependent on the adults for different requirements. There is interdependence. And not just the young ones, the elderly also, they're also dependent on those who are the working members. Those who are, let's say, 70 or 80 years old, they might not be able to work outside. Right? They might not have the physical strength to do all those things. So within family, you find different kinds of interdependence. If you look at the larger economy, also there's interdependence. I'll give you an example. In modern economy, especially urban areas, just see what kind of activities people are engaged in. People are all specialized. There might be someone who is an expert in medical science, right? He's a doctor, maybe. So what that person is doing, that person is treating patients. He's an expert. He has done his MBBS, he has done his MD, he knows his stuff, he or she. But this person is also dependent on others. For example, he might not have enough time to prepare his own food, so he or she might have hired a cook. The person might be having a driver who drives him or her from his or her home to the clinic. In day-to-day transactions, people are dependent on others. This person is obviously not growing the food crops that he's consuming. He's going to a retail outlet, he's purchasing all these things. And the retail outlet, again, they also themselves have not produced all these things. They will be dependent on some wholesaler, the wholesaler will be procuring it from the farmers is producing the crops. So there is interdependence among everyone in the economy. So if you look at society, there are different elements to it, different types of people, especially in modern industrialized economy, urban economies. You find people doing different kinds of jobs, different kinds of activities. Each individual is specialized in his or her domain. And for other kinds of goods and services which are required, they're dependent on others. So there's interdependence. Also, you have cooperation between people. Interdependence, cooperation, they are linked with one another. People cooperate with one another. Sometimes there can be conflict. In society, conflicts also integral part. There are some people who will have a particular viewpoint, other people might have a counterpoint. Conflict and cooperation both are important. Cooperation ensures that the society remains intact. Different kinds of goals within society can be achieved. For example, in India, we face different kinds of challenges, different kinds of problems. You need cooperation between different stakeholders to achieve that. You have to address poverty, malnutrition, hunger. Right? For that, I think cooperation is required between different stakeholders. But within society, again, you have conflicts. Conflicts need not necessarily be bad. Sometimes there might be different viewpoints can lead to conflict. If you do not have conflicts, different viewpoints cannot come up. Sometimes a new point which has come up might actually be able to solve the existing problem. Conflicts, new ideas, all these things can also be innovation. So conflicts are also integral part of society. But again, to what level or what is the extent of conflicts, these things are also equally important, right? It should not be the case that conflicts will lead to a situation where the society becomes segregated. That might not be the best thing for society. The last part, society is a process. What do I mean by this? Society is an ongoing process. What I mean to say here is, societies are not static. Societies keep on changing, keep on evolving. The kind of society that we see right now, maybe 20 years down the line, not even 20 years, 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, it will have changed. Societies keep on changing. The interactions, keep in mind that society is about interaction. It's about relationship between people. When people are interacting with one another, they're creating new things. And the relationship between people, again, it works. So the kind of society that we saw maybe 20 years back, the kind of society that we have right now is different. Some of you might be old enough to remember all these things, like how 20 years back things were and how things are right now. Or you might ask your parents, your grandparents, how was the society back then and how it is right now. In fact, some of these things might be visible in front of you. Some of the social norms, right, they have changed. At some point of time, same-sex couples, right, there was some form of discrimination against them. But over the period of time, that is changing. Our laws have also changed. Right? Look at media. Right now, different movies, TV series, they will try to have greater representation from different genders. At some point, that was not the case. So some societal norms have changed. I mean, these are things which are visible. Many other things which you might not notice, and in the next few sessions you will also realize. So the point is, society is an ongoing process. It's continuously changing. As we're discussing these things, as we're talking, some changes are happening somewhere. Whether the child marriage is not now. At some point in time, it might have been in some cases, right, people have accepted, or people have promoted all these things. Some people don't do that. And if you compare it, if you look at the larger picture, maybe 100 years, 200 years, many societal norms back then, some of those things, they're not acceptable, they're considered criminal offense now. So the point is, societies change. Society is not an end product, it is an ongoing process. So these are all different features, characteristics of society. Now, what we will do is, we'll try to understand what is the linkage between individual and society. Right? We're all individuals. How individual and society are linked with one another? Is there any linkage? As I was saying, society is a web of relationship. Society involves different interactions. Society implies that when individuals are coming together, something new is created. Values, norms, all these things are created. But how does an individual get impacted by these values and norms? The birth of an individual is a biological process, right? But how is society influencing this individual? See, many of the decisions that we take, by the way, are shaped by society. In fact, why are you preparing for civil service examination? If you think about it, maybe it has got something to do with society. Right? Why have you been influenced to take this? The kind of food that you consume. Again, you might have been influenced by society. For example, different kinds of religious groups or different kinds of religion, they will be against a particular kind of food, or they will be in favor of a particular kind of food. And you might also be following that. The kind of attire that you wear. So all these things might be social influence. I'm not saying always, but might be. But how do you get influenced by all these things? When a child is born, that child is an empty state. The child does not know what are the different values in society, what are the norms of the society. The child does not even know language when he or she is born. But over a period of time, the child gets, or the different kinds of values and norms that are out there, it is transmitted to the child. This process is called socialization. How does it happen? The child is born within a family. So the family is the institution for primary socialization. The child is socialized. The existing norms and values of society is gradually transmitted to the child. The first few years, that is the case. Afterwards, when the child is going to the school, maybe when the child is 4 years old, 5 or 6 years old, the child now has his own network, goes to the school. So different values, norms which are predominant, relevant to society, they get transmitted to the child through the institution of education. Also, the child makes different friends and years. Right? From that, also he or she learns things. So again, different societal values you inculcate. And this is not something which happens, or which is a process which happens only when you are a child. This is a lifelong process. At different points of your life, you will be exposed to different kinds of values. Some values you will take up, some values you might reject as well. So the point is, all these values norms exist somewhere. You gradually get exposed to these values norms. Different institutions within the society, the institution of family, the institution of education, all of them have a role to play in socializing. But it's not that an individual is completely socialized. Whatever existing values norms are that he or she believes in all those things, follows all these things. Individual also questions some of these things. In fact, in the education system, you're also taught that you should be questioning things. Scientific outlook is given to you. You're also, there's an attempt to make you more rational. Some of these norms you might question. Some of these norms you accept, some of the norms you might not accept. But let's look at the formal definition of socialization. Socialization is a process where an individual learns to adjust to a group and behave in a manner approved by the group or society. Right? So some values norms are out there. Through the process of socialization, you're learning these values, and accordingly you are behaving with others. Right? For example, one of the values out there is you should be respecting the elders. So when you interact with the elders, you behave in this manner, you respect the elders. You should be affectionate with the younger ones. Right? So that is how you behave. You should love your neighbors. Right? So you are interacting with your neighbors in a peaceful manner. You are not fighting with them. So these are all different kinds of values out there, and you are getting socialized with that. Another way of thinking about it, socialization is the whole process of learning throughout the life course, and it is a central influence on the behavior, beliefs, actions of adults as well as children. Right? So you learn all these values, you keep on learning throughout your life, not just when you're a child, and all these things shapes your behavior, belief, actions. Right? How you behave with others, what kind of beliefs you have, what kind of action, right? How you act. All these things are shaped by these values, and these values are out there. Through the process of socialization, you integrate it. But the question is everyone equally socialized? If everyone is equally socialized, what will happen? The norms existed. Everyone is equally socialized. That means everyone will be the same. Everyone is adding the norms equally. So there's not much difference between individuals, at least when it comes to their behavior, beliefs, and thoughts. Is it true? It might not be true. Socialization leads to people inculcating values, but people do not inculcate values to the same extent. Some people might follow the social norms religiously, with greater intensity, maybe religiously, but not everyone. There are a lot of people who question these values. They will say, okay, no, these norms don't seem to be in sync with the present context. They don't seem scientific, maybe they don't seem rational, maybe are not for it. They might be more individualistic. So this particular image that you see, or the characters that you see, will give you an idea that not everyone is equally socialized. Not everyone is equally influenced by societal norms and values. Some people, for example, this is a poster of the movie 3 Idiots, and it basically shows different characters. One character, for example, the character played by Madhavan, he had his own goals, aspirations, but he wants to adapt to the norms of the society. Similarly, Sharma Joshi also plays a character who wants to adapt to the norms of society. Even if Madhavan's passion is wildlife photography, he just wants to become an engineer and take up the job. Because that's what his parents want, and why they want this, because this is what society thinks is important. You should not really care about your passion and other things. On the other hand, you have another character who is questioning everything. Whatever existing norms, values are there, he questions that. So this person might not be completely socialized. In fact, he's questioning all these norms. While another character might be accepting all the different kinds of norms. And again, in the movie, they're different. But I'm talking about that phase when they're in the college, in the initial years of the college. So the point here is not everyone is equally influenced by the societal values and norms, and different people accept the norms to different levels. So, and that's also the reason how there are different kinds of variations within society. So this is society and some of the features characteristics of society. Now what we'll do is we'll try to understand the features of Indian society. Right? You now have an idea what society looks like, but what are some specific features of Indian society? So what we'll do is we'll look at some of these dimensions one by one. First, we'll try to understand caste system. In India, there is something called as caste system, and I already mentioned societies are stratified on the basis of status. Caste system is this status-based stratification. Some people are given higher status, they're called higher prestige. Some are given lower status, lower prestige. So what is this? On what basis this stratification is happening? On what basis higher status, lower status is given? What are the different perspectives related to caste system? Different sociologists, anthropologists have studied caste system and what has been their finding. One of the most unfortunate parts of caste system is some castes, some people, they're considered to be untouchables. Different kinds of civil and religious disabilities are imposed on them. So what is untouchability? What are the different forms of untouchability? Why does it exist? right? So all these things we are going to discuss in the class system. The next feature, India is home to different tribes, tribal communities. In fact, somewhere around 8% of the population are tribes. So how do you identify who are the tribes? What are the features of the tribes? In fact, identification of tribes is also not easy. It's difficult. What makes it difficult? Right? We try to understand all these things. And we also see different examples of how this classification happens. What are the different kinds of tribes that we have in India? The next is we try to understand the different kinds of classes that exist in India. Right? One thing that I was mentioning sometime back is stratification can also happen on the basis of class, on the basis of one's income, wealth. So in case of India, what are the different kinds of classes? Here, what we do is we try to look at the agrarian society, the rural society, how what kind of classes exist over there, and how these classes are changing. Most rural areas, people engage in agriculture. They have a relationship with the land over there, a specific kind of relation. Most of them will be dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. But this dependence will vary. Accordingly, you have different classes. In urban area, you have upper classes, lower classes, but one class, middle class is often ignored. Many of us would have used the term middle class. We are the middle class. Now, what is middle class? How do you find out whether the middle class starts, where the middle class ends? What are some of the unique features of middle class? What are the unique features of middle class in India? So, the different social classes we will try to analyze here. Next thing, religion. In India, we have different religions. People follow different kinds of faith. And some people might not even subscribe to any of those faith. So, we try to understand the religious diversity that exists in the Indian context. And we look at how religion and some of the social economic parameters, how they link with one another. Right? Which religion, people from which religion, how do they perform, how do they fare in terms of different social economic indicators. Another dimension of society is family, households, family households. So, in India, what kind of families you have? Whether you have small families, large families, within the families, who generally takes the decision? What is the family structure? What are the functions of family? How are the family structure and functions are changing with time? What are some of the interesting findings when it comes to family in the context of India? We'll see that. Now, all these things gives you an idea that in India there are a lot of variations. There are somewhere around 4,000 castes in India. There are so many tribes in India. Massive variations among them. In India, if you have to understand the social classes, again, it becomes a daunting task. So much variation. Rural areas, urban areas, in urban areas also vary from place to place. How to find out how many people belong to the upper classes, middle classes, lower classes. So much amount of religious diversity. Families are also changing. So the point is, we have a diverse population, multiple access along which there is diversity. But what is interesting is, despite this diversity, we have unity. So despite the variations, what holds the Indian society together? What are those threads which holds India together, which ensures that India is united? So that is what we will try to understand. So these are things that we take up one by one from class system to diversity and unity. So this is how the structure looks like from onwards. So the next feature of society that we're going to discuss is family. Now, before we jump into the topic, I just want to give you a heads up what all we are going to understand. One is we'll look at the definition of family. Then we'll see what is the function of a family. What is the structure of a family? Within a family, there exists a specific kind of structure. Also, we'll try to figure out what are the different types of family. Now, as the society is changing, as the economy is changing, society is changing, the function as well as the structure of the family is also changing. So, what are the factors bringing these changes and which direction this changes there? And what are the results of this change? We'll try to look at that. Then we will see what are some of the unique features of Indian family, or where does the Indian family stand? What is the size of the Indian family is increasing? How is the structure of the Indian family changing? Some of the trends that we might have seen world over might not be the same in case of India. So all these things we're going to look at in the next few minutes. But before that, I want you to think about it. I want you to reflect. What is the meaning of family? All of us are part of families. Some of you might have also created your own family. Now, when this term family is used, what do you infer or what do you interpret? How do you interpret it? What you can do is you can just maybe pause this video for 60 seconds, give it a thought. In this way, your understanding of family might be better. And then you're thinking about it, right? Look at different dimensions, look at different functions, look at different possible structures that are existing within the institution of family. So let's look at the formal definition of family. Now, the definition that I'm going to talk about, this is something which is based on a sociologist study of around 250 different societies. Both he studied developed societies, emerging societies, or underdeveloped societies, tribal societies, and from that he is coming up with the definition of family. So a family is a social group characterized by common residence, economic cooperation, and reproduction. It includes adults of both sexes, at least two of whom maintain a socially approved sexual relationship, and they have one or more children. This is the formal definition of family based on the observation in somewhere around more than 250 societies. Let's look at each of these things one by one. According to it, a family has to stay together, and they are having some common residence. Usually that's the case. Families, they will have a house, it might be their own house, they might rent it out. So there's a common residence. There is some form of economic cooperation. Different family members, they perform different kind of activities. Some of the family members might be going outside and working, they're earning money. Some other members, they might be carrying out different kinds of functions within the family, different kinds of work within the family, different kinds of tasks, cooking, cleaning, etc. And then there are some members who do not necessarily be carrying out any activity. They're just using the resources which are earned by someone else, especially the children and elderly. So there's some form of economic cooperation within the institution of family. Reproduction also happens within the family. Certain kinds of biological activities are carried out. Reproduction is one of them. It's from one generation to another. Families include adults from both sexes. Male members are there as well as female members are there. Also, within family, there are at least two who maintain socially approved sexual relationships. Now, society might sanction or society might approve certain kinds of relationships, certain kinds of sexual relationships society might not approve. Typically, that is the case. But within the family, you have some members, if they have a sexual relationship, society is okay with it. Society is approving that. So basically, those who are married, the sexual relationship between them, society usually approves. And then, family also constitutes of children, right? It can be one child, it can be multiple children. So this is how the family looks like in most of societies. Now, as I was reading out this particular definition, you would have already had different questions, right? That this is how maybe families exist or have existed. But all these things are also vary. In fact, there will be many exceptions to this particular model that you see. For example, it says that it includes adults of both sexes. Maybe you have families in which this is not the case. Maybe you have families where the adult is only from one sex. That is also possible, right? So there are some families where maybe two men they have adopted a child, maybe, or two females who have adopted a child, maybe. So, or maybe there are families where only you have a single mom or a single dad. So that will not fall under this particular definition. Apart from that, there might be families where the children, the kind of relationship they have with the parents might be different. There are certain kinds of societies. For example, kibbutz. Here, the entire community is responsible for bringing up the children. So they will not fall under this particular kind of definition that we are talking about. Right? So there will be different kinds of variations to that. Common residence might not be applicable. There are, in fact, in certain circumstances, maybe the husband and wife are staying in some separate places because the job requires them to be staying in different places. So maybe common residence also is not equally applicable. Again, what is socially approved, it can also vary from society to society. Also, the norms related to sexual relations, sexual reproduction, all these things are changing over a period of time. So this is something which is kind of a traditional definition of family. But over a period of time, the idea of family is also gradually evolving, and there are many exceptions to this particular traditional definition that we see. Now, building on it, if we have to understand family better, what we can do is maybe we can look at some of the common features of family. some of the common characteristics of family. Right? Most likely these are the features which exist for families. So let's look at that. So the Geiger page, again, sociologists are trying to look at some underlying features of family. What they're saying is family is a universal institution. Anywhere you go world over, you find an institution of family. It is something which is universal in nature. Second thing they're identifying is within family, there are strong bonds. There is affinity. People are held together on emotional basis. Affection is there, affinity is there. So some emotional bond is there between family members. That's true. Families they support each other. Right? They different family members they together whenever there is a requirement. They provide some form of warmth, psychological support. Family has limited size. It's not infinite. It has a limited size. In fact, families are the smallest social unit. If you divide societies, or if you think of societies as composed of different units, society might be composed of large social units. For example, religion or nationality, they're all large social units, have huge membership. Caste, Gotra, a huge membership. People who speak same language, huge membership. Tribes, again large. All these social units can be further broken down, and family is that smallest social unit. So it has some limited size. Family has a very significant position. It is kind of a nuclei. Family has a very significant role to play. Family plays the most significant role when it comes to socialization. Few minutes back, not minutes, sometime back, when we began this session, we saw how society has an influence over individuals. How different kinds of norms, values of society, over a period of time, the individual acquires these norms and values. How it happens to the process of socialization. Which institution in family plays a very significant role in socialization? The institution of family. When a child is born, the child is blank slate. Doesn't know what any social values are, does not know what religion is part of, what caste is part of, does not know the language. It is the institution of family which inculcates all these things. Over a period of time, other institutions also play a role. Education institutions, other institutions. But the first and the primary institution is the institution of family in socialization. Within family, different kinds of roles are also assigned, different kinds of duties are also assigned. So different family members, they have different responsibility towards one another. Parents, they have certain obligations towards their children. The children, they also might have certain obligations towards their parents. As they grow old, parents grow old, the children should take care of the parents. So different kinds of responsibilities are there. The roles and duties are assigned. And lastly, within family, regulation also happens. Within family, different kinds of rules and regulations are also created. Apart from that, there might be certain kinds of norms outside the family inculcates these norms within. So this helps in regulating the society. For example, one of the values that might be inculcated is you should respect others. You should talk nicely with others. You should not show violent behavior towards others. So this way society also gets regulated. If members within the family, they get these ideas, these values, they also follow it outside. Social regulation happens. Another way to have social regulation is have a constitutional law. These are all external mechanisms. But here, from within, things are changing. Society is changing. So these are some unique features of the institution of family. What we do now is we try to understand the different types of family that we have. Right? So that way we can classify families. And if you understand the type of families, some of the features of Indian society you can link it with that. Maybe some of the features can be linked to the kind of families that we have. So let's first divide families into different types. Classify families. One way to do it is this. The family that you are born in, that is called the family of orientation. So the family that you are born to, that's a family of orientation. It consists of you, your parents, your siblings. Right? Father, mother, brother, sister, and you. That's a family of orientation. But you might start your own family. Some of you might have already started your own families. You might have got married to someone. You might have decided to have children with someone. Or you along with your spouse might have decided that you will be adopting someone. So the family that you have created as family of procreation includes you, your spouse, might be your wife, your husband, might be your son or daughter. And again, they might be your biological children or they might be adopted children. So these are also things important. A family can be formed through blood ties. Like you are born into a particular family, that's a blood tie. Family is also formed through ties through marital ties. You might marry someone, you're getting a family. Also, families formed through adoption, you might adopt someone. Again, a person adopts someone, they now form a family. So family of orientation, family of procreation. Every individual can have or can be part of two families. One family that he or she is born into, another family that he or she is creating. Another way to look at family, or another multiple ways, different multiple ways to look at families. One way to think of family is on the basis of residence. After the marriage, whether the groom goes to the bride's place, in some places in India, the groom might go to the bride's place. So that kind of family is a matrilocal family. But mostly what happens in the Indian context, it is the bride which goes to the groom's place. That is matrilocal family. If the groom goes to the bride's place, it is matrilocal family. If the bride goes to the groom's place, that is matrilocal family. If both of them decide that they will not go to each other's place and they will set up their own family, they will have their own place of residence, then it's called new local family. So mostly in India, we have matrilocal setups. In present times, again, we are seeing some shift towards new local setups. There are exceptions though. In some cases, the groom can go to the bride's place. These are all matrilocal setups. Among some tribal communities, Garos, Khasis, others might be private. Another way to think of family is how is authority distributed? Who holds power? Who takes decisions? Within the family, is it the male members, is it the female members? How is it? Most likely in India, it's the male members who hold authority, who have the power. So we have what is called as patriarchal families. Patriarchal family means it's the male members who have the authority. Sometimes there might be exceptions where female members might have power. Khasis, Garos, right, Nayars. But that is exception. Not mostly in case of India, you have patriarchal setups. Lineage. If you have to trace your lineage, if you look at the surnames, how is it? Does it follow the male members or does it follow the female members? Most likely it's the male members. Your surname will be your father's surname. If your father's surname will be your grandfather's surname. That is patrilineal descent. If it follows the female line, it will be matrilineal descent. So from this you can observe one thing that in case of India, mostly we have patrilocal setup, patriarchal and patrilineal setup. Some exceptions can be there, but again, very few community societies in India will have matrilocal or patriarchal setup. Another way to think of families is in terms of size. If at max 2 generations are staying together, it is a nuclear family. If more than 2 generations are staying together, it is a joint family. The size is another way by which you can classify families. Now I just want to, you might be wondering why we're looking at all these terms and all, right? I just want to give you an example. See if in case of India, what is the case? We have mostly patrilocal, patriarchal, patrilineal family. How does it impact the position of women? When a female is getting married, since it's a patrilocal setup, she's moving to a new household, right? Completely to a new family. And in that family, since the authority structure is such that it's the male members who will be the ones who have authority, so she will not have any authority. And it is also patrilineal. So she's now becoming part of some other family altogether. She's losing out on her surname as well. She's in a new place. She does not have any say. She will not be also inheriting the property. Property is again inherited to the male line. What will be the impact on women in this case? So female is extremely vulnerable. Right? She does not have enough power, enough say. And she's in a completely new place. So she will not have good support systems. Right? She will not have the informal network around her. Which again leads to multiple issues. Right? It can be domestic violence, it can be different kinds of abuse. So understanding the type of families can help you understand the different dynamics within society. That's why we do all these kind of classifications. So this is about the different types of family. The next thing we'll try to explore is the function that family carries out. What does family do? What are the different kinds of functions that happen within the family? So here you can see on the screen there are different thinkers who have been referred to. You don't need to remember the name of the thinkers, but what they are saying that is more important. What kind of functions happen within the family? Families perform certain biological functions. Within families, certain biological functions are carried out. One of the biological need is sexual need. Sexual gratification is important. So within family, or families provide an avenue for sexual gratification. Also, within family, reproduction is carried out. Socially approved reproduction. In fact, many societies, if sexual reproduction is not happening within family, society might not approve. So some form of legitimation happens through the institution of family. Again, I'm not talking about all societies. I'm saying in some societies that's not the case. But if reproduction is happening within the family, society definitely approves. Apart from that, family helps in different kinds of economic activities. It performs different economic functions. Different kinds of economic functions it performs: production, consumption, distribution. If you look at traditional societies, agrarian societies, where all people are engaged in agriculture. So the family performs agrarian activities, right? They all practice agriculture. Young ones are taught how to take up agriculture, how to learn different kinds of things that you have to in agriculture. So the elder members will be teaching the younger ones, and the younger ones will take up profession. So they are engaged in production. Families also consume different kinds of goods and services. Apart from that, within family, distribution also happens. Some members they're more capable; they are the ones who are earning money. Other members who are not as capable, they are the ones who are getting resources, or the resources which are earned by more capable members and distributed to the less capable members, maybe the younger ones, maybe the elderly. So all these economic functions also carried out. Just imagine if there is no institution of family. Younger ones will not get food, elderly will not get food if family does not exist, because they might be less capable. Right? They might not have enough energy. Also, family socializes children. Something we already talked about. Whatever values, norms are there in the larger society, all these things are transmitted to the children, and children become socialized. They get to know about the existing values, norms, which again will have a different role to play. Another way to look at family: emotional functions, affectional functions within family. Family members hold each other, hold each other back whenever there is a need. They help each other out. They provide psychological support. They provide warmth. Economic functions, as I already mentioned, production, consumption, distribution happens. Recreational functions. Families they come together, they celebrate different kinds of festivals. In fact, not just festivals. You might have seen how family comes together in different functions, like marriage or birthdays. They celebrate together. The grandfather, grandmother, they might be telling stories to the younger ones, to the grandchildren. All these are recreational functions. Protective functions. Family also protects its members from different kinds of threats. At this point of time, we have different other institutions which also protect us, police, judiciary, etc. But in the past, like, look at traditional societies, maybe at the point of time, nation states would not have developed, judiciary would not have developed. At the point of time, the families would have fended for themselves. They would have protected themselves from different kinds of external threats. Religious functions also carried out. Family imparts religious training to its members. When a child is born, child does not know which religion he belongs to or she belongs to, what are the different kinds of religious activities he has to carry out, what are the different kinds of beliefs, practices he has to follow. But the family does that. Religion gets transmitted from one generation to another to the institution of family. Also, family performs different education functions. In the present society, in urban societies, modern societies, the role of family in imparting education is less limited. But in traditional society, it was the family who was imparting education. Most people were engaged in agriculture. Where will they learn agriculture? Where will they learn farming activities? The elder members of the family who were experts in agriculture, they will teach different kinds of methods to the younger ones. Now things might have changed. Schools, colleges, etc. perform this role. So these are different functions of family. Now, do you only have functions, or there are also some disruptive effects of family? Some thinkers, some researchers, they will say yes, family carries out all these functions: psychological functions, biological functions, social functions. But at the same time, families might have a disruptive impact. Have you thought about it? So what are these disruptive impacts? What are these dysfunctions? Look at each of these things one by one. Again, I've mentioned the name of the thinkers who have come up with these concepts. If you want to explore further, you can just search and you can find it more. First is, model says families are not as harmonious as you expect them to be. Just now we are saying, right, within family you get some form of emotional strength. Families hold each other back whenever there is need. But modern says no, families are not necessarily as harmonious as it is depicted to be. Within families you have different kind of conflicts. Some cases there are instances where parents might be abusive towards their children. There might be instances where there is intimate partner violence. The male member, the husband is inflicting different kinds of abuse on the wife. Continuous fightings might be there within families. So they're not as harmonious as it is depicted to be. Families are ideological conditioning device. This is what some Marxists will talk about. They will say that it is through family ideology is imparted. People are conditioned. The next generation is conditioned. The next generation is socialized. Different kinds of values are imparted. And when different kinds of values are imparted to individuals, to these young ones, they also start thinking the same way. If everyone starts thinking the same way, what happens? Innovation gets impacted. People's creative ability is lost. Everyone's thinking like each other. They're thinking the same. They're not thinking out of the box maybe. So individual freedom, self-development, all these things gets hindered because of the process of socialization. Existing social laws imparted to everyone. Everyone is thinking like. Another group of thinkers, they say family leads to isolation from the larger society. Families, they're all small units. They're the smallest social unit. Each family, they are just focusing on one another, whoever is part of that family. They're forming small hurdles and they're within that hurdle. They're just mostly dependent on one another. They're not integrated with the larger society. The bonds between people might not exist as strongly. The bonds between the members of the family, that is strong. So they get a family gets isolated from the larger society. So feminist thinkers, like M. Benson, they have another perspective. They point out that it is the institution of family which is perpetuating unpaid labor. Men and women both are working. Men work outside and they're making money. Women, they're working, but they're working within the family and they're not getting paid for it. So the kind of institution that family is, unpaid labor is perpetuated. So women are working, but they're not getting paid. And since they're not getting paid, their presence or their contribution is not recognized. Right? It's that the women are not working, but actually they're working. Just the difference is they're not getting paid for the work that they are performing. Norman will say that many times the institution of family has deeper impact on the children. Children have been scapegoats by the parents. The parents might be frustrated. They might have had some ambitions. They could not achieve it. And they're frustrated because of that. And they're taking out their frustration on the younger ones. You might have seen these in some of the movies, also Bollywood movies. Parents, they had aspirations, they could not fulfill it. They wanted to become so and so, they could not. Now they want their children to become that. And for that, they put a lot of pressure on the child. As a result of which, the child is getting impacted. So many times parents, or there are many instances where parents might vent out their frustration. This is what Norman Bell points out. These are all disruptive or dysfunctional aspects of the institution of family. So there are some positive functions, positive impacts of functions, and then there are some of these dysfunctions. Now let's move to the next part. How does the function of the family change over a period of time? Till now we have been saying, okay, these are the functions, these are the dysfunctions. But has the function of family not impacted with the changing norms of society, maybe with changing technology, changing technology? How has the function of family evolved or changed over a period of time? One thing we mentioned was family plays a role in social control. Family plays a role when it comes to protecting its member, the protective function. But the role of family when it comes to social control has actually gone down. Now we have modern nation states. You have law and order mechanisms, police, judiciary. So police, judiciary, rule of law, these are the things which are ensuring protection. So when it comes to social control, the role of family has actually gone down. What about production functions? What about economic placement? In the past, it was the family which was producing. Family is producing different kinds of crops, different kinds of agriculture products, and they're consuming it. But now it is not the case. Right? Someone is producing it for the markets, the farmers are producing for the markets, and others they're consuming it. So the role of family when it comes to production it has also gone down. Placement. In the past, it was the family members who will be training the young ones, so that the young ones will get placed within the family, or they will be getting placed in agriculture and they will be performing the different production functions. But now that placement function, again, family is always limited. Now you have division of labor. The entire economy is extremely specialized. Different kinds of tasks have to be carried out. Each task requires different kinds of skills. So now people go for specialized education. They will go to schools, they will complete their schooling education, then they will go for colleges, they will complete that, and again, depending on skills that they have acquired over a period of time, they will get placed. So division of labor is facilitating employment. The role of families when it comes to economic placement has gone down. Markets have been controlled. What about social welfare? What is the role of family in social welfare? In the past, families used to provide for this. If within the family someone is falling sick, the family will take care of it. If within the family there's some form of disability, again the family used to take care of that person. If someone loses, let's say a female loses her spouse, the extended family will take care of her. Now I'm not saying now family doesn't do all these things. What I'm saying is now we have specialized institutions which might do all these things. For example, many states are now welfare state. India is also considered to be a welfare state. So different states now have different institutions. In some cases, you might get different kinds of pension schemes. If someone becomes disabled because of whatever reason, the state might pitch in and they will provide that person some form of disability benefits, maybe some form of pension. Widow pension might also be there. In India also we have, again, the quantum is less, but it is there. So the point is, when it comes to welfare, again, the role of family has gone down as compared to what it was in the past. You have specialized institutions which are performing these roles. So these are some changes. What we do is we look at some more changes. This is what has been extensively studied by thinkers like Gordon and Hart. What they do is they look at multiple functions and they analyze whether the role of family has gone down along these lines or it has increased along these lines, or it has been more or less the same. When it comes to economic functions, the role of family has definitely gone down. A family is not necessarily engaged in economic production right now. They're mostly involved in consumption and distribution. Sexual regulations, nowadays sexual regulation has also gone down. Right? So not necessarily society approves only those sexual relations which happens after marriage. Intermarital sexual relations are also more acceptable as compared to what was in the past. The role of family when it comes to reproductive functions, that has also declined. Right? So there can be people who can decide to have a child, a biological child, without entering into the institution of marriage, without forming a formal family, so as to say. So there has been a slight decline. When it comes to socialization, the role of family is still important. It might have become more significant over a period of time. When it comes to companionship, effective role, again, the role of family in might have become even stronger. In fact, some thinkers say that over a period of time it has become even stronger. With industrialization, it's not about a lot of time to the child. In the past, we had large families, right? So you had joint families. So when it comes to socialization of the child, many members of the family will be important. Grandparents, uncles, aunties, etc. Because the child was the child of the entire large family. Now you have nuclear families, husband, wife, and children, most likely. So a lot of time, effort needs to be spent. Large part of the time and effort they have to spend on these kids. So now we have more child-centric family. So the role of socialization function, companionship, all these things have become important. Physical protection function, again, to a large extent it has declined because you now have the institution of police, the institution of judiciary, law and order mechanisms, the rule of voice there. So these are some broad changes in the function of family.
Now that we have an idea about the functions of a family, also the dysfunction and also how the functions are gradually changing over a period of time, it's try to understand the internal dynamics within the family. What is the structure that exists within a family? What is the structure of a family? So along few lines, we can analyze. First thing, different families will have, again, different sizes, right? Families vary in terms of size. So one thing that can be observed, or one thing that can be analyzed is what is the size of family? Is it a nuclear family or is it a joint family, extended family? Nuclear families means maximum 2 generations. What is the authority or who has the authority within the family? Who holds power, who controls property, who takes most of the decisions? Most likely, in India, and in fact all over this is the case, most likely you have patriarchal families. It's mostly the male members who have authority. And here also there is some sort of seniority. Those who are the elder male members, they tend to have more authority. Another thing that can be analyzed is what sort of bonds exist within the members of the family. What is that kinship bond? Whether some kinship bonds are treated different from other bonds. So usually what happens is the conjugal bonds are subordinated to consanguine bonds. Now what is this? Conjugal bonds means the bond that exists between the husband and the wife. That bond is given less importance as compared to the bond that exists between the brothers. So let's say there are 3 brothers, and again they will have their own spouses here, right? A, C, D, something. So the relationship between the brothers, the consanguine bond, that is given more importance than the bond which exists between the husband and wife. What is the reason? In extended families, the extended family survival actually depends on, or extended families survival or how the durability depends on how they are managing property, how they are holding property together. So if these brothers, the bond between the brothers is not strong, then again they will have different kinds of conflicts, maybe they'll have different kinds of disputes, and all these things will lead to a situation where the joint family will disintegrate. So this bond has to be made very strong. Again, large families, patrilocal setup, so most likely the female members, they have come from different families. So there might be some sort of fear apprehension that if these bonds become stronger, it might lead to a situation where one particular couple decides, okay, we will not be part of this entire family, we will separate out, or we will move to a new household. So those kind of apprehensions are there, so that is the reason these bonds are given more importance. Another thing that is observed is female bonds are stronger. That means the bond between the parents and the children, that is typically strong. But again, there's a difference between the bond between a father and a child and a mother and a child. Generally, father and the child, it can be slightly different. Mutual respect, it might not be as open as the relationship between a mother and a child. But again, these are all like ideal types, may not always be the case. In extended families, this is most likely the case. Descent, how you can trace your lineage, most likely in the Indian scenario, it is better lineal descent. In some societies, some communities, exceptions, it can be material descent as well. Seniority is typically a source for authority and it is a source for respect. So those who are elder, they are given respect within the family setup. Now, how is labor divided? The different kinds of tasks that have to be carried out, how it's divided. Usually, there is sexual division of labor. Female members, they are expected to work within the household, and the male members are expected to work outside. Female members are supposed to carry out different kinds of household activities, cleaning, cooking, rearing the children. So these are activities. So on the basis of sex, activities are divided, and certain kinds of activities are considered masculine, certain kinds of activities are considered feminine. So these kinds of stereotyping also exist within the family. What kind of rules are there? Incest is generally considered taboo. Incest means sexual relations between kids and between family members. So there are different kinds of social norms which prevent sexual relations between family members. And then there are other rules. For example, women are expected to take care of the children. They're supposed to bring up the children. Who holds property? How is the ownership pattern decided? Usually, the adult males they own property, and the succession is very linear. From males to males, the property is inherited. So typically, this is how the structure of the family looks like, especially the extended family. So now we have an idea about the structure of the family. But point to be noted here is the structure of the family is again not something static. The structure of the family is also gradually changing. It has in fact changed over a period of time. So what we do now is we look at these changes. In fact, when I was discussing the structure of the family, at that point itself, right, you might have thought about, or you might have got these questions that what I was discussing. Maybe some of these things are not applicable right now. For example, when I'm saying that conjugal bond is given less importance than consanguine bonds, it might be thinking, no, that's not the case. The society that I am in the community that I am in, that's not the case. Or when I'm saying the sexual division of labor, women are supposed to carry out responsibility, different household responsibility, and men are supposed to work outside. So at that point, you might think, no, that's not necessarily the case. Women are also working outside, right? They're also equal partners. You're right, right? So the things that we discuss, the structure that we discuss right now, this is how traditionally things were, right? In traditional families, that was the case. But as I have mentioned multiple times, our society is changing, our economy is changing, and many of these things are gradually changing. Society is evolving. So what we do is we look at some of these dimensions, and we will say how things have changed. But one thing, keep in mind, all these changes that we're talking about, we're not talking only about the Indian scenario. We're just looking at how families are evolving world over. Okay, not specific to Indian scenario, we'll come to the Indian scenario maybe in a few minutes. So first thing, conjugal relations. Right? So in traditional family, especially joint families, conjugal bond, the relationship between the bond between the husband and wife is given less importance as compared to the consanguine bonds, the bond between the brothers. And usually what happens, there is some amount of domination. It's the husband who decides, the women might not have as much say, women don't have as much decision making powers. But this is gradually changing. It's moving away from domination. Now, the relationship between the spouses, husband and wife, is more cooperation. The relations are becoming more symmetrical in nature. The relationship is more about companionship now. But the question is, how did this happen? What are the factors behind this? See, multiple reasons. One of the reasons can be nuclear relation, as families are becoming smaller. Right? So all these in joint family typically you have different kinds of values associated with joint family. In joint families there might be a requirement for the brothers to have a very strong bond, hold property together, or else we get integrated. But all those things are not required. All those things are not relevant in nuclear setup.
Right? So that might be leading to the shift in values and conjugal bonds are equally important. Husband and wife, they are equal partners. Apart from these, they're having some major historical events which have led to some of this shift, which has led to women having a greater say as compared to the amount of decision-making powers they had in the past. For example, World War I. During the World War, it was the men who had to step out. Men were mostly fighting in these wars. So if men were working or men were fighting the wars, who is going to work in the industries? Local industries, industries. So women stepped out. Women started working. Labor force participation rate of women increased. And as women are now doing things, which at some point of time it was considered that women cannot do all these things, but now women are showing that they're able to carry out these kind of activities. So women's say, women's standing, everything changes now. Russian Revolution. Now this movement talks about equality. That might have also influenced different kinds of values norms back then. Different feminist movements in the 1970s. They are also germinating these ideas. Right? That women are equal partners. So women can do all those things that men can, or men are doing. So all these things are leading to equality, right? They're influencing the viewpoints of people world over. Next, parent-child relationship. How is it? Now, in the past, when you had mostly large families, joint families, the child used to be the child of the entire family. Uncles, aunts, grandparents, all of them. They used to take care of the child. So the responsibility of the child was not only on the parents. It was not the sole responsibility of the parents. But as there's a shift towards nuclearization. In a family, in a nuclear family, they husband, wife, and their children. So the husband, wife, they have to give a lot of importance to the child. Families are becoming child-centric. And not only this, children's role in decision making also increasing massively. One thing that you might have noticed, many of the TV commercials that you see, you'll find child actors. Many of these commercials are at the end of the day targeted towards children who are also the audience. Because children are now playing a very significant role in decision making. What kind of vehicle you should have, or what kind of things you have. Children might have the same those things. I mean, they're not asked for their expert advice, but children might influence the decision of the parents. Right? So children's role has changed, and families are becoming more child-centric. Parental roles, both instrumental as well as emotional. Parents are fulfilling the emotional functions. They're also fulfilling different kinds of economic functions. So that is still exists. That exists. But one thing we noted here is in the past, like in traditional families, there were different kinds of stereotypes. Men were expected to go outside and work. They were supposed to earn money, and that money will be supporting the children. On the other hand, it was expected that it is the women who will express their love, emotion, and they will take care of the child, they will bring up the child. But now that might not be the case. All these things have changed. Both husband and wife are working outside. Both husband and wife are taking care of the children. So the different kinds of gender stereotypes that were there in the past, they are actually changing. Brother-sister relationship is more of equality. It's not that the sister is powerless, the brother has to protect her. No, it's equal. Right? Both of them are equal partners here. Marriages. How durable are marriages? So nowadays marriages are also breaking down. What could be the reason why marriages are breaking down? One reason can be in present setup, people have more expectations of a marriage. Right? So they already have some form of idea that is what should be an ideal marriage. They have all these kind of expectations. So if expectations are high, the chances of it breaking down can also be high. So some thinkers talk about this. High expectations in the past, people did not have as much expectations, as a result of which, if expectations are low, it will be easily met. So chances of marriages breaking down is low. But in the present setup, expectations are quite high. Apart from that, there are high emotional tension, stress, which leads to high chances of marriages breaking down. What about authority structure? Even now, do the elder members have more authority? Even now, do the male members have more authority? Again, here also there is a change. Individualism is on the rise. Not necessarily the younger ones will always agree to what the elder members are saying. Right? So people are more individualistic now. And not necessarily all the authority will be vested on the male members. Apart from that, new kinds of institutions are also coming up. People are not necessarily entering into the institution of marriage. Some of them are deciding to cohabit. So basically they're deciding that they will live together. New kinds of families are also forming. Single parent families can be there. Reconstituted families can be there. So the entire idea, notion that a family means a husband, wife, and two children or one child. All these things are changing now. You have a variety of families. You have a spectrum of families now. So the predominant or prevalent emotions that were there about families that have gradually changed. So let's look at some of these different variations that can be there. Right? There can be one family. There can be a one mom family. Right? So these are two different families. It's not one. So a single father, right, can form a family. Single mom family can also be there. Also, apart from that, there can be foster families. Now in a foster family, foster parents they decide to take care of a child for a certain duration. Right? So these foster parents are decided on the basis of certain rules and regulations. The state decides that. So for a certain duration, they will take care of the child. And again, this will be for a certain duration. It will not something is permanent in nature. They will not be legal obligation after the duration. There can be intimate families, the large families, the extensive intimate roles that are there. Then there can be step families or reconstituted families. It might happen that a couple, husband wife, right? They're married. They're having children, their own children, but in the past maybe they were married to someone else. The husband was married to someone else. The husband has children from his previous wife. The present wife was married to someone else. She has children from her previous husband. So this entire family, husband, wife, their own children, and their children from previous partners. Right? This is the type of family it can be called as a reconstituted family. Apart from that, there can be two dad family. There can be two moms family as well, two mothers and their children, adopted children maybe. So these are all different kinds of variants. Right? So when you think of the institution of family, don't think of family means husband, wife, and their children. Multiple kinds of variations can exist. Okay, the question is whether it is legal or not. That might be there. In different societies, different rules, regulations might be there. In society, maybe all of these things might not be applicable. But yeah, the idea of family, the social institution includes all these variations. The question is, how has the institution of family changed over a period of time? Or what are the factors which have led to these changes over a period of time? Right? We saw how the traditional family looks like, and we saw how the function of the family is changing, how the structure of the family is changing. So let's try to understand what could be some of the factors which have led to these changes. One is industrialization. How does industrialization change family? In traditional societies, agrarian societies, what will be the role of family? What will be the function of family? The family will be carrying out economic production. The family will be imparting education, training to its young ones so that they can also take up agriculture. Family will be, again, transmitting different kinds of values. Right? So family has multiple roles to play. But as societies modernize, as technology changes, as there is industrialization, now the function of family is not changing. How? In an industrialized economy, different kinds of economic activities are there. Different kinds of factories will be there. Different kinds of occupations will come up. Different kinds of professions will come up. Can the family impart training for all these professions? No. People have to go to specialized institutions. People will go to schools. People will go to colleges. And then the place they will get placed, the workplace, will be different. So in the past, in a great society, it is possible to stay together in one place, right, in that rural area. But in an industrialized society, given the amount of options that you have, the amount of opportunities that you have, right, people will move to different places. So the joint family that you had, it will actually break down. Nuclear families will be formed. So function of family is changing as well as structure of family is also changing. And as structure changes, the equations within also change. Conjugal relations become more important. It becomes more symmetrical. Companionship will be there. In a agrarian society, that may not be the case. In agrarian society, since you have to work together, you have to work together, you have to stay together. Sexual relationship will be there. The relationship with brothers will be strong. Conjugal relationship will be subordinated. Law also has a significant role to play. State policy also has a significant role to play. I'll give you an example of this. If there is a law which prevents child marriage, if there is a law which prevents people from getting married at a younger age, what will happen? People will get married most likely at a slightly higher age. As a result of the family size will not be large. Like if people are getting married at a younger age, chances of pregnancy will be high, chances of they having more number of kids will also be high. So law has these kind of implications. Apart from that, what kind of laws you have for inheritance of property? What kind of laws you have for divorce? That also has a bearing on family. If women are denied inheritance rights, right? So women's position will be vulnerable. If divorce laws are very stringent,
Then again, people will not go for divorce. People will not be, I mean, people will find it very difficult to go for divorce. But the laws are such that it is easy to get divorce. Then again, chances of marital breakups might also be high. So long as it's state policy plays a role. Population measures, land reforms. These are some examples from Indian context. What kind of state policy you have? Right? If the state is coming up with different kind of policies to stabilize the population, from this side will gradually go on. What kind of land reform measures are there? That will also have a bearing. Whether the property can be held together. If there are some kind of ceilings. And again, some families will find out different ways to circumvent that. Right? They will be registered property under the name of different brothers. And this can now act as a part of the family to be segregated. So what kind of land reform measures that also has a bearing? Sometimes some of these societal factors or sometimes modern ideas also have an implication on the structure of family. Right? For example, if societies are becoming more individualized, if people are becoming more individualistic, then the possibility of having joint families goes down. If women's status in society improves, then what will happen? Sexual division of labor will be questioned. Nuclear families will become more common. Right? So status of women also has a bearing on the structure of family. Similarly, if society is getting secularized, that means the role of religion on the society goes down. Right? So people will start questioning things. Many times what happens? Religion will prescribe or religion will say that children are so you should have more number of children. As a result of it, the family size becomes large. But if people are secularized, or people do not take into consideration religion when they're taking decisions, right? People consider it to be an economic decision. How many kids you should have? People consider it to be a rational decision. So they will not have any number of kids, right? So status of women, secularization of society, individualism, all these things have a bearing on the size of the family and the internal dynamics within the family. The role of media is also important in the sense that different kinds of modern ideas can be promoted by media. The kind of media that you have, it will have influence on the people, and accordingly, all these factors can come into play, which can in turn change the structure of the family. So these are all factors which can bring about change in the structure of family. So these are some of the things that we have seen world over when it comes to family. Now the question is, how does the family in India look like? Or what have been some interesting research on family in India? How large are these families? How is the size of the family changing over a period of time? So let's look at some of these findings. It will give us an idea right, which direction we are heading. So this is from a report, 2019 report, UN Household Size and Composition Database. So they find out what is the typical household size in India, and they find out that couple along with their children, 41.5% of the total households in India, they are coupled with their children. But that does not mean that the large families do not exist. In fact, the next most common household is extended family. Some 37.1% of the households they are extended family. Also, there are other combinations. Couple only is 8%, lone mother 5.4%, lone father 0.9%. And so these are all the different kind of variations. One to notice the most common kind of household is couple with children. The second most common household is extended family. The same database also traces the change over a period of time. So what they're doing is data points. They're looking at data at different points of time: 1993, 2004, and 2015. Right? So 4 bars in each column you can see. So how things have changed. So if you look at couple only family, their percentage has gradually increased. Right? So couple only family, the percentage is gradually increasing over a period of time. Single parent family has also increased. Single mother with children has also increased. Single father with children has slightly declined. Right? So couple only families, single parent families has increased. Right? So something that we were already discussing. So this is how the transition is. Now you might have a question that pan India level, right? Are these numbers same, or these numbers also vary from state to state, from region to region? Right? There can be some variations. Within India, there's massive amount of diversity. The societies are also different in different states. So how do things vary from place to place? So let's look at this. So across the country, how things are. So this particular image, what it is showing is, it is showing India in different states at different points of time, 2001 and 2011. So if a state has a higher proportion of 2 to 3 members households, it is dark in color. So if one state has a huge proportion of households which are having at the max 3 members, it is darker in color. Right? So in 2001, you can see that some of the southern states, they have a large proportion of households which have just 2 to 3 members. By 2011, you can observe that many other parts of the country, they are now having slightly darker colors. If you look at the darkest red, it has increased further. Right? So this darkest red that you have, it has increased to so many places. The other kind of red, I think the slightly pinkish red, this one, right? Maharashtra, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha. Right? So this has also increased to some other places. For example, Gujarat, some of the northern parts of India, and many of the northeastern parts of India. This kind of red, slightly pink version, now you'll find it in many other places. So what you see here is there's a gradual transition happening. Throughout the country, the proportion of, throughout the country, most of the places in the country, most of the states in the country, the proportion of households which have maximum 3 members is gradually increasing. So the smaller households, they are increasing. So UP is more or less same. Right? So in UP again, you have maybe large number of joint families. It seems more or less same, right? Same color shade. In many other places, the color shade, you see a transition. Another way to look at it. So here what they're doing is, again, 2 different time points. Percentage of households which have 6 members. Total households, what is the percentage of households that have 6 members or more? That means they're having more number of large families. So darker the shade, higher the proportion of large families. So here you can find that some states, Rajasthan, Jammu Kashmir, UP, Bihar, right, Nagaland, right? So these are the places where you have high proportion of families. More than 50% of the households have more than 6 members. Cut to 2011, very few places, maybe Uttar Pradesh has, is in the dark shade, has more than 50% of the families which have more than 6 members. Look at the light shades. Kerala, Goa, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, right? Here, less than 30% of the households have more than 6 members. Look at 2011. So many states in India have less than 30% of the population having more than 6 members in their household. Right? So it shows that there's a gradual shift towards smaller families, smaller households. Right? So this is something that's interesting, so I thought I should share it with you. And again, it gives you an idea that all states in India are not the same. Right? All states are performing at different levels. Some states have smaller families, some states have larger families. And maybe it has got something to do with the kind of society you have over there, the kind of social economic development that you have. This is something that you have greater clarity when we will be discussing another topic, the topic of population. Population is going to be a separate topic, we have a separate discussion on that. So what all decides the number of children in a family? What all decides what it is? Some of these things we are going to discuss over there. So there you have even more idea about some of these things. So this is how things look like. So we now have seen that usually what happens, the size of the family is changing. We are moving from joint families to nuclear families. Kinship ties, since the family size is becoming small, maybe the kinship ties, right? Ties between a nuclear family here and a nuclear family somewhere else might be becoming bigger. We don't know that. Right? So these kind of things we have seen. And also, the assumption is in nuclear families you have more modern outlook. People are more individualistic. Husband and wife, their companion. There's symmetrical relations. Sexual division of labor is not happening. All these things. So is it always true, or there are some variations to that as well? So what we do is we look at some of the interesting studies that have been carried out in India, and we'll see what are some of the findings here. Right? We'll see that some of these things might be counterintuitive. For example, one thing we discussed was as there is industrialization, right? Joint families find it difficult to exist. There is specialization, there is division of labor. So there's a need for specialization, there's a need for college education maybe. And the jobs are in different places. So people have to step out. They cannot stay with their own parents. They have to move out looking for different opportunities, different brothers or different sisters or brothers. They have to find out different opportunities. So industrialization leads to breakdown of large families into small families, like nuclear families. This is what we have seen. But one study finds out in India something unique. Milton Singer finds out that in India, many industrial houses are run by joint families. So industrialization and joint family, we saw that they are kind of perpendicular to one another, tangent to one another. But Milton Singer says that look at India, there are so many industrial houses. They're all family run, right? So look at maybe the Birlas or the Ambanis or the Tatas. They're all many of them are family run houses. But at the same time, Milton Singer in his study finds out that there's some sort of not conflict, but there's a dichotomy here. So Milton Singer says that when it comes to the workplace, these families, members of the families, they have very modern professional outlook. Like they're interacting with the markets, right? So they have a very modern professional outlook. But when it comes to home, their outlook will be traditional. Maybe they will have sexual division of labor, maybe the authority structure. Again, it's on the basis of age or it's on the basis of sex. So there's a divergence in many of these industrial houses. That's what we finds out. MS God, Goy also has similar kind of observations. MS God studies Agarwal community and says that 75% of them prefer to have joint families. And again, Agarwal is known for their business activities, right? They're very good when it comes to business. And among them, there's preference for having joint families. In fact, there is cooperation between family members when it comes to different kinds of business related matters, help each other out whenever requirement is there. So this is interesting kind of variation. Industrialization and joint family, large families, they are kind of in sync with one another. Another study by Menifee Singh among slum dwellers in Delhi. Slums, that means urban areas. You would expect that in urban areas, in slums, you will have nuclear families, and those who will be staying here, they will be migrants. Their family will be back home in the villages, maybe. So their kinship relations, right, their kinship ties with people back home would have become weaker. Menifee Singh finds a very interesting trend. Among the slum dwellers, there is what is referred to as fictive kinship. Those who are staying in the slums, they face very harsh circumstances, difficult life. It's not easy. Sometimes they might not have enough resources. They will need help at different points of time. Sometimes they will need each other, but they won't have their own kins out there. Their relatives are not there. So what do they do? So they maintain fictive kinship. They will call each other by different kin names. They will call someone as Bhaiya, someone as Bhabi, someone as Didi, something like that. They will create these relations. Right? These are not blood relations or relations through marriage. These are relations that they have created. They're fictive, not real. But this fictive kinship helps them adapt to different kinds of harsh circumstances in city, right, where they don't have any real kins. Similar kind of thing was observed by M. Chatterjee and the study of Banaras. Widespread use of fictive relations. People who are staying within the same community, within the same mohalla, they have fictive relationships. But fictive relationships are not just limited to those who are staying within the mohalla. Those who are outside them along with them also, they will have some fictive relationships. Study in Pune again finds out that workers, they maintain extended kinship ties. The assumption is as people migrate, they move from villages to cities, they will not be maintaining these strong kinship ties back home, but that's not the case. Strong kinship ties was there. Study in Meerut, usually there's close interaction between kins for different festivals, right? For Chhat Puja or different kinds of festivals, people go back to their villages and celebrate together. So kinship ties are maintained. Parini says many entrepreneurial castes, they use their kinship network caste networks for achieving their business interests. Now, what is this? What is the reason why we're discussing this? We saw that industrialization businesses, or at least that was what my sociologist thought, industrialization, entrepreneurial activity, they all don't go hand in hand with joint families or extended kinship networks. But Parini finds out that people actually use caste networks, kinship networks for their business activities. If they want to start something and they don't have enough finance, what will they do? One option is they can go to the bank. But in the case of India, financial inclusion is limited. Also, the amount of the capacity of the banks to give loans is limited. There's not much trust also. So how do they start businesses? They don't really have money, so they will rely on maybe someone from the same kinship network or someone from the same caste. Not just money, they have multiple studies on this. How members from a particular caste, they will be dominating in a particular sector. Usually, again, it's members from a particular caste will dominate. Initially, again, over a period of time, things have changed, many other places have entered. But this is how things are, because members from the same caste, they help each other out, they will give in finance, they will give in something else. And this is how businesses have worked in the Indian context. So, economic activity, industrialization, businesses, and family, right? So, this is the kind of linkage that we find in India and certain areas. So, this is about family and the different components of family, right? So, we first try to understand what is family, and we look at one definition of family given in law. But even though that definition was based on 250 different societies, but it does not capture how the families have changed or are changing in the recent context. Then we try to understand the functions of family. And we try to also understand how these functions of family are changing. We also look at the functions of family. To understand family, it is also important to understand structure that exists within the family. We try to look at that. Size, authority, right, lineage, all these things. But the structure of the family is also changing. Then we saw how Indian families are changing or what kind of structure Indian family typically has. And many features we saw are slightly different from what we would have expected. Like how in India, large families and businesses, they go hand in hand. How you would expect that kinship ties become weak with distance, but people are now maintaining the kinship ties because they're celebrating festivals together, etc. But at the same time, they're also creating new kids, especially among the people who are from the social background. So these are some interesting points that you observe in the context of family. So this is about family. Apart from the diversity that we see among the tribes in India, there's another element along which we see diversity. In India, we also see people practicing different religions, right? People practice different faith. Now, again, this is one of those features that is there in other places as well. People follow different religions world over. But what is unique in the Indian context is the number of religious practices people follow. Right? There are so many religions which are there in India. And again, within these religions also there's diversity. So what we will do now is we'll see what are the different kinds of religious faith which people adhere to in the Indian context. But before that, a very fundamental question. What is religion? Do we understand religion? In fact, what I would suggest is maybe you should take a break of 30 seconds or 60 seconds and try to reflect, try to think what religion is. You might be following a particular religion. So what does that mean to you? Or you might not be following a religion, but people around you follow it. So what is the consequence of that? Why are people following religion? What are the functions of religion? Right, maybe take a pause of 60 seconds and reflect about it. I hope you took a pause and welcome back if you had to take a pause. So on the screen, you can see the definition of religion. We'll come to it. So what we will do is in the next few minutes, we'll look at the definition of religion. We'll try to understand the meaning of religion. Apart from that, we will look at the extent of religious diversity in India. Religions, again, they're all social groupings. We'll try to find out how different religions fare in terms of different social community indicators. And yes, with that, we will conclude the religion part and then we'll move to the next part, the social classes. We are going to discuss religion and the impacts of religion on society in much details. Right? We're going to do this in a separate session. There's one recording which talks about religion, secularism, communism, fundamentalism, revivalism, relation between religion and science. Right? So there's going to be a separate discussion on that. So if you have more questions, you can always refer to that particular recording. Here we're just going to touch what is religion and what is the extent of religious diversity in India. So what is religion? What is the definition of religion? Now when you think about religion, just think about what are the different components. If you are someone who's religious, what all you do? One thing is you might have certain kind of belief. Second thing is you might be carrying out different kinds of practices. Like maybe you're going to the temple, you go to the church, different kinds of festivals are there, you're trying to celebrate that. And in fact, it does not require you to be religious to celebrate festivals. Even if you're not religious, you can celebrate festivals for the fun of it. But what I'm trying to say here is religion also involves different kinds of practices. So religion has both these components, belief as well as practices. It is a system of belief and practices. But all these beliefs and practices are related to what? They're all related to things which are considered sacred. In any religion, certain kinds of things are considered to be sacred. It might be a book, it might be some other object. Certain kinds of things are considered sacred. They on their own
They create different kinds of rules and regulations around it. These kinds of sacred objects are set apart. They're forbidden. It's not easy to access these things. There will be multiple rules and regulations around it. If you are not following the rules and regulations, then there can be some consequences. For example, if you're going to a place of worship, again, within a place of worship, there are things which are considered sacred. So you have to follow the rules and regulations around it. For example, you might be asked to remove the footwear when you're entering these places of worship. Most of the places of worship, there are these rules and regulations. There might be some rules and regulations around what kind of attire you can wear, whether you should cover your head. So these are all rules and regulations. You are supposed to maintain certain amount of decorum in these places of worship. Who has created these rules? Again, the institution, religion itself has created these rules and regulations. If you're not following it, there will be consequences. So any religion you think of, there's something which is considered sacred. The sacred can be God, the sacred can be a book, the sacred can be a guru, teacher, leader, and all that sacred rules and regulations are there. And religion is about both beliefs and practices. Apart from this, religion leads to creation of communities, single model communities. One religion is a single model community. People who are part of that religion, they are forming a community. They think that they have something in common. They can relate to one another. And another set of people who are part of one religion, again, they think they have something in common. So they are again another whole community. And people who are part of that one community, they will adhere to different kinds of rules and regulations, which is meant for that religion. Or the religion has created those rules and regulations, and they will follow that. They will adhere to that. So religion is not only about beliefs, it is also about practices. Different kinds of things that people do, right? Different kinds of rituals that are carried out, they are practices. Religion leads to creation of these world communities. Religion is about sacred. Religion is about different kinds of rules and regulations related to sacred. So this is what religion is. And keep in mind that religion is on the basis of faith. It is on the basis of belief. It is faith. People believe that if they worship to this particular sacred entity, they will get something in return. There is a belief element here. So now the question is, what are the different religions in the Indian context? How many people follow these religions? On the screen you can see a table. These are all some of the predominant religious groups in India. Religions in India, and people follow these religions. And over time you can see what proportion of people are following which religion. I have data till 2011. These are all census data, by the way. Right? After that we haven't had a census, so I don't have newer data because census last time was conducted in 2011. So you can see that in India almost 80% of the population they follow Hinduism. Somewhere around 14% follow Islam, Christianity 2.3%, Sikhism 1.7%. And you can notice that from 1950s to till now, right, the proportion of Christians, the proportion of Sikhs, it has remained more or less same, has not changed. Islam, Muslim population has gradually increased over a period of time. Hindu population has, as a proportion of the total population, has slightly declined. But again, when we will be studying the chapter on population, there's one session on population as well. You'll realize, right, how these changes are here. And one interesting point is, for all these religious communities, the population growth rate has been declining. Right, for Hindus, it is declining. For Muslims, also the population growth rate has been declining. If you look at the decadal population growth rate, if you compare the population growth rate of Muslims in 2000 as compared to 1990s, as compared to 1980s, there has been a decline. So this is how the proportion looks like. But keep one thing in mind that among Hindus, right, within Hindus also there will be different kinds of diversity, right, different kinds of practices within Hinduism also varies. Right? So length and breadth of the country. Among Muslims also, overall, some 14% are Muslims, but among Muslims also there will be some amount of diversity where they will also be having different sects. So the point is, again, these are larger numbers, but if you now look at the nuances, right, you'll find that within all these broader religious groups also there is massive amount of diversity throughout the length and breadth of the country. The practices vary from one place to another. Now let's look at the performance of religious groups or how these religious groups fare in terms of different socio-economic indicators. Right? So this is the proportion in the population. This is the population growth rate, right, overall. If you look at the decadal growth rate, right, what is the decadal growth rate? So for Hindus it was around 16-17%, for Muslims it was 24.6%, Christians 15.5%, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, the decadal population growth rate is way less. Now keep one thing in mind, the point that I was just mentioning some time back, this is the population growth rate as per the latest census. But these numbers are less as compared to the previous decades for Muslims or Hindus for all communities. Right? So in the previous decades, the population growth rate was way more, it is going down. Right? So our population overall growth rate is declining as well as different religious groups. Their population growth rate is also gradually declining. Sex ratio among Hindus it is around 939, 2011. Muslims it is better 951. Christians it is even better. Among Sikhs it is a cause of concern, 903. And Sikhs are one of those most affluent communities as well, right? Among them, a poor sex ratio is definitely a cause of concern. Apart from the literacy rate, now here you can observe that among Hindus, Muslims, the literacy rate tends to be low. Among Sikhs also, and Muslims have very low literacy rate. If you look at the different social religious groups, right, for example, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, if you compare that, so scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, they fare the worst in terms of literacy. The second worst community in terms of literacy rate is the Muslims, right? So scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, their literacy rate tends to be lowest, and second lowest tends to be Muslims. So again, this is a cause of concern. Work participation, how many people are gainfully employed, right? So here among Muslims, among Sikhs, again, the work participation rate tends to be low. So what I wanted to show you here is we have again different kinds of religious groups, and these religious groups they fare differently in terms of different social communities. Here also you find so much amount of diversity, and if you study religions even more, you'll find that within Hindu, within Muslims, again you have different kinds of groups. Right? There also there is this element of diversity. So it's kind of interesting that how much diversity that exists in the Indian context, how people adhere to so many different kinds of faiths, beliefs in the Indian context. One data or one map or illustration that we had, data has been converted into a map. So this basically is the data at district level. Right? So all these small points that you can see, right, small areas that you can see, regions that you can see, these are all different districts in India. And what has been done here is there is some form of color coding. So in which district, which religious group has a majority? Right? So if you have this light pinkish kind of color, it shows that in this particular district, more than 50% of the population is Hindus. If it is dark blue in color, it implies that more than 50% of the population in this district are Muslims. If it is this pinkish color, I think it's pink. I don't know. I'm not really good at these colors. So if it is slightly this, I think it's baby pink or something. Right? So if the color is baby pink for a district, it shows that more than 50% of the population are Christians. Green is 6 and the light blue is Buddhist, and others is green. So one thing that we can observe here is most of the part of the country, if you look at the district level data, the majority religion, right, is Hinduism. So very few places, maybe somewhere in one district in southern India, right, you have Islam Muslims as the majority. In Lakshadweep Island, again, you have some Muslims as majority. If you look at the northern parts of India, here you will find some variation. The Kashmir region, right, here you will find Muslims in majority. The Ladakh region, you will find Ladakh region, you will find Buddhists in majority. In the Punjab region, many districts, Sikhs are in majority. Some of you might have thought that in Goa, the majority community is Christian, but that's also not true. It's Hindus here as well. Again, northeastern part of India, you will find some variations. Some places you will find more Christians. Some districts in Nagaland, some districts in Mizoram, some districts in Arunachal, some districts in Meghalaya, right, there you will find the majority religion is Christianity. And in some places Buddhists are also there, some places you will also find Muslims that are local. So pan India level, this is how it looks like. So this is about religions.
So the next topic that we are going to talk about is social classes in India.
Now, till this point of time, you have an idea about caste. You have an idea about tribes, who are the tribes. You also have an idea about religions. Just now we saw that. The next interesting feature of any society is class, and what we will do is we try to understand how classes are formed in Indian context. So what are we going to do? See, you might have definitely used this term. Right? Most likely these terms, upper class, middle class, lower class, you would have come across these terms. And sometimes you might have also mentioned, or you might have referred to yourself as being part of this class. I'm from upper middle class, I'm from middle class, I'm from upper class, or that person is from upper classes. So you have used this term. But I would want you to think about what is the meaning of this. Where does upper middle class start? Where does upper middle class start? Where does upper class start? Have you ever given a thought to it? Right? So what are those exact boundaries? Or do exact boundaries exist? Maybe they don't exist. And in fact, what is the meaning of the term class? Like how do you define a class, any class? So what we're going to do next is we'll look at some of these aspects. Right? Some of the most interesting aspects, most important aspects. So firstly, what we do is we look at the agrarian class structure. That means in rural areas, mostly people are engaged in agricultural activities. In fact, one of the ways by which you define rural areas, the areas where majority of the population is engaged in agriculture. So in rural areas, which is again the agrarian India, what are the different kind of classes? How are people divided into these classes? What are the ways by which these classes are formed? Right, so this is what we will do first. Like how does the agrarian class structure look like? The second thing that we will do is we'll try to look at a particular kind of class, which is generally in the news, the middle classes. See, upper class, it is kind of easy to understand what are the upper class. People who are wealthy, people who own the means of production, people who are the industrialists, people who own different kinds of enterprises. They are the upper class. The lower class are those people who generally will be putting in their own labor. But then in between you have the middle classes. Who are these middle classes? What is the unique feature of Indian middle class? And most importantly, how large is the Indian middle class? Usually, if you read different business papers, like newspapers or business articles, they will all talk about how we have a huge middle class, and this huge middle class is going to increase in time. They will, the size will increase, the incomes will increase. So all these businesses are targeting our middle class. Right? Targeting in the sense, in a good sense, right? The middle class is basically the target group. The middle class will purchase different kinds of goods and services from the businesses, as a result of which economic activity will be better, businesses will be thriving, will flourish. So many times you come across this thing. And not only when it comes to the economy, right? Usually in a positive sense also we talk about it. Right? We should have a large middle class society gets stabilized because of that. Middle class plays a very significant role. Middle class helps in modernization of society. All these things you come across. But what do you mean by middle class? Where does that start from? At which point middle class starts and which point middle class ends? Who all are middle class in India? Do we have a large middle class or small middle class? All these things we will attempt to answer, or at least we'll have an answer by the end of the session. So let's get started. First thing first, what is class? What do you mean by the term class? See, class refers to a group of people, a societal group. Some people have that same group, right? People have similar kind of skills, they have similar kind of incomes, they have similar kind of wealth. Their material well-being is similar. It's not necessarily exact, but again, within a particular acceptable range. So that is a class. People, let's say upper class. What do you generally mean by that? People who are all wealthy. Lower class, people who are not as wealthy. Middle class, somewhere in between. Right? So a group has been formed by people who are having similar kind of wealth, similar kind of income, similar kind of skills, similar kind of material value. This is one rough meaning of class. Then there are some technical definitions also. There are multiple technical definitions. I don't want to go into that. But one of the most commonly accepted technical definition is a group of people having identical position in the market situation. This is given by Max Weber. So those are going to study sociology, those are going to study public administration. In fact, anthropology also. They're going to refer to Weber at various points of time. Right? So what Weber is saying is, it includes all those people who have similar position in the market situation. Or in other words, it includes those people who have similar ability to draw rewards from the market. In the market, different people draw different kind of rewards. Some people will have some incomes, some people will have some profits, some people will make money by getting some rent. Right? So whoever is making similar amount of incomes or similar amount of wealth, right? They all are part of the same class as per Weber. Again, it's more of a wealth income, well-being kind of criteria. What is important is to distinguish class from things like caste. Sometimes people confuse between these two things, caste and class. Right? So I just want to give you some understanding of these two terms, or how to differentiate this. See, in class, what happens? Right? Let's say you're part of one class. Let's say you're part of the lower classes. You're not wealthy, your parents are not wealthy. But if you're hardworking, if you're talented, and if the society is open, then because of your hard work, because of your talent, your class position will change. You are getting educated, you're working hard, you're getting a good job. Over a point of time, your class position will change. Maybe you move to middle class, maybe you move to upper classes also. And there are so many examples of that happening. In case of India, you have people who have been born in lower classes, lower middle class, not lower class, but lower middle class for sure. People like Dhoni. But because of their hard work, because of their talent, over a period of time, what is happening? Right? That person is going and providing leadership to the Indian cricket team. And again, there is massive improvement in Dhoni's and his family's position in the class hierarchy. They're moving into the upper classes. And this is just one example. There's so many examples. People who are maybe founders of different startups. Maybe they were in the middle classes, but because they started work well, they are in the upper classes now. Right? So there is mobility here. Social mobility is something that's promoted if a society is class-based. But what about caste? Can you change your caste? You can change your class for sure, but can you change your caste? No. Highly unlikely. Some limited avenues might be there, but they're all very restricted. Sanskritization and all those things, we find very few instances of that happening. Also, caste is something which is based on hereditary criteria. People are born into a particular class and they can't change it. Descriptive. Class, you're born in a particular class, but you can change your class position. In fact, during your lifetime, your class position might change multiple times. So caste is something which prevents social mobility. Class-based society, they give importance to social mobility. They promote social mobility. So this is the difference between caste and class. Right? It's very important to distinguish between these two things. Right? And also keep in mind that don't use these terms interchangeably. Sometimes they can be overlap. By the way. Those who are in the lower caste, they might also be in the lower socioeconomic classes. That can also happen. People who are in the upper caste, they might also be in upper classes. So in that case, there is overlap, but it is not always true. Maybe there are people who are born in a lower caste, so they continue to remain in the lower caste. But their class position would have changed over a period of time. Right? They might have moved into upper classes. Right? They might be wealthy, they might have good source of income. So that divergence can happen. So now let's try to understand what kind of agrarian social structure, agrarian class structure India has. But before that, what we do is we try to understand what kind of agrarian class structure India had, right? Before the Britishers, during the British rule, after independence, what happened, and now what kind of agrarian class structure exists. Right? How can you divide the people who are in the agrarian society? How can you divide? How can you classify them? Not divide, how can you classify them? Right? How can you put them in different kinds of social groups in terms of wealth, income, or some sort of skills? That is what we will do next. So let's look at the agrarian social structure. Right? I'm not using the term class structure here. There's a reason why I'm not using the term class structure. Right? So before the Britishers came to India, how did the agrarian society look like? Now, did you have these kind of classes back then? So Indian society was primarily a caste society. People are divided into different kinds of social groups, and these social groups are based on the caste. So before the Britishers came, you did not have these class kind of formations which are only on the basis of income, wealth, and material well-being. What kind of formations were there? It was mostly caste-based formations, and there was one system that was kind of prevalent, which is called as the Jajmani system. Those who were involved in agriculture or those who were part of this agrarian society, among them there was a relation, and this was governed by what was called as Jajmani system. What is the meaning of this? Jajmani system implies a system of exchange. between the Jajmans and the Kamins. What are these terms? Some of you might be hearing this. So certain kind of castes were considered to be the Jajmans. Right? These were the castes which owned land, which cultivated land, right? Ownership they had over land. While there were other castes which provided services. They were the Kamin caste. So the Jajmans, the pagan caste, and the menial caste were the Kamin caste. And there was a system of exchange between them. So the Jajmans, they will have some agriculture production. A part of it they will give to the Kamins in exchange for the services that Kamin caste will be providing. Kamin caste can be the one, like for example, the washerman caste or the iron smith caste, they will be the Kamin caste. So caste decided occupation. And if you're one of those castes which is considered to be Kamin caste, you will be providing those services to the Jajmans. And same thing applies for the Jajmans as well, right? Occupation and caste they live with one another. So this was the kind of occupation. The Jajmans were the ones who cultivated and owned lands. Kamins were the ones who provided different kinds of services. So the agrarian economy looked like this. It was bifurcated on the basis of this, the Jajmani system. Now the question is, was this equation on an equal footing? We are saying there's reciprocal exchange, right? Which implies that there is some relation over there. But was that relation equal? No. It was not on the basis of equality. It's not that the Jajman and the Kami were at the same level. Rather, those who were owning the land, those who were cultivating the land, they had an upper hand, right? So those who were the upper caste, they owned land, they were more powerful. So indirectly, what we're trying to say here is the caste inequalities that existed, it was reinforced by the Jajmani system. Now you might have a question that why this agrarian economy was on the basis of caste? Why class formation did not happen? See, one of the most important factor for formation of classes, ownership rights, property rights. But the kind of economy that we had back then, property rights had not developed. Concept of ownership rights was not there. Market economy also had not developed. So class-based stratification was not that common at that point of time. So this is how the agrarian economy looked like, and this is how the agrarian social structure looked like. Caste-based formations were there, exchange were taking place on the basis of caste. But after this, the Britishers are coming, and now things started changing. How? The Britishers introduced a bunch of things. Right? So they changed the agrarian relations. Right? They initiated some of these things which changed the agrarian relations. And what did they do? In different parts of the country, they introduced things like zamindari system, a Rotwari system. Overnight, they're creating intermediaries. Who were the zamindars? The zamindars were not cultivating on the land. The zamindars, they had ownership over land, but they were not cultivating. Someone else was cultivating. The zamindars were given the task to collect revenue and pass it on to the Britishers. Right? That is what they were trying to do. And they did not have much interest in the land. If someone is cultivating in that land and was not able to give the revenue that was expected out of that individual, they can throw it off. So land is now becoming a commodity. Property rights they were introduced now. That land is becoming a commodity. Now there's a land market developing now. Emergence of that is happening. Also, Britishers are trying to incentivize or they're trying to force people in different places to go for cash crops. And many times people are not getting the right kind of returns on this. So from sustenance farming now you're moving towards commercialization. So all these things lead to a situation where the farmers are very, very vulnerable. They are not having enough agriculture production. There is change in the cropping pattern. And all these things lead to a situation where there's a massive amount of independence and landlessness in the agrarian economy. And if you look at the class structure, that is now emerging. So in the agrarian economy, there are multiple classes now. But one way to look at it is now state, the British state, the colonial state, it is becoming one of those supra landlords. And then you have all these appointed landlords. The zamindars are appointed landlords. They have been given the ownership rights over property and they're expected to collect revenue and they're expected to give that revenue to that supra landlord that is the state. And this is what happens, appointed landlords. Right? These people are not cultivating on the land, they're just appointed by the British state. So now in the agrarian economy, you have different classes formed. One is these appointed landlords. Another is you have sub-landlords. And then you have people who are actually cultivating on the land. So here also there are certain interesting things that are happening. Many of these landlords, they belong to upper sections of the society. These landlords, they did not have much interest in agriculture. So many times what happens, they will not even be in the rural areas. They will be staying in some urban areas, where mostly cultivation is not happening. So they used to be absent. They were absent landlords. So now who is going to see what kind of cultivation is happening or who's going to monitor that? So what they will do is they will put in place some sub-landlords. And then there are some people who are actually cultivating the land, the farmers, the peasants, the sharecroppers. So let's say the farmers, sharecroppers are here. So they are the ones who are cultivating the land. In between, you might have multiple numbers of sub-landlords. So one sub-landlord is now sub-renting the land. Then another sub-landlord is there who's again further sub-renting it. And then you have some of these absentee landlords here. And then you have the state here, the supra landlord. So what is happening? These guys, the farmers, peasants, sharecroppers, right, they're the ones cultivating the land. They might be generating some 100 units of revenue maybe. And the British, the colonial state at that point of time, it is expecting that it will also get some amount of revenue. So this revenue moves from here to here. And everyone in this entire chain, in this entire hierarchy, will take some amount of commission in between. Right? They will be taking some they will be getting some revenue in between. So all of these people in between, they're not contributing here to the cultivation, to the production, nothing. But they're all taking a part of the revenue. Right? So these people at the bottom, they are the ones who are actually productive. Others are not productive, but they are collecting revenue from all of them. And more the number of these sub-landlords, right? So more amount of lack of productivity in the entire economy. This is what is happening. And more pressure on these folks, by the way, because as per permanent settlement system, the Britishers, they have settled it permanently that this much amount of revenue I should get from this much amount of land. So if there are more people in between, all of them will take their cut, which implies that people at the bottom will get even less because the final revenue that should reach to the top is fixed. It is permanently settled. So this kind of structure is developing now, class structure. Absentee landlords, sub-landlords, and you have the farmers, sharecroppers, peasants at the bottom. So this was the situation before independence, during the British time. Now after independence, things are gradually changing. But that does not mean the class structure ceased to exist. No, class structure exists, but class structure is gradually changing. The role of class might have changed. What is happening in the last 60, 70 years? Multiple things. Technology in agriculture is being used. Modernization is there. With the help of technology, what happens? Efficiency increases. Something that you were able to do only with the help of 10 people, 100 people, 200 people. Now you can do it with the help of machines. So in the agrarian economy, different castes are involved. People from different castes are involved. They're providing different services. That's how the Jajmani system look like. But with the advent of machines, with the use of technology, with mechanization, modernization, all these services can be provided by machines maybe. Right? So different castes providing for the services are not required. So the role of caste in this economy reduces. Apart from that, there is commercialization. Money, finance, commerce. In the past, what used to happen was the Jajmans, they will be cultivating the land and they will provide a part of whatever they've cultivated to the Kamins. Kamins, what they're doing, they're providing services. So this exchange, all this exchange is happening in time. It is not happening in terms of cash. But as the economy is getting commercialized, finance, that is becoming more important. It is in-time transfer. It does not have as much significance now. Right? So the relation that existed between all these castes, the interdependence, that is also getting impacted. Apart from that, now you have better transportation facilities, you have better communication facilities. Also, all the different places in India, they're not growing at the same pace. There's disparities. Also, there is urbanization happening. So all these things leads to migration. People from one part of the country, they move to another part of the country. It's easy to move, and then there are disparities. People from the states of UP, Bihar, Odisha, they're moving to other places. In fact, some of the places, for example, Punjab, Haryana, they're using modern technology in agriculture. It also needs some labor. Right? So migrants from different parts of the country, where you have a lot of young population, where you have more amount of poverty, are moving to some of these states, and these people are providing labor in agriculture sector as well. So the existing relations that existed, maybe let's say a migrant is moving, some migrants are moving from UP Bihar to a place in Punjab or Haryana. So the existing relations that existed in Bihar, rural UP, they're very impacted. The caste relations also impacted. People are also moving to the cities. So in the rural areas, in the agrarian economy, whatever equation was there, that will also change. Politicization is also happening. In rural areas also politicization happens. In fact, green revolution, GR stands for green revolution here. This is something that we introduced in 1960s. High yield variety seeds were introduced. Right? All these things will lead to increase in production, increase in productivity. That is how it was in it led to that. Some of the places where green revolution was introduced, western part of UP, Punjab, Haryana, the agricultural productivity increased massively. Our dependence on other countries for our food that went down. Right? So it was a technological marvel. But it also had a bearing on the social structures, especially agrarian social structures. Green revolution was not a scale neutral technology. It's not that it is benefiting everyone equally. Those who are from the upper classes, those who are from the upper class, middle class to some extent, they are the ones who are benefiting. Those who have small parcels of land, they will not be benefiting because of that. So green revolution is also leading to massive changes in the rural economy, agrarian economy. It also leads to politicization in the sense that those who are in agriculture, they now become a very important political force. You are seeing emergence of different leaders from the agrarian sector. When farmer leaders emerge after this, industrialization is also bringing about changes in the agrarian economy. How people are moving to urban areas, they're working in industries now. So existing caste relations that were there, that is becoming weaker. Education is also bringing about change. So all these things are happening. On top of that, different kinds of policies, programs that are being initiated by the state that also impacts the agrarian economy. Land reforms were initiated before independence. Again, zamindari system was there in large parts of the country. In some places you might have a voice system, in some places not voice system. But the point is, a lot of people who were actually cultivating the land did not have ownership rights. Some intermediary class, the zamindars, they were the ones who were having the ownership rights. So land reforms were initiated to address these kind of issues. Those who are cultivating the land, they should have ownership rights. So multiple kinds of land reforms were initiated. Multiple things were initiated as part of land reforms, community development program, cooperatives. All these things were initiated so that the agrarian class structure changes. So over a period of time, the role of caste gradually declined in the agrarian economy. But does that mean the role of caste is zero? Is it nil in agrarian economy? That is not the case. Even now, most of the agricultural land in India is owned by the traditional cultivating class. Some of those affluent sections, right? They still continue to own that. The poor ones, they don't own it. And whatever the situation, the relation between the traditional cultivating, the caste which traditionally owned and cultivated the land, the Jajmans, and the other caste, that has gradually changed. Caste norms, Jajmani system, all these things do not play a significant role now. Because now there's the different things which are happening, right? The technology has reduced the role for these kind of reciprocal exchanges. Commercialization of economy has happened. People belonging to lower caste, they have now found out different avenues by which they can be better placed in the economy. Right? They're moving to other areas, they're taking up new kind of jobs, maybe they're moving and working in industries. Migration has provided all these things. So the traditional agrarian relations has broken down. But if you look at the ownership now, also the traditional land owning caste, cultivating caste, they are still owning the land. So this is how the situation looks like after independence. Some researchers, they have tried to classify, or they have tried to find out what are those classes which exist right now. On what basis you can classify the classes in agrarian economy? Right? If you have to look at all those people who are engaged in the agrarian economy, on what basis you can find out who is which class? Who is the upper class over there, or middle class over there, or lower class over there? Or is it okay to call them upper class, middle class, lower class, or we should give them some different names? So some researchers have tried to do that. They just look at some of those ways of classifying. The traditional methods, upper class, middle class, might not be correct, or might not be the best way to classify people in the agrarian economy. So researchers like Daniel Thornberg, what they have done is they have looked at certain parameters, and they're saying we can use these parameters to classify people who are in the agrarian economy at this point of time. So what are those parameters? Maybe in rural areas, land is there, so different people have different rights over that. Some people own the land, some people cultivate the land. Right? So on this basis, maybe we can think of classifying the people. Or what we can do is maybe we can think of what kind of income people have over land. Are they renting out the land and making profits? Are they cultivating on the land and as a result of which they're getting some income from that land? Or are they going and working on someone's land as a result of which they're getting some wages? So maybe we can look at how people are making income in rural areas and agrarian areas. Also, what is the amount of field work they're doing? Are they not doing any field work? Or are they doing? Are they only doing field work? Or are they doing field work at some point of time and at other point of time they're asking someone else to do the field work and they're giving them some wages? So on the basis of ownership right, on the basis of what kind of incomes they have, on the basis of what extent of field work they're doing, maybe we can do some classification. So Daniel Thornberg has classified people in the agrarian areas on these bases, and he has come up with 3-4 classifications. So he says one group of people is Malik, another group of people is Kisan, another group of people is Mazdoor. Who are the Malik? They are the ones who have property rights over the land. They are the ones who are owning the land. So because they own that land, they are making money out of it. Maybe they rent it out, maybe they hire laborers who can work on their land. Kisan, they are the ones who own small plots. They don't have large plots, and mostly they are the ones who are working on their own plots. But sometimes maybe during the harvest season, right? So more and more work is required. They and their entire family, they're all pitching in, they're contributing with their labor, but it might not be enough because during harvest season, a lot of work is there. So at that point of time, maybe they will use someone else, right, apart from the family members. But mostly it is they themselves and their family members. Who are the Mazdoor? They do not own any land. They're working on someone's land. So those who are the landless, they are the Mazdoor. Maliks are the one who own large amount of land, but they are not contributing their own labor. Kisan, they own small plots of land. They are using mostly their own family labor. So this is one way to classify. Another way to classify is on the basis of land ownership only, right? Those who have large parcels of land, big landlords, more than 100 acres. Big farmers, somewhere around 15 to 50 acres. Middle farmers, 5 acres to 10 to 15 acres. Small and marginal farmers, less than 5 acres, less than 1 acre. And then landless laborers who do not own any land. So maybe this is also another way to look at it. Also, these criteria that we are seeing, like these numbers, that can also change. Right? On the basis of that also, you can make the classification. So what we'll do is we'll look at how these patterns look like in the present context. Some of the recent studies we look at. Right? How many people who are engaged in agriculture are landless? How many people who are engaged in agriculture, they own large amount of land? What kind of activity they're engaged in? Right? This is something which is interesting, right? When we are saying we're looking at agrarian economy, we assume that everyone is engaged in agriculture. But surprising fact is, some people might not necessarily be engaged in agriculture, or some people might be engaged in agriculture, but they also having something part-time, parallelly they're doing something. So we look at some of these things, and these are all from National Sample Survey, right? Some findings from NSS data. And what we'll see is we look at NSS data from the past and something which is recent, 2002, 2003, 2020, and we'll do a comparison. So how the agrarian social structure is also changing, how the agrarian class structure is also changing, how it looked like in 2002, 2003, and how it looks like in 2020, 2030. So from that also you get an idea to understand the trend. Maybe some of these trends will be even more important in future. So let's see how much, on an average, how much land a household owns in rural areas, right? And how this has changed over a period of time. As per 2002, 2003, average area owned by a household was somewhere around 0.75 hectares. In 2012-13, this has become 0.592. Total area owned was somewhere around 1,06,000. It has become 92,000. So overall area in agriculture has gone down. It is something which you can easily understand, right? Because we are moving towards the direction of urbanization. So area under agriculture is one of these. Average area owned per household has gone down. Why is this happening? See, the average area is going down because of two things primarily. One is the overall area under agriculture has gone down. But if area under agriculture has gone down, the number of people engaged in agriculture would have also gone down. That way, average area would have remained the same, or maybe not, it would have increased. But what is also happening is the number of people engaged in agriculture, they're not moving out of agriculture. The population in agriculture might increase. Why this is the case? Population increase is something which is natural. Right? Population increases. And we have not seen that phase where our population is becoming lesser over a period of time. Then the other thing that would happen, that should have ideally happened, is people moving out of agriculture to services and manufacturing. People, the next generation not coming with agriculture. But that has not happened. Why this is not happening? Possibly we have not been able to create enough jobs for people to move out of agriculture to manufacturing and services. So the overall land that is there in agriculture has gone down, We have not been able to take out people from agriculture to manufacturing services. The number of people engaged in agriculture remains huge. It has not declined significantly. As a result of which, per household, the amount of land that is available has decreased. Now, what is the concern? What is the issue? If the size of land available is less, the production might also be less, which implies all these households, their incomes will also be less, which implies they have to find out some other source of income, or else the standard of living will go down. Right? So this is one major area of concern. Now let's look at some other numbers. So here what we see is what proportion of households are having how much amount of land? Less than 0.002 hectares, right? Between 0.002 hectares to 1 hectares. Between 1 hectare to 2 hectares. Right? So exactly. Greater than 10,000 hectares. Between these two surveys, 2002, 2003, 2012, 2013, how have things changed? So one thing you can notice here is landlessness according to this particular definition is those who are having less than 0.002 hectares. This is something which has gone down from 10% to 7.4%. What about marginal holdings? It has gone up. Small, more or less same. Right? So again, all these numbers are quite low. This number is huge, like marginal land holdings. So if you just look at this point, look at this table, it seems good in the sense that landlessness has gone up. And landlessness is defined as owning less than 0.002 hectares of land. So those who are holding less than 0.002 hectares of land, their proportion in the total population has gone up. It's a good thing or not? Now, two things here. That if you consider landlessness as something which is less than 0.002 hectares, it has gone up, it's a good thing. But is it even viable to have 1 hectare of land? Is it economically viable? If you're having just 1 hectare of land, how much income will you have? Maybe not much. So if you just change the definition of landlessness to less than 1 hectare of land, then what will happen? This number is actually increasing. So the point is, how do you view landlessness? Is landlessness not having any land? Is landlessness having less than 0.0 hectares of land? Is landlessness having less than 1 hectare of land? I mean, at the end of the day, why are you doing all these kind of classification? To find out whether people in the agrarian economy, they are having the right source of income or not. What kind of economic situation they are in. Keep in mind, class is related to your wealth situation, class is related to your income levels, is related to your material well-being. Less than 1 hectare of land is also not, will not lead to huge incomes. The material well-being is not really changing. So the way you are defining things, right, that will again lead to different results. And forget about that. What is also a cause of concern is marginal landholders. Their proportion has increased 69.69% to 70%. So again, the number of people who are owning just 1 hectare of land, that has just increased. That has increased, right? That has increased almost 5-6%. That is also a cause of concern. Right, so this is how it looks like in the rural areas. This is how you can divide people or classify people on the basis of how much amount of land you own. Now, this particular illustration is also interesting. Here, what is the amount of land people own and what kind of things that people do? People who are in the agrarian economy, you would expect them to participate in agricultural activities. You would expect them to cultivate the land. But interesting thing is, those who are owning very less amount of land, mostly they don't cultivate. Those who are owning less than 0.01 hectare of land, just 1.6% of them are actually cultivating the land. They're engaged in many other things. Right? Some of them are working as laborers, they're getting some wages. So most of them are doing something else. Only those who are having comparatively large tracts of land, at least 1 hectare of land, they are the ones who are mostly engaged in cultivation. But keep in mind, they're also engaged in other things. Some of them are into livestock, some of them are into some other non-agricultural activities as well. And those who are having less than 1 hectare, they're also engaged in many other things, wages and other activities. So it shows that agriculture on its own might not be very remunerative. You have to do something else in parallel. Now, what kind of tenancy agreements people are into? What kind of contracts are there? Right? So many times what happens is people might not have their own land. They will be cultivating someone else's land. So what kind of agreement they have? Most of these tenants, they give some fixed money for this year. I'll be paying this much amount of money. Next year, I'll be paying this much amount of money. I'll be cultivating the land. Whatever I cultivate, I'll make some money. That will become mine. I'll give you something in return. But the second most thing is share profit. So people cultivate on someone else's land and they give a part of their produce to the owners of the land. So that's the second most thing. So this table gives you an idea what kind of tenancy contracts exist now. So this is how, at the present, or at least some of the recent studies, what they found out, how the agrarian social structure, agrarian class structure looks like. So this is about agrarian class structure. I just want to recap what was the major findings before the Britishers came. The agrarian social structure, you did not have class formations. It was at a very nascent stage, if it existed somewhere. It was mostly caste based. Like agrarian economy dependent on caste. Right? People had certain kinds of equations. The money system was there, reciprocal exchange of goods and services used to be there. When Britishers are coming to India, they are now bringing in different kinds of changes. And they are impacting the agrarian economy as well. Right? So they're coming up with permanent settlement, some system is introduced. And it all leads to commodification of land. Land becomes a commodity now. And new classes are also emerging. One way to think of it is the state itself is becoming a landlord. And then the state is creating different kinds of appointed landlords. Another way to think of it is different kinds of classes are formed. One is the absentee landlords. So that's mostly they were not in the rural areas, they will be in the urban areas. Then there will be sub-landlords who will be in the rural areas. And again, there will be multiple sub-landlords. And then you have the people who are actually cultivating on the land who do not have any ownership rights. Like they are the peasants, they are the sharecroppers, they are the farmers, they cultivate the land. So this kind of class structure is emerging. Now, after India becomes independent, different kinds of policies the governments at different points of time are introducing. Technology is changing, economy is changing, transport communication facilities are going better, migration is happening, industrialization is there, urbanization is there. All these things lead to a situation where the caste relations that were there, they are gradually becoming weaker. And does that mean caste doesn't exist? It is only class in agrarian economy? That was also not true. Now also, who owns land? Most likely, those who traditionally own land, those who traditionally cultivate on land. They are the ones who still have a significant role over there. But caste regulations are not as strong in the agrarian economy as they used to be a couple of centuries before. So this is how agrarian social structure looks like. Now, moving to the next part, middle classes. Right, as I was mentioning some time back, it is kind of still easy to find out who are the upper classes, who are the lower classes. But who are the middle classes? It is difficult to identify. And usually the term middle class is there in the news. And we saw what is the reason why middle class is typically are in the news. And we ourselves might be using the term quite frequently, we might be referring ourselves as middle class. But what is this middle class? Who are this middle class? What is the role they have played? How they have emerged in India? How the size of the middle class might have changed after independence? Also, what are some of the recent studies about the middle class? So this is what we're going to take up in the next few minutes. Right? Some understanding of middle class we will try to have. These kind of things are very relevant in social issues paper 1 as well as in the essay. In essay, sometimes you might get questions related to this. Sometimes what they will do is they will link middle class with some other topic. Women and middle classes. How has globalization impacted the middle classes? How have middle class women impacted because of urbanization? Right? Sometimes these kind of linkages are there. So it makes sense for us to understand these kind of terms better. Now, as I was saying, it is easy to understand what the upper class and the lower class. Upper class are those who own the means of production. What is means of production? All those things which are required to produce. So those who own, let's say, factories, or those who have the right kind of networks, those who have access to finances, capital, industrialists, the businessmen, right? They are the upper classes. On the other hand, who are the lower classes, working classes? They are the one who contribute their labor. They sell their labor, and in return they get some wages. Right? So those who have the labor power, they are the lower classes. But somewhere in between, we have the middle class. How do you characterize that? How do you find that? So middle classes are those who have some form of education qualification, technical qualification. They are different professionals, lawyers, doctors, engineers. They are the middle classes. So what we are trying to say here is they have different strategies to, I mean, if you have to think of these three classes, right? All these three classes have different relation with the means of production. Upper class is the one which owns this land, different kinds of machinery, right? They're the ones who are owning factories, organizations, firms, they're owners of that. The middle classes, they will be providing these requisite skills. They have different kinds of specialization. They use that. And the labor is from the lower working classes. So different ways they are earning rewards on the market, and they have different equations with the means of production. So this is one way to think about it. Now the question is, how do the middle classes look in the Indian context? And to understand that, we have to go back in history. To understand how did middle class emerge in the Indian context? Is there any difference between the middle class in the West and the Indian middle class? So B.B. Mishra has tried to find out this difference. He's actually found out, he's tried to study how the middle class emerged in the West. So B.B. Mishra is saying is, in the West, for example, the European countries, there were different kinds of technological changes. There were different kinds of changes in the economy. All these things led to the emergence of the middle class. I'll give you an example. In the past, you had some classes which owned land, they were the landowning classes, and there were others who were working in that land. You had the feudal system. But then merchants are emerging because technology is changing, economy is changing, merchants, traders, bankers, they are emerging. They are gradually becoming the middle classes. So technological changes, economic changes is leading the emergence of that middle class over there. But at one thing, they were all engaged in trade and industry. The middle class is over there. They're the ones who are initiating this formation of industries. They're the ones who are causing the process of industrialization over there. But in India, this is not the case. In India, middle classes are not forming because of all these changes, economic changes, technological changes. Trade and industry is not actually contributing to the emergence of middle class. According to Mishra, he's saying that in India, if you look at textile industry, existed long back. Guilds of merchants, they existed long back. But it's not leading to the emergence of middle class. Rather, in the Indian context, it is the British rule which leads to the emergence of middle classes. Contact with the British rule leads to the emergence of middle class. So it is the colonial rule which causes formation of middle class. How? See, Britishers, they come to India, they have their own interest. But how do they perpetuate their own interest? They are again coming up with different mechanisms. They are setting up legal mechanisms. They are creating the entire public administration network throughout the country. For example, civil administration, judicial administration, all these things, they are the ones who are setting it up. But someone has to be there who can provide support to these things. So they are now promoting English education. So that the lower rungs of these institutions that they are creating up will be filled by Indians who are going to support them. So this is leading to over a period of time creation of the middle classes. In fact, we'll see how the middle classes form. But primarily it was the contact with the Britishers, or it was the interest of the Britishers which is leading to formation of their self-interest. They don't want to create a middle class, so to say. They want to fulfill their own interest, and in this process, middle class form. And we are saying that most of the people who became part of the middle class in India, they were from the learned profession. So what we'll do is we'll see how the middle classes emerged in the Indian context. So first thing, as the Britishers are coming to India, they also require some help, they require some support. So they need translators, for example, because maybe they will not be able to understand the languages in different parts of the country. There's massive amount of languages. Also, sometimes they will need some traders in between, right, to take their goods to the markets or for different other purposes. So some communities in India who were traditionally the traders made, right, so they are coming in contact with the Britishers. Some people who helped Britishers with the language translators, right, so they are now coming in close contact with the British, they're getting some benefits, and they are becoming the middle classes. Apart from that, Britishers are introducing English education, right, mass education, they're introducing, and again, they're introducing it for their own self-interest, because they are now creating public administrative mechanisms, judicial administration, all these things. For that, they need some people who can take up different kinds of positions here, not necessarily the opposition, but at the lower levels. So they are promoting mass education. So over a period of time, some castes, which were again traditionally educationally forward, they're taking up this education. And you now see emergence of different kinds of professions, lawyers, teachers, doctors, government servants. But keep in mind, there is some caste link also here. Usually those castes which were traditionally educationally forward, upper caste who have had traditional position, traditional opposition, the caste hierarchy, they are the ones who are taking it up. So this is what is happening. And all these things is benefiting the Britishers. Because these middle classes, they're supporting, or not necessarily directly supporting it, but they're helping Britishers in whatever activities they're taking it up. Right? So it is promoting indirectly their interest, their commercial as well as the commercial interest, and it is helping them setting up the European enterprises in India. But over a period of time, the middle class stance is also gradually changing. The middle class is educated, they're now aware, they're understanding that the present social realities are not good. They are realizing about different kinds of social customs that are prevalent in Indian society, which are inhuman, maybe, which are against human dignity. So many of the people from the middle classes, they're initiating different kinds of social reform movements. They're questioning these existing social practices. So different kinds of social religious reform movements were initiated at this point of time. Different kinds of organizations also came up. Some of the members of the middle classes, they started raising political questions as well. They're realizing that India might be becoming economically backward because of the British rule. There's a drain of wealth happening from India to somewhere else. So they are figuring this out. And they're questioning the legitimacy of the British rule now. And they are the ones who are giving foundation to the national movement, the struggle for independence. They're providing leadership to that. And eventually, nationalism develops, becomes strong, and India is becoming independent. But the role of middle class does not remain restricted to this. After independence, you still have the middle class. In fact, the middle class has become much more diverse now. Different government policies might have played a role here. Apart from that, technology changes, economic changes, that also leads to the proliferation of middle class. It also leads to diversification, expansion of middle class. So now you have so many occupations. Previously, the number of occupations was limited. Economic changes, technology changes, there's division of labor, there's specialization. So many occupations are there. Apart from that, mass education, we have number of colleges, number of schools, colleges, all these things have increased. In 1990s, we went for liberalization, privatization, globalization, reforms. So the number of economic opportunities has also increased. Private players' participation in the economy has increased. Foreign players' participation in the economy has increased. FDI, trade, all these things have increased. So the middle class has again consolidated over a period of time. Right? And the number of entrepreneurial opportunities also increased. Not only in urban areas, you also find middle classes in the rural areas as well. The rural areas are also linked to the markets. They're better linked to the markets now. In rural areas, also number of opportunities have increased. Also, different kinds of schemes, policies have been initiated over there. Green revolution, cooperative movements. So middle classes were mostly concentrated in urban areas before independence. After independence, you also see middle classes in rural areas. So this is something which is an interesting feature. So this is how the middle classes have emerged in Indian context, and this is how the middle classes look like. Now the question that you might have is, what is the size of middle class in India? Because every now and then you keep on reading about this that we have a large middle class, we have a large chunk of people, we are going to have a large chunk of people in the middle classes. They're the ones who will be the consumers of electronics, consumers of this, that. They will be the ones who will be spending a lot of money on different kinds of services. As a result of which, our economy will do even better. There will be more investment, there will be more trade, there will be more economic opportunities, more jobs will be created because of that. Now, how much of all this is true? That's the thing. And again, how do you find this out? Find out what is the size of the middle class. And you don't have to find out. There have been multiple studies to find out the size of the middle class. And here again, you will not find one data, or you will not find one exact number. Why? depending on how you count from where middle class starts to where middle class ends, the number will be different. So the point is, counting can also be something which is subjective. Depending on how you're defining something, your results will be different. So what we do is for the next couple of minutes, we'll just look at what are some of the findings. Right? What is the size of the middle class? And again, we'll see what is the factor that they've taken into consideration on that. And we'll see how if the factor changes, those components changes, the size of the middle class will also vary. You research one of the leading organizations when it comes to research, when it comes to survey, they do one different kind of survey, they try to find out perceptions of people. Right? So you research, what they do is they try to find out what is the size of middle class in India. And what they're saying, if the daily per capita income is between $10 to $20 USD, and it is adjusted to purchasing power parities. If it is between $10 to $20, then you qualify as middle class. As per this number was expected to be 9.9 crores by 2020. This was the expectation. Would have been. So 9.9 crores is not a huge number, right? 130 crore population out of that 9.9 crores, hardly 10%, not even 10% less than that. So if this is the criteria taken, the size of the middle class is not that huge. And this is what was expected to be the size of the middle class by 2020. And because of the pandemic, a lot of people are getting pushed back into poverty. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people had wage cuts, salary cuts. So according to Pew Research, in 2021, this number was actually 6.6 crores. 6.6 crores out of 130 crores is a very small number. So if this is the criteria, the size of the middle class in India is not huge. And all these optimistic projections that this middle class income is increasing, they will be spending a lot of money, it will be a boost economic activity, might not be true. Or it might be just too much optimism. Now, there are some studies in India as well. National Council for Applied Economic Research, they did a study, and they're saying that if the household income is between rupees 2 lakhs to 10 lakhs per annum in 2010, then you qualify as middle class. According to them, this number was 15.3 crores in 2010. So again, this number, 15.3 crores, is definitely way more than 9.9 crores or 6.6 crores. But still, 15.3 crores out of 130 crores is not a huge number. But still, 15.3 crores is not a huge number. So, and keep in mind, 15.3 crores implies this is the middle class. The upper class will definitely be even smaller and it will be very small. Which implies the number of people in the lower classes will be huge. Which implies India has a large number of people who are very, very poor, who do not even have this particular income. Center for Global Development, US-based organization, what they did was they used another kind of criteria. They're saying if the income is between $10 to $50, adjusting for purchasing power parity to 2010, then you qualify as middle class. According to it, the size of the middle class is 7 crores. Again, which is a very small number. There was this article in Economist in 2018, and there was a lot of debate at that point of time. And I think, if I'm not wrong, the title of the article was The Missing Middle Class. 85% of the at that point of time. So what it is saying is, only 7.8 crore Indians make somewhere around $10 a day. And this is 2014 data. So $10 a day is not a huge number, and just 7.8 crore people are making it. Which implies huge section of population does not even make $10 a day. They're surviving at a lesser amount. Which is again a cause of cancer. So this shows that we have a large lower class, maybe. Middle class is not as huge. All this optimistic scenario might not have been on the basis of empirical evidence, on the basis of data. And what the article pointed out was the proportion making somewhere around $10 a day has hardly changed in between 2000 and 2016. And India's mean GDP per head is just $1,700. 80% of the population makes less than that. So again, a cause of concern, a cause of alarm. So we saw different estimates. One is saying 2021 is 6.6 crore. It was expected to be 9.9 crores by 2020, but because of the pandemic, things have become worse. One data point is saying it's around 7 crores in 2010. One data point is saying in 2010 it was around 15 crores. Another is saying it's around 7.8 crores. So all these different estimates were getting because you have changed the criteria. But whatever the case, till this point of time we saw that the most optimistic scenario was 15.3 crores. And maybe we accept that number, and maybe that number was 15.3 crores in 2010, maybe it would have increased by this point of time. But still, the size of the middle class is less. Now, there was one very interesting study in 2017. It was conducted, it was sponsored by Lok Foundation and implemented by Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. What they did was they went to the people. They had a large sample, and they went to people and they asked them, do you consider your family to be middle class in India? They went and asked people how people perceive themselves, where they belong to. Do they belong to upper classes? Do they belong to the lower classes? Or do they belong to the middle class? Surprisingly, the sample that they took, in a representative sample, 49% of the Indians thought that they're part of the middle class. If you look at the numbers that we saw, 6.6 crore, 7 crore, 15.3 crore, not even 20% of the population, less than that. But 49% of the population thinks that they're middle class. So somewhere, we think that a lot of people think that they're middle class, but they're not. They're poor. So this is what the study found out. So these are some things which are kind of interesting. I thought I should share with you. Size of the middle class is not as huge as we think it to be. And one of the reasons could be this: people themselves assume that they're part of the middle class, they might not be. And size of the upper class is very small, which in turn implies there is massive amount of inequality in the Indian context. We have not been able to create too much wealth. We have not been able to create too many jobs to ensure that people have a larger income, so that they can be part of a larger middle class. Now there are a few more things here. Typically, it is assumed that middle class will be at the forefront. They are expected to be cultural entrepreneurs. They're expected to bring about change in the culture. I think the middle class, they have some technical qualifications, they have some skill sets, right? They're educated. And it's because of all these things, they're expected to bring about change in the culture. In fact, this is what the middle class did before independence, right? They were the cultural entrepreneurs. They questioned the existing social evils. They were the ones who brought about, or they questioned the existing injustices, social injustices. Caste system, they were questioning the kind of atrocities that were committed against women, things like that. They were questioning widow marriage was not something which was considered taboo in society. They were questioning it, and widow marriage laws also changed. Child marriage was questioned. So they are changing the culture. They also trying to bring about change in the lifestyle of people. But at this point of time, do you think middle class is playing this role? Are they at the forefront in bringing about change in the society? Is the middle class extremely progressive? It may not be the case. The middle class in India right now might not be at the forefront in bringing about some of these changes. Are they modern? They might not be. Why do I say this? Look at the different empirical evidence. How do people in India marry? On what basis they choose their partners? What is that factor that is taken into consideration? Most likely, they will marry within the same caste. Most likely, they will marry within the same religion. So now also, the middle class is not that individualistic in its approach. All these traditional ties, family identities, it still is important. Maybe in professional areas, these things have become less important. But when it comes to personal relations, these things are still considered important by the middle classes. So they have what's called as particular orientation. So indirectly, what we're trying to say is social conditioning, how they have been influenced by society, by social conditioning, that still remains strong. Their behavior, their reactions, actions, responses, middle class is impacted by that. Look at some of the other things, right? Things like dowry, right? It's still prevalent. It happens throughout the length and breadth of the country. Things like honor killing still exists. What about changing the position of women? Hasn't changed much. Now also different kinds of activities are committed against women. Caste, again, it has not changed drastically over a period of time. Discrimination on the basis of caste. So middle class should have ideally played a significant role in bringing about these kind of changes. Right? They're expected to be cultural entrepreneurs. These are the words of Sanjay Joshi. But all these things have not changed as you would expect it to be. So this is about middle class and certain dimensions related to the middle classes in India. So next thing that we will see is the institution of family. Right? How does family look like in the Indian context? What are the changes happening within the institution of family? What are the factors causing these changes? So we move to the next topic, that is family. That's also part of the features of Indian society. The next feature of Indian society, diversity and unity. In fact, this is one of the most important features. I consider it to be one of the most important features. So, diversity. What do we mean by diversity? Diversity means collective differences which mark off one group for the other. Let's say there's a group of people. They have something in common. There's something which holds them together. But then there's another group. They have something in common which is different from this group. For example, let's say there's a group here. They all speak the same language. They all speak Tamil. There's another group of people here. They speak the same language, but this language is Punjabi. So on the basis of what they speak, what language they speak, you can differentiate this group from other. Collective differences. Difference that exists between collectivity of people. One collectivity is here, one group is here, another collectivity is here, another group is here. What differentiates one group from other? In case of India, we have massive amount of diversity. In fact, this is, if you have been going through the lectures, right, features of Indian society, right, you would have already realized. We started with caste system in India. Right? So Indian society, you have what is called as a caste system. So the impact of caste system might have changed over a period of time, but now also caste exists. People associate themselves with caste. And it's not just a fourfold classification. You have more than 4,000 endogamous groups, the jatis. So there is huge diversity along these lines. Tribal communities, we used one form of classification, the classification. Then also we saw so many different tribes are there in India. Religion, again, people practice different faith. And again, within each of the religion, again, practices might vary. There is huge diversity over there. There are so many sects and cults also emerging apart from those religions that we talked about. There are also people who might not subscribe to any faith. Family structures, we were trying to understand. Here also there is massive variation. How the families are organized. We saw different kinds of families can be there, and they do exist in India. The way the structure of the family, the function of the family also varies from place to place. Very local, all the different combinations. Size of the families also vary. Then also you have diversity. So the point is, you have massive diversity in India. And these are some parameters. On top of that, there can be other factors as well. The way classes are there, the way people are divided, stratified into classes, it can vary. The extent of socioeconomic development might change from place to place. In some region, socioeconomic development levels are good. In some other places, socioeconomic development levels are not good. Literacy rates can vary. Per capita incomes can vary. So within India, again, you have different areas maybe. So all these shows how much diverse a country like India is in terms of religion, caste, tribe, culture. Go from one district to another, you find a different culture. The kind of food people are eating, people different. The kind of functions they're celebrating, the kind of festivals they're celebrating, people different. Some people say that go from one place to another, cuisine changes. You might have seen all these travel bloggers going from one place to another and they will write how the food has changed from this place to another. Language. So many languages are spoken in India. Many languages, they might not even have their own written script. So many dialects, tribal communities, among them there is so much variations in terms of the language they speak. And yeah, look at India's geography. So varied. You have the Himalayas, you have the Thar Desert, then you have the coastal areas, you have the plateau. And keep in mind, people's lifestyle is also related with the kind of geography that they are in. If you are in a desert, people's dresses, customs, the kind of food they consume, it will be dependent on that. If someone is staying in a cold desert, everything will be different. If they're staying in a forested region, their practices will be different. Given that India has so much amount of regional diversity, all these practices and everything will be different. People's livelihood will be different. People stay in the coastal areas. Their again, food might be different, their livelihood might be different, they might be dependent on the oceans for that. So India is diverse. What I do is I just show you some illustrations before we move to one interesting question. Right, so there's these illustrations. Again, this illustration shows you different kinds of practices to the length and breadth of the country. What kind of celebrations we have, what kind of recreational activities people take up, what kind of sports people pursue. All these things are depicted here. Now let's move to another illustration. So this is about which language is spoken in which part of the country. Basically, if you divide India into different states and see which is the language that is most spoken in that particular state, how will it look like? So all these different color codes that you see, therefore languages. For example, this orange saffron color is Hindi. And you can see large parts of the country, especially the central part of India. Again, it's called Hindi heartland. Most of the people in these states speak Hindi. Gujarati, Marathi, Kannada, in Andhra Pradesh, as well, Telangana is Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Oriya, Bengali. Right? So different parts of the country, different states in India. The most spoken language is reflected here. What is interesting is this particular illustration is so colorful. Right? So look at the northeastern states, massive variation here as well. Assamese, Mizo, Nishi. Right? So different kinds of languages you find here. So this shows so much amount of linguistic diversity that we have in India. Now let's do some twist to it. Let's see which is the second most commonly spoken language in each of these states. Now the color changes drastically and see how it looks like. Look at this dark green color, maybe Urdu. So Urdu is the most commonly, not most, the second most commonly spoken language in Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, as well as Andhra Pradesh. Look at in Rajasthan, the second most commonly spoken language, not only in Rajasthan as well as Haryana, is Punjabi. This light green is Punjabi. In Orissa, again, is Bengali. In Chhattisgarh is Oriya. So it shows how people might have moved from one place to another and how a particular language is becoming the second most common language in different parts of the country. So it shows the extent of diversity, linguistic diversity in India. Now, I just wanted to show you certain paintings. These are all different kinds of tribal paintings. At some point of time, we discussed how we have so many tribal communities in India and how their practices also vary, how their beliefs also vary, how they might practice different types of religion, how they might speak different kind of languages. Many of these tribes they create things as well. They create these beautiful paintings and see how all these paintings are different from one another. These are all from different tribal communities. For example, this is a Gond painting, Gond painting by Gond tribals. So again, mostly in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, you have Gonds. So this is the kind of paintings they make. This is a Sora painting done by Sora tribes in Orissa. This is a Bhil painting. One thing that we observe is this. If you zoom, you'll observe that this painting is composed of dots. That's how they do it. This is a Sohai painting by some communities in Jharkhand. This is again painting made by communities, tribal groups in West Bengal, Jharkhand. So this is so colorful. The way they are interpreting things around them, the way they're interpreting things they participate in, it is completely different. Right? So this also reflects the amount of diversity that exists in the Indian context. Now, one obvious question from this, from all that we saw, India has so much amount of diversity, right? So these paintings, they give you an idea how much diversity that we have in the Indian context. Now, another way also we can think of diversity. In India, there are different regions, right? In different regions, the extent of socioeconomic development is also different. As a result of which, if you look at a region's performance in terms of different socioeconomic indicators, literacy rate or income, that will also vary. So let's look at some of these numbers. If you look at GDP per capita, it gives you an idea about how much economic activity is happening here. It gives you an idea about how much income people are having. So here also, look at the variation. In Bihar, the GDP per capita is around $2,300. And in Goa, the GDP per capita is somewhere around $22,000, almost 10 times. Huge variation, right? So people's living standards, how different it will be, how varied it will be. People's life chances, it will vary massively. Literacy rate. Look at Bihar. Bihar's literacy rate is somewhere around 64%. So if you take 100 people, 36 of them most likely would not have seen a school, would not have been within the classrooms. On the other hand, Kerala is the most literate state. 94% of people who are in this part of the country, they are literate. Huge variation. Now, fertility rate. Fertility rate implies, on an average, how many children a female is expected to give birth to in her lifespan. So fertility rate in Bihar is 3. An average female, on an average, a female in Bihar is expected to give birth to 3 children. On the other hand, Sikkim has the worst fertility rate. A state which is not very far from Bihar. Right? It is just 1.1 lowest fertility rate. Life expectancy. How many years, on an average, an individual is expected to survive? Assam, the life expectancy is 64 years. Kerala, the life expectancy is 75 years. Huge difference, 11 years. A person in Assam is most likely going to survive 11 years less than a person who is in Kerala. Again, life expectancy is dependent on a host of factors. Most likely, the kind of health infrastructure that you have, the kind of health services that you have, the kind of public health factors that you have. So huge variations here. So now the obvious question that you might have is, if you have so much variations in the country, if you have that much amount of diversity in the country, how come there is unity as well? You have people speaking different languages. You have people following different kinds of customs. You have people following different kinds of caste regulations, maybe regulations of the caste system. You have people who are at different levels of social-economic development. So how come there is unity despite so much amount of diversity? And this is a valid question, right? Because different people will have different interests. A part of their identity will be the language they speak, will be the caste they are part of, will be the tribe they belong to, will be the religion they have faith in. So there are people who are so different from one another. And on top of that, the social development is also very massively, 10 times GDP per capita between the state which performs the best and the state which performs the worst. So what ensures that there is this amount of unity in the Indian context? Now, what I would suggest is maybe you can just pause for a minute. Right? Again, whatever is there in the screen will come to this, but I would suggest pause for a minute and reflect. What ensures that there is unity among people in India? And yeah, there is more or less unity, right? We all have a part of our identity, or a part of our identity is unity. It's a part of the Indian society. So we subscribe to this. So how come we have this unity? How come we are all integrated? But what I would suggest is always try to link different things together, right? You've already studied history, you've studied geography, economics, international relations, all these things that you've studied. Always try to link different subjects together. Don't study something in isolation. Here also, to answer this question, what you can do is maybe look at architecture, maybe look at history. From there, you'll get some points. In fact, you can also look at economics, geography as well, politics as well. What can be some of the factors which has held the Indian society together? If you look at history, you will find different monarchs in India, different points of time. They have tried to expand their empires. They have tried to bring large part of the country present in India under their foot. Yes, all these things would have been for smaller relations. But when you are making these attempts, when these monarchs would have made these attempts, it would have also led to fusion of ideas. It would have led to a flow of ideas across different places within this large entity. You have examples of Mauryan Empire, you have example of Gupta Empire, and again, other points of time, for example, Mughal Empire. There have been instances where a large part of the present India was under the control of one particular elite. All these things might have helped, at least from the perspective of culture, civil and culture, have been developed. There would have been some form of integration because of that flow of ideas. Then when the British are coming to India, they are to a large extent trying to create an administrative unity. In the sense that similar kind of administrative mechanisms that they're creating, judicial system, civil administration system, they're trying to create, right? So that might have also played its role. But the most important factor that has helped in creation of this unity is the Indian state itself, which has been formed through the constitution. Look at the Indian constitution. Look at the fundamental features of the Indian constitution. Look at the fundamental principles over there. All these different features, principles plays a very significant part in holding the Indian society together. Let us look at some of these features one by one. The Indian constitution creates the Indian state, and one of the features it talks about is federalism. That means you have not one government. You have government at the union level, you also have government at the level of the states. How does it help in holding the country together? Let's say there was just one government, unity form of government, one government at the center. India is huge. There are different sets of people, there are different varieties of different. People in Kerala, they're trying to do something. People in the northern parts of India, they're trying to do something. People in the extreme east, the northeastern part of India, they're trying to do different. If you have just one government, understanding these diverse preferences would have been extremely difficult. People's preference would be something, the government would have provided for something. It would have led to different kinds of conflicts. And maybe there would have been emergence of different kinds of conflicts and physical tendencies would have been there. And maybe some of these places, some of these regions would have said, okay, we don't want to be part of the Indian Union. That might have been a possibility. But what we did, we created a federal setup. So different states are formed. And again, mostly they're formed on some cultural basis. Either they're formed on the basis of language or they're formed on the basis of ethnic identity. Some of the states in the northeastern part of India based on ethnic identity, tribal identities, ethnic identity. So this ensures that people have a say in things that are most relevant to them. The state governments provide most of the services which you use on a day-to-day basis, which impact you on a day-to-day basis, law and order, education, health, all these things. Usually, the states provide for, and people themselves are deciding for it. So federalism helps in holding people together. It helps in ensuring that people feel that they are the ones who are controlling their own destinies. Not only federalism, we also have one concept ahead. We have democratic decentralization. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, it talks about democratic decentralization. Panchayat institutions, other local bodies, they're part of the constitution. So people govern on their own. People govern themselves. Panchayat institutions, other local bodies, different kinds of services. People decide on their own. Like they decide what is important for them and accordingly they find a place for that. Another very important aspect, apart from federalism and democratic decentralization, is the provision for secularism. The Indian state does not have a state religion. The Indian state maintains equal distance from all religion. Indian state does not favor one religion or does not discriminate against one religion. It maintains equal distance. Just imagine a scenario where the Indian state would have formed on the basis of religion. They would have a state religion, maybe. Just like you have Pakistan, Islamic State of Pakistan. So it would have meant that other communities, they will not get equal treatment, which in turn would have led to discontentment among these religions. But no, we went ahead with secularism. Equal distance is being maintained with all religions. And on top of that, we also provide for different kinds of fundamental rights related to religion. Minorities, they might have some apprehension because we are a democracy. Democracy means rule of the majority, which also implies that minorities might not have enough say. So we go ahead with some provisions which ensure that minorities' rights are also protected. So we have different kinds of minority rights. Also, there are so many rights enshrined within the Constitution, the fundamental rights, right to equality. There should not be discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, religion. Also, the society back then was not progressive, traditional, different kind of primordial identities. People subscribe to other, different kinds of discriminatory inhuman practices were being carried out. There were certain communities which were lagging behind. The Constitution recognizes that. The Constitution abolishes different kinds of inhuman practices. Untouchability is an example of that. Trafficking of human beings. Again, the Constitution recognizes this, it abolishes it. And the Constitution recognizes that there are certain sections of the population which are lagging behind, they have to be uplifted. And it comes up with provisions for that. Affirmative action, positive discrimination, schedule caste, schedule, multiple features within the Constitution are for that. Schedule 5 of the Constitution, schedule 6 of the Constitution, representation in legislature, representation in politics, representation in employment, public employment, representation in educational institutions. Right? So all these, if all these things were not there, some communities would have lagged behind. Discriminatory practices against them would have continued. Not that it has been completely eliminated, but they're moving in a positive direction. If all these discriminatory practices would have continued, if upliftment of certain communities would not have happened, they would have discontentment among them. And all these things would have led to physical tendencies, breaking the unity of the Indian society. So our Constitution has played a significant role. On top of it, the makers of the Constitution, they also realized two things here. That in future, new problems might emerge, new issues can emerge. So they also have given some flexibility. They realized that Constitution should not be something which should be static. Constitution should be dynamic, it should evolve with time. So there are also provisions to change the Constitution so that it takes into consideration the requirements of the society. Society changes, the needs might also change, and the constitution can be accordingly modified. So there is provision for that. Also, the constitution makers, famous constitution realized that there can be instances where the unity of the state, the unity of society might be compromised. There can be some risks. So that is why they have also provided for some special circumstances where Indian government will have a larger role to play. The federal constitution that we have might have more unitary features at that point of emergency constitutions are there. So the point is, the Indian state that we have created, we are part of it now, we might have created the framework of the constitution and we are part of it, we want to do the Indian state, by the way. So this document has played a very, very significant role in holding the society together, right? I would want you to appreciate this document. Like, I would appreciate you to look at this document from this angle. Don't look at it as a document which has X number of articles, it has X number of parts, etc. Look at the features of this and how this has played a very, very significant role in our society. It's a legal document, but massive role when it comes to society. So all these are different provisions, how our constitution prevents discrimination, how it promotes equality, how it is promoting the social economic interest of some of the most vulnerable sections, right? All these things are mentioned here, and I'm pretty sure you would have either gone through your political lessons or you're going to go through the political lessons. Again, you'll come across some of these points at that point of time, try to link it. Like some of these things I just mentioned, Schedule 5, Schedule 6 of the Constitution, they will realize what, or they will study what these Schedule 5, Schedule 6 of the Constitution are and how they are playing a spirit. This is about unity and diversity. We are a diverse society, but we are also a united society. This is important. There are some elements which might be of concern. At some point, I mean, we have also seen instances which threaten the unity of the nation, but we have also seen that those elements which bind the nation together are stronger. We will see some of those issues which have threatened the unity of the nation. We will study regionalism, communalism, these things as we proceed. We have separate sessions on that. We'll see that. But at the same time, we'll see how some of these things can be overcome. So this is about the different features of Indian society. We talked about caste system, we talked about tribes, we talked about religions, we talked about social classes in India. Also, we saw how there is this diversity in India and how despite the diversity, we are united. And we also looked at the institution of family, how it has been changing in Indian context and how very strong is.
Continuing our discussion about the features of Indian society, we'll now discuss caste system. Now, what we're going to do here is we first look at some of the common features of caste system, broad features of caste system. But keep in mind that, again, this particular phenomenon has been studied by different sociologists, anthropologists, economists, political scientists, etc. And again, there are different perspectives. So we'll look at some of these predominant perspectives. And then we will look at untouchability, which is again something which is practiced in the Indian society, though it is abolished by the bans, abolished by the constitution and different laws. So this is what we're going to do. First, we'll talk about the broad features, then perspectives, and then we'll try to understand untouchability. So let's get started. What are some of the features of the caste system? So we have a rough idea that caste system is a system of stratification. But what are some of the features within that? The first thing, there is some form of hierarchy. So society is divided into different segments, and these segments are arranged in a hierarchical manner, which implies that certain segments, certain groups of people are considered to be superior, certain groups of people are considered to be inferior. So there's a hierarchy. Second element is, or second linkage that you can think of, caste and occupations, they have some linkage. It is the caste which typically used to decide the occupation of people, not the other way around. It's not that your occupation decided caste. That way people can take up any job and accordingly their caste will change. But that was not the case. You are born into a family. That family has a particular caste. Occupation is linked with that caste. So the caste that you are born into, that is going to be your future occupation. So occupation and caste, there is a linkage. Then endogamy is also another feature of caste system. Endogamy means marriage within the same caste. People who belong to a particular caste, they typically, when they choose their partners, spouses, they choose partners who belong to the same caste community. So this is again another feature, endogamy, within marriage within the same community, same caste. There are different kinds of restrictions on social interactions, how people should interact with one another. We'll see some of the details. In fact, for each of the points, we will be going into details. I'm just giving you a broad overview of each of these points, and then for each of the points, we will have a separate discussion. So there are different kinds of restrictions on the way people from different castes can interact with one another. Can they sit together and dine, or can they share a smoking pipe together? So multiple kinds of restrictions are there. We'll come to that. The caste system also imposes different kinds of civil and religious disabilities on people. At the same time, it also grants privileges and rights. So those castes which are considered to be superior caste, high caste, they will have different kinds of privileges. Those castes which are considered lower in this hierarchy, right? They will have different kinds of disabilities. They cannot do this, they cannot do that, they can't enter temples, they cannot access common drinking water facilities, common bathing facilities. These are different kinds of disabilities that can be imposed. Social mobility. Mobility or social mobility implies whether the society allows people to move up the hierarchy. If there is a society, what are the avenues provided by the society for people to move up the hierarchy? Sometimes mobility can also be downward, but when we use the term social mobility, it implies that people's position in the social hierarchy can change. For example, if a society is there which does not really care about caste, someone who is born in a poor family, low socioeconomic background, poor socioeconomic background, but in the society, talent is something which is valued, hard work is valued. So that individual, because of his or her talent and hard work, over a period of time, earns money, becomes affluent. So that person moves up the social hierarchy. So this kind of society, the kind of society that I'm giving example of, it promotes social mobility. So the question is, if you have a society where caste is very important, caste is very significant, people give a lot of importance to caste. So is that society promoting mobility or not? We'll try to figure that out. Also, the society is divided into different kinds of segments. Like, so segmental organization of societies are there. Ascriptive hierarchies are there. What do we mean by this? Ascriptive means something which is from birth. So caste system is a system which creates hierarchies, and these hierarchies are maintained. And these hierarchies are maintained because of the descriptive criteria. People are born into a particular caste. They cannot change their caste. Their economic opportunities are also linked to the caste they are born in, because you cannot change your occupation. Whichever caste you're born in, you have to take up the occupation of that caste. So there are descriptive hierarchies here. So these are some features. What we do is we look at each of these features one by one. Now, point to be noted here is, in fact, when I was talking about some of these points, you might have thought about this. That some of the points that I'm talking about might not be completely relevant in the present context. Yes, I agree with you. Some of these points that I mentioned might not be completely correct in the present context. So all the points that we're talking about, these are all features of caste system. But keep in mind, as societies change, the different elements of society also change. The different features of society also change. Caste system is also changing. It's not exactly the way it was. Some elements have completely changed. Some elements have not changed. Some elements are in the process of transition. So what we do is we'll take up each of these features one by one, and we will deep dive. At the same time, we'll analyze how far all these things are relevant to the present context. So let's get started one by one. First concept is hierarchy. Hierarchy is a core feature of caste system. So the caste system divides the entire society into segments. But all these segments are not arranged in this horizontal manner. They're not at the same level. Rather, they're arranged in some form of a hierarchy. Right? So this kind of hierarchical arrangement is there. So the question is, on what basis this hierarchy is there?
So this hierarchy is based on some form of deemed superiority. What this means? Deemed superiority. This implies that certain groups of people, some of these segments are considered superior, some segments are considered inferior. Deemed. It need not be the case that this segment is actually superior on some objective criteria. It need not be the case that this segment of the society is actually inferior on certain objective criteria. They are deemed to be superior and inferior. The society perceives it like this, or the communities themselves perceive it like this. So there is this deemed superiority, deemed inferiority here. Now, on what basis the superiority and inferiority is decided, we'll come to that in a while. In fact, I would point out here itself that there are different sociologists, anthropologists, they have all studied this, and you'll find different perspectives on why a particular community is considered superior, why a particular community is considered inferior. It's not that there's only one perspective. Also, there's another thing. See, let's say these are some 4-5 groups here. Right? A, B, C, D. These are, let's say, 4 different classes. A, B, C, D. I'm not naming the class by the way. So there's a hierarchy here. A is considered to be superior than B, B is considered superior than C, C is considered superior than D. A, B, C, they are considered superior than D. A, B, they are considered superior than C, as well as C. So there's this hierarchy. Now, does this hierarchy exist like this? And you have A, B, C, D, this hierarchy existing in Kashmir, in Manipur, in Bengal, in Tamil Nadu, in Gujarat. You have exact hierarchy. Again, these questions have also been raised. Some of the sociologists do not agree with this, that the exact hierarchy might not exist. But the point is, there is some hierarchy. There is hierarchy on the basis of deemed superiority. And mostly what happens is, Brahmins are at the top of this hierarchy. And on what basis? On the basis of different legal scriptures, cultural values, they generally accorded this superior position. Now, the question that you might have here is, all these communities that are there, they rank like this. Right? All these caste communities that are there, they rank like this. Now, is there any possibility of any change happening? Someone may be placed at a lower position in this hierarchy. Does that mean they don't have any power? Does that mean they don't have any economic power? So these questions have been raised from time to time. And some sociologists have tried to find out from the answer as well. For example, M. Srinivas, again, one of those prominent sociologists from India, he says that yes, there exists a hierarchy. There is a ritual hierarchy. Hierarchy on the basis of lifestyle, hierarchy on the basis of different kinds of food they're consuming, what kind of attire they're wearing. So this is what a ritual hierarchy is. In fact, ritual hierarchy can be differentiated from what is called a secular hierarchy. Secular hierarchy means the hierarchy which is on the basis of education, power, wealth. That is secular hierarchy. So M. Srinivas is saying that this ritual hierarchy that is there, it might be something which is symbolic in nature. There can be some castes which are lower in the ritual hierarchy. Maybe they are second position, third position in the ritual hierarchy. But they might be having a lot of power. Maybe they have economic power. Maybe they have political power. Maybe they are the ones who are dominant. So sometimes this can also happen. Another thing that Louis Dumont says that the basis of this hierarchy is pollution purity. This is something which might be new to you. Pollution and purity. What is pollution? What is purity? In fact, these two terms, right, they're linked with one another, kind of opposite of one another. What Louis Dumont is saying is the entire society is governed by the notions of pollution and purity. Certain things are considered to be pure. Certain things are considered to be polluted. Certain kinds of practices are considered to be pure. Certain kinds of practices are considered to be impure. Certain kinds of processes, biological processes, are also considered to be impure. Again, by the society, I'm not saying they're impure. Society considers it like this. For example, there is a death happening in a family. Then that death might be considered to be a process which has led to the pollution of people around the person who died. And as a result of which, they will have different rituals to purify themselves. Right? Generally, whenever there is this death in a family, you have like 10 days of mourning, and then after that, you have different kinds of purification rituals. So they are not, that's the use of what is purification rituals. So death is considered to be impure process. Certain kinds of biological processes might also be considered to be impure. If biological processes like by defecating, it might be considered to be impure. Now, certain kinds of economic activities can also be considered to be impure. Animal scavenging or leather tanning. So the point is, the entire worldview, if you look at it, how the worldview is shaped, certain kinds of things are impure, certain kinds of things are pure. So similarly, certain kinds of castes are considered to be pure, certain kinds of castes are considered to be impure. And again, there's a relative degree of purity. Some castes are purer than others. Some castes are polluted than others. Those who are more pure, they are considered superior. Those who are less pure, they are considered to be inferior. And that way this hierarchy is created. And this is all what Louis Dumont says. It's not what I'm saying. This is how Louis Dumont looks at it. So there's one notion, one idea that on the basis of purity, on the basis of purity levels, on the basis of pollution levels, again the society is divided. Again, keep in mind, this is what Louis Dumont talks about. Many of these things might not be based on empirical evidence. In the sense that okay, some things you are considering to be impure, might not be impure. Some things is very, very biological. Death or menstruation is all biological processes. But maybe Louis Dumont thinks that this is how society perceives things and accordingly created it. So this is how hierarchy exists. But over a period of time, ritual hierarchy might not be as important. Ritual hierarchy is becoming less significant. Why? Because of modernization. Because of modernization, you are exposed to different kinds of ideas, modern ideas. People are questioning all these things. Certain things are biological. You are saying that it is impure, might not be right. Also, people are exposed to different kinds of ideas, right? And all these pollution, purity, distance can't be maintained. So people are now more rational, more scientific, especially in urban areas. So ritual hierarchy, all these things are becoming less significant. On top of that, you have different kinds of democratic institutions now. Right? You have modern institutions now. Right? People belonging to different sections of the society, they all have equal say, equal power, at least when it comes to representation in politics. So all these things are having a bearing, as a result of which the ritual hierarchy dimension is gradually going down. In fact, some commentators they will say that at some point of time, caste was completely hierarchical. Now that hierarchy dimension of caste is gradually diminishing. Now caste definitely exists. There's no question that caste doesn't exist. But caste is now more about different groups of people. The groups of people might not be hierarchically arranged, but there does exist something like caste. There does exist like different groups who know that they belong to a particular caste. They also know that okay, the others belong to a particular caste community. So caste as hierarchy might be giving way to caste as difference. Right? So this is the first feature of caste system. Now let's move to the next component. Caste-based occupation. Caste and economic activity. Caste and jobs. Caste and occupation. Caste-based occupation. Caste and economic activity. Caste and jobs. Caste and occupation. There does exist something like caste. There does exist like different groups who know that they belong to a particular caste. They also know that okay, the others belong to a particular caste community. So caste as hierarchy might be giving way to caste as difference. Right? So this is the first feature of caste system. Now let's move to the next component. caste-based occupation, caste and economic activity, caste and jobs, caste and occupation, they are inherently linked with one another. Just now I was talking about how Louis Dumont looks at caste system. He says that whatever hierarchy is there, it is on the basis of evolution privilege. So those kind of occupations which people practiced, which are considered to be impure, polluted, so those castes will be given a lower status in the caste hierarchy. While other occupations, which are considered to be pure, those castes, those people who are practicing those occupations will be given higher status in the caste hierarchy. So occupations are graded on the basis of pollution and purity. A Brahmin is mostly carrying out teaching, preaching. These occupations might be considered to be pure. But someone who is at the bottom of the caste hierarchy might be carrying out manual scavenging. Awareness who are considered outside the caste system, they might be carrying out manual scavenging. It might be considered to be pure. By the way, manual scavenging, all these things are abolished, but they still exist and in the past they existed. Right? In the past they existed, and accordingly, a particular social status will have been given to them. A particular status will have been given to them in the caste hierarchy. So occupations were graded on the basis of pollution and purity. Also, occupations were hereditary in nature, which implies that if you are born in a particular caste, whatever is the occupation linked with that caste, when you grow up, you will also have to take up that occupation. So occupations were hereditary and occupations were on the basis of caste. Some people will be of the view, or as I'm talking, like, you might have this kind of conception that it is the occupation which decided caste. Now, if occupation was something which decided caste, then it would have been so easy to dismantle caste system, because if you don't want to be in a particular caste, then you just change your occupation, right? And that way you just change your caste affiliations. But that is not the case. You're born into a caste. Everyone would have in that case wanted to be in a different caste, in a higher caste, but that is not what has happened. So you are born into a caste and you have to take up the occupation that is linked with that particular caste. But keep in mind that all these occupational gradations, they are also not always very concrete. It's not that it is very, very rigid. There are variations. So if you have a caste system, that, let's say the Chaturvarna system, the Varna system, according to which there are four castes: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So Brahmins are the ones who will be the priests who will be carrying out teaching activities. Kshatriyas will be the one who will be having power. They will be the ones who will be ruling over others. They will be exercising that authority. Vaishyas will be the one who will engage in different kinds of reading activities. So this is how occupation and caste may be linked to one another as per the Chaturvarna system. But it is always not like this. There are many instances in India where you will find certain regions, certain pockets being ruled by those who are not Kshatriyas. Ideally, Kshatriyas should be ruling as per the caste system. Ideally implies as per the caste system, but that is not always the case. There have been instances where we have had non-Kshatriya rulers as well. The question is, what is the linkage between caste and occupation at this point? Does caste decide occupation right now? See, at this point of time, most of the jobs that we see around us, again, these jobs are created in markets, right? And the role of caste in deciding what occupation will be very minimal at this point of time. It is minimal at this point of time, right? So when it comes to the economy, the role of caste has gone down significantly. So modern occupations are more secular. But keep in mind that now also you'll find some occupations where, again, people from certain castes will be there mostly. If you look at all these jobs which are related to sweeping, cleaning, mostly people who were considered to be lower caste, you'll find people in these occupations. On the other end, if you look at temple priests, again, you'll find concentration of people from certain castes. In fact, mostly you'll find people who are Brahmins, and they're the ones who are temple priests. Yes, there might be some exceptions. Once in a while, you'll come across these instances that in this particular state, the temples are being managed by people who are from the lower caste communities, but these are all exceptions rather than the rule. So caste and occupation, there's an inherent linkage. Maybe over a period of time things have changed, but now also in certain areas you find caste and occupation very linked with one another. The third feature is endogamy. Endogamy means marriage within the same community. So in India, caste endogamy is commonly practiced. Caste endogamy means people marry within the same caste. If an individual wants to get married, so how do they take that decision? What are all those parameters they factor in when they're choosing their partners? It is equally applicable for both male candidates and female candidates, right? If a male wants to get married, what are those criteria they look forward? They try to check first. Most likely it will be religion first, but after that, it will be caste. People take into consideration the caste of their potential spouse. And this is something which is across India. It is applicable in both rural and urban areas. It is applicable for people who are educated, people who are not educated, everyone. Now, you might say, okay, I'm making a very generalized statement. See, I'm making a statement based on empirical evidence. As per the data that we have right now, I mean, different sources of data, government data, national family data, more than 90% of the marriages, somewhere around 95% of the marriages in India happen within the same caste, right? So people get married within the same caste. And this is, again, pan-India level, rural, urban. So this is what is happening. Now, what's the consequence of that? If people are getting married within the same caste, this implies that their entire kinship network, right, they're all relatives, they will be all from the same caste. The next generation will also be from the same caste. So the caste boundaries, they remain very strong. The caste boundaries do not get diluted over a period of time. And this is how caste gets perpetuated over a period of time. So caste identity is being preserved. Caste boundaries remain intact. Let's assume a scenario where marital alliances are happening between people across caste. One person is from caste A, another, say the spouse is from caste B. So if they are getting married, the next generation will not necessarily have affiliation for caste A or caste B. But usually that is not the case. Usually member from caste A marries another from caste A, and the next generation will also subscribe to the same caste. And whatever relatives they have, they all are from same caste. Right? So caste boundaries have not changed, caste identities remain intact. In fact, many sociologists, not just sociologists, right? Leaders also, political leaders, they also highlight the role of endogamy in perpetuating caste. Many sociologists, political leaders, they all say that in case you have to dismantle caste system, you need to promote intercaste marriages. That way, again, after some generations, the population that you have, they will not necessarily identify with one particular caste. Nowadays, a part of people's identity is caste. That is how they are selecting their partners, right? So if you are having intercaste marriages, so after some generations, people's identity, the role of caste in people's identity will be very, very limited. Two terms might be new to you. Hypergamy is allowed, hypogamy is not allowed. So usually marriages across caste is not allowed, but sometimes there can be exceptions. So if a female from lower caste is marrying a male from a higher caste, that is generally allowed. So that is called hypergamy. So the groom is from the higher caste. So that what will happen after the marriage, the bride's caste status will also get elevated. So this is something which has been traditionally allowed. Generally, intercaste marriage is not allowed, but again, sometimes there can be exceptions. So hypergamy can be allowed. Hypogamy is the reverse. Here, the female is from the upper caste and the male is from the lower caste. So this kind of marriage is typically not allowed. This kind of marriage is called hypogamy. In this case, what will happen? The female is getting married to someone from the lower caste. So the female's caste status is now going down as compared to what it was in the past. So that is something which is generally there are restrictions around it. Now the question is, how far all these things are applicable in the present context? As I mentioned, now also more than 90% of the marriages, almost around 95% of the marriages in India happen within the same caste. So this feature is still persistent. And if this is persistent, caste boundaries will remain intact in future. It will not become porous, and caste identities will remain intact. So caste as a kinship system, by and large, remains the same. Next one, restrictions on social intercourse. In society, you have different sets of people. There are different ways people interact with one another. There are different avenues for people to interact with one another. But caste system imposes different kinds of restrictions on these interactions. For example, when it comes to exchange of food, when it comes to dining, there are different kinds of restrictions. As per caste system, people who are belonging to different castes, castes which are at different positions in the hierarchy, they're not supposed to sit together and eat. In fact, many of you would have noticed these things when you go to villages. There might be separate tables for people who are belonging to high caste. The lower caste members might not even be given a chair and table to have their food during different events. social functions. Something that you might have noticed in Bollywood movies as well. Again, many of these movies they try to reflect what is social reality. Again, Bollywood movies not necessarily always reflect social reality, but some of these movies do. So there was one movie Swadesh, right, a lot of years back, but I'm pretty sure many of you have watched it. So they also would have noticed they have in a very subtle way they have shown how there are different kinds of restrictions on social interaction. There's one particular scene where there's this movie. They're showing a movie in the village, and you observe that how the upper caste members are seated and how the lower caste members are seated. Right, there's a screen between them. So the movie scene is there. On one side, the upper caste members, and on the other side, the lower caste members. And again, sitting arrangements and everything is different. This is one example. Apart from that, when it comes to exchanging of food, there are also different kinds of restrictions are there. The upper caste member, whether they will take food from the lower caste members or not. If they will take, what kind of food they can take. They cannot take all kind of food from members who are considered to be lower caste. So multiple kinds of rules and regulations are there when it comes to social intercourse. So it leads to limited social interaction. But the question is, what is the situation as of now? See, there have been different kinds of laws. In fact, our constitution also bans untouchability. We have different kinds of laws. But despite that, now also untouchability exists in one way or other. Maybe it doesn't exist the way it existed maybe 100 years back, but it does exist. Right? You'll find different kinds of tea shops where utensils might be different for people who are from the lower caste communities. There are different human rights organizations. Like they list down the different types of untouchability still exist. More than 100 forms of untouchability exist. There are instances where members from the lower caste they're not allowed to avail different kinds of services. Like, for example, barber services. I'm not saying all these things are applicable in urban areas, but in some of the rural sectors, these do exist even now. If I will discuss some of these things in detail, we'll discuss untouchability maybe 20 minutes down the line. Right? So there are different kinds of laws which ban untouchability, but untouchability still exists. What I would suggest is whenever you're reading the newspapers, try to keep a track of these kind of things. So you'll find that these kind of things are very common, but many times maybe unintentionally we don't notice that. Right? So try to keep watch over these kind of things. Right? How frequently these things are coming in the news. You realize that these are way more common than you would expect. The next feature, civil and religious disabilities. See, within the caste system, different castes are given a position in the hierarchy. There's a hierarchy arrangement, different castes will have different position. Now, not only the position varies, different castes are also accorded different kinds of rights and privileges. At the same time, different castes are not given some of these rights. They might even suffer different kinds of disabilities. Those castes which are top in the hierarchy, which are at the top position in the hierarchy, they are given different kinds of privileges. They have different kinds of rights, right to carry out different kinds of religious practices, maybe, cultural practices. Maybe. On the other hand, you will find those castes which are placed at the bottom of the hierarchy. They face different kinds of restrictions. For example, certain communities at the bottom, they're considered to be untouchables. They have been traditionally denied entry into temples. They're not allowed to carry out different kinds of rituals. In the past, they were not allowed to construct houses. There have been instances where members from the Dalit community, members from the community which are considered to be untouchables, they were not allowed to access drinking water facilities, common drinking water facilities, different kinds of other facilities like bathing facilities, common bathing facilities. So these kind of restrictions have been there. There have been instances where there were separate schools, separate wells for members. So all these things are different disabilities imposed by the caste system. But the question is it something which continues? So if you look at the Indian state has it prohibits untouchability, it abolishes untouchability. It is considered to be a criminal offense as well, right? All these practice all these things. But despite that, it is practiced in different points. It is not something which has been completely abolished. It does continue to exist in some cases. So law has not been able to solve the entire problem. A large part of the problem lies at the societal level. Next element is social mobility. Now, what is social mobility? What is mobility? Mobility here does not mean physical movement, right? When we use the term mobility, when we talk about urban areas, when we talk about traffic problems, here it means movement from one position to another, right? Physical movement. That's what we're not talking about. What we're saying is, or what social mobility implies is, if let's say there's a society where you have hierarchy. Keep in mind, hierarchy exists everywhere. What kind of hierarchy exists? Varies. But hierarchy exists everywhere. Right? Even if you go to some of these developed economies, like United States or some of these European countries, they also have hierarchy. Maybe the hierarchy is in terms of wealth. Some people are extremely rich, some people are in the middle class, some people are poor. So everywhere you have hierarchy. Now, social mobility implies that people can move up and down along the hierarchy. If that is allowed, then the society has some amount of mobility. But there can be societies where there is no mobility. It's very difficult for people to change their position in the societal hierarchy. So if there is a society where caste system is valued a lot, everyone adheres to caste system. People over there, everyone follows the caste system. That society will not have enough amount of mobility. It will not have enough, not just enough amount of mobility, it will not have mobility. Why do I say this? Caste system implies people are born into a particular caste. It's hereditary nature. Also, caste and occupation are linked to one another. Occupation is something which gets you money. Right? It is your source of income. So you might be someone who's extremely talented. You can do a bunch of things. You can do things which are much more productive. But what you can only do those things which your caste allows you to do in a caste society. Right? So maybe you could have become an expert goldsmith. You have talent for that. But you're born in the caste of farmers, let's say, peasants maybe. So what will happen? You will be carrying out farming activity. You cannot become a goldsmith. So your talent is wasted. So a caste-based society is a closed system. It does not offer you different kinds of economic opportunity. It does not offer you flexibility. Now, question is, how does the present society look like? Just think about it. Is it something here? Are you necessarily limited by your caste? Not necessarily. You might be born in a particular caste, but you can take up any occupation. Right? So at the present, the role of caste in deciding your occupation has gone down massively. So there are some restrictions. But if there is a society, especially in rural areas, is the case, right? In rural areas, caste might be of significance, and the amount of mobility in those societies tends to be limited. Now, caste as a closed system, this has also been challenged by some sociologists. Right? For example, thinkers like M. Srinivas, sociologists like M. Srinivas, they've pointed out that yes, caste is a closed system, but it does offer some amount of mobility. It has also offered some amount of mobility. So what Srinivas is saying is there have been instances where people who were born in some caste which were not necessarily at the top of the hierarchy, maybe it was somewhere in the middle, but through a process of subsidization, which we'll come to later, they were able to move up the caste hierarchy. They were able to improve their position along the caste hierarchy. So this shows that there is some amount of mobility in the caste system itself. So what Srinivas is saying is there have been communities born at a relatively lower position in the caste hierarchy, but over a period of time, what they did was they tried to copy the different kinds of lifestyle practices of people of the higher caste, and gradually their position in the caste hierarchy improved. This process is called subsidization. If you want to know more, you can again search it further. But yeah, for general studies purpose, we might not need more information on this. Just keep in mind that subsidization is a process by which people from middle caste or lower caste they try to emulate the lifestyle of the upper caste, and in this process, over generations, with time, the position of the caste improves. Also, sometimes some castes they get royal patronage. So those who are in power, they might support them. So there is royal patronage as a result of which your position in the caste hierarchy also change. Conversions can also lead to change in your position. In fact, there are instances where people who would have been accorded a lower caste in the caste hierarchy have converted to other religions, maybe to Buddhism, maybe to Islam, to Christianity, to have a better social status. Maybe census, how the census officials record your caste, that can also have a role, and it can also lead to social mobility. These are some elements of social mobility. The next one, segmental organization. Already I talked about this. As per the caste system, the entire society is divided into segments, and some of these segments can be further divided into subsegments. You have the entire society divided into different castes. The castes can be further divided into subcastes. The subcastes can be further divided into subcastes. This can go on. So, for example, society might be divided into Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. Within Brahmins, again, there might be subcastes. Different kinds of Brahmins can be there. Kshatriyas also different kinds of Kshatriyas can be there, which can be further divided into components. So, society is divided into segments. Last criteria or last feature, caste system is a system of ascriptive hierarchies. Ascriptive means something from birth. So, the hierarchy that is created, it is created because of birth, right? So, because of the process of birth, or phenomenon of birth. So some people are accorded higher status, some people are accorded lower status. Why some people are accorded higher status? Because they are born into a caste which is already accorded higher status. So there is a caste which is considered to be superior. Whoever is born into families who are of the superior caste, they will be accorded higher status. Someone is born into a caste which is accorded lower status, they will continue to have lower status. So these hierarchies are from the birth. Right? So caste is assigned at birth and it remains more or less same throughout the life. And it operates in a closed fashion. This is something that we already talked about. So these are all features of the caste system, and these are all again features which most of the sociologists will agree upon. So 7 defining features. Now the question is, so we have mentioned that there is superiority, there is inferiority, and there is some form of hierarchy. But how is this hierarchy formed? On what basis? Is this hierarchy uniform throughout the length and breadth of the country? Is this hierarchy same throughout with time, or does it change? So these are some questions that need to be thought through. Right? These questions need to be answered. In fact, they have been answered by multiple researchers. What we will do next is we'll look at how different researchers have viewed these things. Right? And we'll look at some 4 or 5 researchers, how they have looked at these hierarchies, on what basis these hierarchies are formed, what has been their primary method, what has been their major contribution. And we'll look at that. Now, we are not going to deep dive here because in general studies that is not required. But what we will do is we'll try to have a flavor of each of these things. This will get you to understand how the understanding of caste system has changed over a period of time. And keep in mind, some of these viewpoints might clash with one another, and that is perfectly fine. Right? Because sometimes what happens is, yes, a researcher would have based his findings on the basis of some criteria. But over a period of time, new data came up, new evidence came up, new methods came up. As a result of the finding, a new kind of finding came up, and there might be some form of conflicts. Don't worry about that. What is important is understanding the different perspectives, different viewpoints. As civil service aspirants, right, we need to have a holistic picture of different phenomena. That's what we are trying to do here. So let's look at some of the perspectives on caste system, and we are going to look at the perspectives by G.S. Gode, M. Srinivas, Vidumon, and We'll take it up one by one. First perspective is by G.S. Gode, who is also known as the father of Indian sociology. So he identifies certain features of caste system, 6 essential features, and you will notice that there is some overlap. Right? Some of the features that we discussed just now, they overlap with the features which have been identified by G.S. Gode. The first one is caste is based on segmental division. Nothing difficult here. So basically, caste means society is divided into different segments, and these segments are mutually exclusive, which implies that an individual is part of either this caste or that caste. You cannot be part of multiple castes together. So these castes are mutually exclusive. Second interesting feature is these segments. They are not arranged like this. They're not at the same level. There is some form of hierarchy here. So caste system is also a hierarchical division. You have caste, and these different caste communities are there, which are arranged in some form of hierarchy. Third point, there are different kinds of restrictions on feeding, social interactions. Right? Regulations are there on exchange of food. Can you from different castes together and have food? No, there are different kinds of restrictions and regulations on that. Then caste system imposes different kinds of civil and religious disabilities. It also provides certain kinds of rights and privileges to those who are higher in the caste hierarchy. Occupation, as per caste system, is hereditary. People are born into a particular caste. Occupation and caste are linked with one another. So if you are born in a particular caste, you have to take up the occupation of that caste. Right? And this is how things continue for the next generations as well. Last point, people who are part of a caste or member of a particular caste, when they choose their partners, when they choose their spouses, they again take into consideration caste, which implies that people marry within the same caste. So marriages happen within the same caste. We'll rarely find marriages happening across caste. This is how caste boundaries are maintained. So G.S. Gode emphasized on all these features, 6 features of caste system. Now you might have a question: how did he come across these points? Right? How did he get to know that okay, caste system implies segmental division, hereditary occupation, caste domain, etc. Right? How did he come across all these things? Right? What was the basis of his study? Now G.S. Gode, what he did was he looked at different classical texts, different ancient texts, different scriptures, and in these scriptures, how the society is organized, what kind of rules and regulations they're following, what is the social structure. He's analyzing all these things. And from that, he's concluding this is how caste system looks like. These are different rules and regulations governing the caste system. This is how caste hierarchy is maintained. This is how people are interacting. This is how caste is impacting people's interaction. So his entire study or his entire views are based on his study of classical texts, which implies that he did not go to the field. He's not going to different communities. He's not going to local communities. He's not going to villages and study how people are interacting with one another, how caste is operating here. He's not doing that. He's looking at some of the classical texts, going through it, and from that he's interpreting all these things. This kind of perspective is also referred to as book view. That means we have gone through different kinds of books, how things are depicted in the books. From that, we're making these interpretations. Now, what can be one limitation of this? See, the way things are described in the books, maybe the reality is different. Right? So, books and reality, there might be some variation. The way things are there in the text and the way things are in reality, there might be variations. So, these variations will not be accounted for in his perspective. Another thing, Gure assumes that the entire Indian society is caste-based. Whole Indian society is caste-based, which also implies that those who are staying in the forest, those who are staying away from people who are in cities, villages, right, those who are staying in inaccessible territories, for example, the tribal members, they are also part of this caste-based society. In fact, he uses the term backward Hindus for the tribal members. What he's trying to say here is those who are members of different tribes in India, some of them have assimilated into Indian society, some of them have not completely assimilated into Indian society, some of them are completely away. So different tribal members are at different degrees of assimilation. But at the end of the day, they're Hindus. This is what Jesus is saying. So he uses the term backward Hindus for tribal members. Now, this is not without criticism because he's assuming that the practices of the tribal members has some sort of resemblance, has some sort of similarity with the practices of those who are in the Hindu fold, which might not be true. There are different anthropologists, sociologists at that point of time also criticize his viewpoint here. He is depicting caste as an integrated force. And he is also acknowledging that caste has different kind of disharmonious aspect. What he's saying is the role of caste system, or the significance of caste system rather, will go down with modern education. But at the same time, he feels that different caste-based social organizations, political organizations have come up. And all these social organizations, caste-based social political organizations, they are again demanding different kind of benefits. There's a scramble for different kinds of benefits, that's what he's saying. So on one side, he's saying caste significance will go down because modern education has come up, people are getting educated. But at the same time, caste-based social political organizations are coming up and all these organizations are demanding benefits, which in turn will lead to a situation where the unity of the society will be at threat. And he's also trying to give some solutions to it. He's saying that the Indian society should focus on reviving its culture so that fraternity can be promoted. So this is what Gure thinks. Whether this is true, again, it's a different thing. This is his perspective. So this is how Gure looks at caste system. And then there are multiple criticisms of this view. One I already told you. That he assumes that the tribal members, those who have been staying in forests, in access to they should be considered according to him. Anthropologists, sociologists, they say that the practices of tribal members are completely different. They should not be considered as backward Hindus or part of the Hindu fold. So that's one criticism. Apart from that, another major criticism is All his viewpoints are based on study of text. Right? He has not gone to the field. He has not spent time with local communities in understanding the relations. And there's a possibility that there might be some emergency. So there's again another criticism. Third thing, the way he is visualizing all these things, right? It seems like a state society. He's not taking into consideration or he's not accounting for the fact that the society might have changed. He just mentions these are the features of caste system, but he doesn't mention whether caste system can change. He doesn't mention how these changes can happen if there's anything. So he's not talking about the caste system or changes or the dynamics of the caste system. Also, since this entire perspective is on the basis of classical text, the assumption here is the caste system will be uniform throughout the length and breadth of the country. Whatever is applicable, whatever the text is saying, the same thing will be applicable in northern parts of India, southern parts of India, western parts of India, as well as central parts of India. This might not be true. There might be variations. So all these aspects are not part of GS analysis of caste in the Indian context. Now let's try to move to the next perspective. Let's look at the next perspective. So M.N. Srinivas, he adds on to what GS had been studying, adds on and he also critiques GS perspective of caste system. GS had looked at caste system only from the books, some sacred texts or holy text scriptures. Now M.N. Srinivas, he rejects the book view. He is known as the pioneer of field review. He's the one who actually carries field studies. He goes and spends time in the field. He does intense field work in local communities. He stays in villages and he tries to understand the dynamics, how things look like, how things work at the grassroots level. Right? So he's rejecting the static view of Indian society. As per G.S. Goyal, things look like this. It's very static. He's not taking into consideration how the dynamics might change over a period of time, how the interaction between different caste communities might change over time, how the position of different castes in this hierarchy might change over a period of time. He's not talking about those things. M.N. Srinivas says, yes, there is a hierarchy, but whatever hierarchy exists between these segments, that might change. The different segments that are there, their position might change over a period of time. So you don't have a static system. The system is not rigid, it is not inflexible. You do not have unchanging religious laws and beliefs. So how does things look like? How does things look like? So M.N. Srinivas is saying that there are two kinds of hierarchy. One hierarchy is the ritual hierarchy. Rules of marriage, right? Rules of interaction, dressing style, all these things. They decide the ritual hierarchy. Then you have the secular hierarchy. It is on the basis of level of education. It is on the basis of power, what kind of economic influence you have. So one is ritual hierarchy, one is secular hierarchy. So different communities that are there are again different levels in terms of secular hierarchy, in terms of ritual hierarchy. In terms of secular hierarchy, you can change your position. How? Maybe through migration, maybe through getting government jobs, or maybe through ownership of land. All these things ensure that your position in the secular hierarchy changes. Your position in the ritual hierarchy, that can also change as per mentioned. How? Through a process called as Sanskritization, which I already mentioned briefly. Right? This is a process by which members from the lower caste or middle class, they will try to emulate the practices of upper caste. And over a period of time, over generations, their position in the ritual hierarchy can change. So the point is, caste system is not something which is static, as Goya was talking about. It is something which is dynamic. It's flexible. It is not rigid, as I was pointed out. Also, he's looking at this entire thing as a dynamic social system. There are different kinds of changes which are happening. The social system is fluid, it is resilient, it is changing. He comes up with the concept of Sanskritization and dominant caste. Sanskritization I've already mentioned. Dominant caste, it refers to certain castes which are not necessarily at the top when it comes to ritual hierarchy. They might be lower in terms of ritual hierarchy, but they command a lot of economic power, they command a lot of political power. So he looks at these dimensions and he comes up with these concepts, Sanskritization and dominant caste. Now, how is he looking at Indian villages and caste? So he goes and spends time in villages among local communities and he tries to understand how relations are within the village. He finds out that there are different kinds of exchanges happening between people, different kinds of exchange happening between communities. There is reciprocal relation, there is cooperation, there is interdependence, there is harmony. All these things are happening within the village across different castes, right? So this is his viewpoint. Now, his perspective has also been questioned. It's not that his perspective is free of criticism, it is also not free of criticism. What is the criticism? See, he looks at all these things and he comes to the analysis that there is cooperation happening, there is some form of empathy also between people from different castes, there is friendship. But his perspective is like a top-down perspective. When he goes to the village with whom he's staying with people who are from the dominant caste. So his idea of the Indian village and caste system might be incorrect because of that. Right? His field view is from the top. Maybe he's not able to capture the reality of people who are at the bottom. Maybe he's not able to capture the viewpoint of people who are at the bottom of the list. In fact, his entire idea of caste system does not analyze or does not take into consideration the situation of balance. As part of caste system, one of the unfortunate things is there is violence. Again, it may not necessarily be a physical form of violence. Violence can also be used in different ways. There can be force used. Different kinds of rules regulations might be there within the village. You should not do this, you should not do that. Different kinds of disabilities might be imposed on people from the lower class. And if they violate all these things, then some form of penal positions will be there. Again, society decides all this. It's not necessarily the state has to be. So there is this implicit force out there. You have to comply to all these rules and regulations, and then there is violence. All these things are not part of his analysis. So M.N. Srinivas, though he's making significant departures from tradition, he's not focusing only on the classical text. He's looking at caste system. He's going to the communities studying caste system. But here also there are some limitations. Like he has focused more on the interdependence harmony part. Has not looked at violence. Yes, maybe he has not taken into consideration social world of the lens. There are 2 points that we just mentioned. Just I want to talk about these 2 terms. Maybe you come across these terms at different points. When you read a newspaper or a magazine, maybe you come across these points. You should not be confused. First concept is dominant caste. Dominant caste is a caste of the village which is lower in the ritual hierarchy, but they might have strong numbers and they yield economic power or political power, or they might yield both. One example is some of the castes who own a lot of land in northern parts of India. They might not be the top of the ritual hierarchy, they're not Brahmins, but they own land, they're landed elite. And they're the ones, they yield a lot of economic power and political power because of their ownership of this land. So this is an example for dominant caste. Another concept that we talked about is Sanskritization. Sanskritization is a process by which low or middle Hindu caste, in some cases tribal or other group, they change their customs, ritual ideology, and way of life in the direction of high and frequently twice-born caste. Twice-born caste refers to the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas. Right? Why it is called twice-born? So one is first birth is when they're physically born. Second birth is it refers to the spiritual birth after the thread ceremony. So the twice-born caste typically have the thread ceremony, the Brahmins, Vaishyas, and Kshatriyas. So that's the reason they're referred to as a twice-born caste. So as part of Sanskritization, what is happening? You have a ritual hierarchy, right? So certain castes are considered to be high caste, certain castes are considered to be low caste. So you might have some castes in between. What they will do to improve their position in the ritual hierarchy, they will start emulating the practices of those who are at the top. Right? So they will follow their customs. Whatever food they're eating, they will try to consume that food. Whatever rituals that they follow, they will try to do that. Whatever attire that these members are wearing, these members will try to follow that. And over a period of time, it will not happen overnight, over years, it will take generations. Their position in the ritual hierarchy can improve. So this is the concept of Sanskritization. Why this is important? Because this shows that caste system is not something which is static, it is dynamic. There is scope for changing one's position in the caste system. The concept of dominant caste is also important because there is an assumption that there is hierarchy like this. So there are some people who are certain castes who are always at top, there are certain castes who are always at the bottom. This might not be completely true because there are certain castes in the middle, which are again not necessarily top of the ritual hierarchy, but they are the ones who are influential, they are the ones who hold power. So something which is departure from how Khoury had viewed caste. So this is about M.N. Srinivas and his perspectives on caste system. Moving to the next perspective, Louis Dumont. Louis Dumont is saying that if you have to look at caste system, look at the underlying values and ideas, ideology. Ludomo says that the ideas, values, ideology in Indian society and the West are different. There are certain things which are valued in the Indian society. The same things might not be valued in the Western society. There are certain things which are valued in the Western society. Indian society might not value that. For example, in the Indian society, or the way Indian society looks at things, it might value something like hierarchy. A hierarchical arrangement might be considered to be good. But Western society will not necessarily look at it from a positive light. Western society might give importance to equality, might value equality. Western society might give importance to individualism, while Indian society might give importance to the whole. So the underlying values are different. What should be valued and what should not be, they are different. Which implies that you should not compare the elements of Indian society on the basis of metrics which are prevalent in the Western society. Indian society should actually look at from the lens of Indian society, whatever things are important in Indian society. Which all these things implies that cross-cultural comparisons might not be. So this is what Louis Dumas says. So how does he view the caste system? Or what is the basis of caste system as per Louis Dumas? So there are certain things on the basis of which caste system shapes up in case of India. Louis Dumas says that the Indian society gives importance to the concept of pollution and purity. And caste system is based on this opposition of pure and impure. Now, what do we mean by this? According to Dumas, different kinds of things are considered to be pure and different kinds of things are considered to be impure. So different things are at different levels of purity and impurity. Certain kinds of occupation are considered to be pure. Certain kinds of occupations are considered to be impure. Teaching, all these things can be considered pure. While manual scavenging, leather tanning, all these things are considered to be impure. Right? So at the root of caste system is how can you separate the pure from impure? So there is mutual opposition between pure and impure, and the caste system ensures that things, practices which are pure are kept apart from those things which are impure. So that forms the basis of the caste system. How does it shape up? A couple of things here. Division of labor is on the basis of pure and impure. Different kinds of occupations. They are given different levels of purity and impurity. They look at from that angle. Things which are considered pure, they are also considered superior. Different activities which are considered impure, they are also considered inferior. Superiority of pure over impure. High levels of purity, superiority. High levels of impurity, assigns is called inferior. It is assigned inferior status. So now you have gradation of occupations on the basis of that. Not just occupations. Different kinds of food practices. They are also considered pure and impure. Certain kinds of food they are considered to be pure. For example, food cooked in ghee. Consumption of meat is considered impure. Consumption of liquor will be considered impure. Vegetarianism will be considered to be pure. The way marriages take place, purity levels have to be kept intact. Right? So that's the reason intercaste marriages are not allowed. Marriages should happen within the same caste, as a result of which impurity levels will remain intact. Because again, caste and occupation are linked with another. Right? So different castes are at different levels of purity and impurity. Those castes which are having occupations which are considered to be pure, they will be considered higher up in the hierarchy, they will be considered superior. Other castes which are engaged in occupation which are considered pure, those castes will be considered to be inferior. So occupations, different kinds of food practices, all these things, they're linked with purity and impurity. The way food is exchanged, the way different kinds of goods and services are exchanged. For example, if let's say someone belongs to washerman caste, right? So when they're washing clothes of others, they are becoming impure in the process. Those whose clothes get washed, they become pure in the process. Right? So that way purity and impurity levels are maintained. Washerman community will be considered to be lower caste because they're doing some sort of impure work. While they might be washing clothes of those who are Brahmins, their purity levels remain intact. So this is how Louis Dumas visualizes caste system. Purity, impurity, and different kinds of interactions, transactions that are happening, the purity levels are remaining intact, or the impurity levels are remaining intact. One thing to be noted here, in different communities all over, usually those who have the power, right, they are given the higher status. But in case of Indian society, that's not the case. Those who have the power, the kings, for example, they have the power. They are not given the higher status. Rather, the Brahmins, they are given the higher status. Why? Because again, as per this entire thing, purity, Brahmins have high purity status. As a result of which they are given high status. So this is how Louis Dumas looks at it. Now, the question is it all right? The first thing, the way things look like, right, this again is a very static view, right? It does not account for how caste system is changing. What he's trying to say is there are certain communities which are considered to be pure and then there are certain ones considered to be impure. But can a community which was previously considered less pure, can it move up the hierarchy? All these things have not been considered. So this particular perspective also does not take into consideration the changes that might be happening within the caste system, the dynamics within the caste system. So it seems more like a static view. And again, he's just giving importance to the visual hierarchy. He's not giving importance to the secular elements. Secondly, Dudu is saying that okay, the Brahmins, they have the highest position in the hierarchy. But that might not always be true. There have been different communities, there have been different times where things, the ruling class, they have been given higher status, they will also have high power. So there also, he might not have covered these dimensions. Also, the focus is too much on these integration aspects, the way interactions are happening as a result of his pollution purity aspects remain intact, pollution purity levels remain intact. He's not looking at it from the perspective of those who are at the bottom. The kind of discrimination that is being meted out to them, they're considered to be impure. The kind of injustice that they might be facing, he's not looking at all this perspective. Maybe they don't agree with it. He's assuming that the entire society, the entire community agrees with this. Those who are at the bottom, they also think that they are impure, they're polluted. Right? So he assumes that the entire society feels like this, that certain occupations are pure, certain occupations are impure. That might not be true. Those who are at the bottom, maybe they think that whatever they're doing is pure. Or maybe they don't even have any such notion of purity, they're just doing their tasks. Right? So maybe the entire community did not subscribe to the views of pollution purity, which he thinks everyone subscribes to. So these are some of the limitations of his approach. The next perspective is by Andre Bete, Indian sociologist. Now, what does Andre Bete say? Andre Bete is saying that, see, don't look at only caste system. Look at the linkages between caste, wealth, and power. Right? If you look at social hierarchy, how hierarchies form within society, how there is stratification within society, you have multiple axes along which stratification happens. One is, yes, status-based stratification. Some people are accorded higher status. Right? They're given more prestige. Some people are given lower status. They're accorded less prestige. But stratification is not only on this basis. Stratification also takes place on the basis of wealth. There are some people who have more power, more money, and there are some people who have less money. They have less wealth, and then there will be people in the middle. Stratification also takes place on the basis of power. Some people have more power, some people have less power, some people fall in between. So there are multiple axes on the basis of which stratification takes place. Right? Wealth, power, prestige. So even if you're looking at caste system, right, look at all these dynamics. If you're trying to understand social structure in the villages, look at all these dynamics. Now, at the end of the day, he's also rejecting the uniform view of caste. That caste is same throughout the length and breadth of the country. The dynamics are also same. He's rejecting that. It varies. How caste operates at different places, it varies. What Andre does is he also does field studies. He's also not someone who is just looking at some classical text and coming up with conclusions. He's going and studying villages in Tamil Nadu, Thanjavur district of Tamil Nadu. And he finds out that, yes, the Brahmins might be discriminating against the lower caste, but it's not just one way. He finds out that the other Dravidians, right, who are considered to be lower in the caste hierarchy, they are also avoiding Brahmins. They fear that there will be some form of ill luck if they come in contact with Brahmins. So they are also avoiding Brahmins. So this basically leads to these questions whether Brahmins were always considered superior. Right? It questions the implicit superiority of Brahmins. May not be, because in this study, other Dravidians also avoided the Brahmins. Also, he questions subsidization. Right? Eventually, he said that subsidization is the process by which those who are from the lower caste, those who are from middle caste, they can move their position up the regional hierarchy. But he finds out that not necessarily all lower caste members were keen on using subsidization as a way to move up a social ladder. That's what he's finding. And then they also looks at how the social structures are changing. So again, this is a dynamic perspective. Right? He doesn't look at caste system as something which is stagnant. He looks at the changes that are happening. And there can be changes at one level which might be leading to changes at other levels. There might be change happening at the economic axis or the economic level, which might again have bearing on the caste structure as well, the status as well. You find out that land markets are developed in villages as well. People are selling their lands. Some people are purchasing these lands. Brahmins, they were selling their lands. The Adiravians, they purchased the land. So now, as Adiravians are purchasing the land in rural areas, the inherent power structure is also changing. So caste is not the only factor. Caste is not the only determinant of power and status. The traditional occupations are also changing. For example, Brahmins, they're moving to different kinds of jobs. They're migrating to cities, they're taking government jobs. Those who are in the villages, they're finding out new jobs. They're finding out new occupations. They're taking up new kinds of economic activities. So people are shifting from traditional occupations. And as a result of which, their social standing is also changing. Right? So caste occupations, they will link with one another. But that might not always be the case. This is also changing. Brahmins are taking up government jobs. Those who belong to a particular caste, they are not taking up something else. Land markets are also changing. So there is some form of flux in villages as well. But it finds out that the linkage between caste, class, and power, caste, status-based gratification on the basis of prestige, class, wealth-based gratification, how much wealth you have besides your class position, power, how much power you have. So previously, caste, class, power, the relation that was there, it was kind of harmonious. Those who were at the top of caste hierarchy, they're also at the top of class hierarchy, they're also powerful. Right? So you might be Brahmin, you also will be having enough clout in that area, you also have access to different resources. People at the bottom, they did not have access to wealth, they did not have power, they also did not have status. So that was there. Right? So that kind of system was there. There was not much conflict. But over a period of time, these things are changing. People might be having lower status, but because of different kinds of policies, because of different kinds of changes, they might have acquired wealth maybe, or some of them might have acquired education. So they are now questioning the existing inequalities. So a system that was harmonic in nature is now becoming disharmonic. In the past, the society legitimized inequality. That's what was a predominant viewpoint. Everyone accepted the inequality. People who are at the top, they're benefiting because of the inequality because they're the ones who are exploiting others. They're getting different services from others. They were benefiting from it. Those who are at the bottom, they were also not questioning the existing social structures. They were also okay with existing inequality. But with changes in politics, India is becoming independent. You are now having a democratic form of government, you have a constitution which guarantees different kinds of rights. Also, the state is initiating the process of development. Development is reaching far-flung areas. The state is promoting education, mass education. So, education, legislation, centralization, migration, politics, democracy, all these things are now leading to changes in the ideas of people. People are getting exposed to different kinds of modern ideas. They are now questioning the existing social inequality. They are no longer agreeing with the fact that this inequality is justified. People, especially people at the bottom, they're questioning all these things. So as a result of which, the harmonic system that was there now is becoming disharmonic. Maybe as per the caste system at the bottom, but you have not acquired wealth. Maybe you have acquired more power. Reservation systems in politics. Right? You have so members from the state right community. They also have representation in politics now. Previously, they might have denied all these things. So they are now questioning things. And it can lead to different kinds of conflicts which are happening. Which might not necessarily be a bad thing. Right? It's a temporary phase. Right? From you might have had some form of harmony in the past, but that harmony was because inequality was justified. Now inequality is no longer justified. And it is leading to different kinds of questions, conflicts. Power is shifting from one dominant caste to another dominant caste. And there's divergence from caste structures to differentiated structures. In the sense that now you'll have previously power was within caste, certain caste used to hold power. Now you'll find power in different kinds of new structures that have come. For example, panchayat institutions. These are all different kinds of setups that have formed. So these setups now have power. So where power is resided, that has changed. So Andrew Vidya looks at caste from this perspective. Right? So key findings are he's taking into consideration the changes, the dynamics that are there in the caste system. And he's saying that if you have to understand social structures, the changes in social structures, you have to look at caste, wealth, power, and how each of these things are impacting one another. Previously you had a harmonic system, now you have a disharmonic system because of all these factors. Right? So education, legislation, civilization, migration, politics, democracy, they are bringing about these changes. Now let's move to the next perspective, the perspective by Dipankar Gupta. Now what does Dipankar Gupta say? He tries to answer one fundamental question. Is there a single universally accepted caste hierarchy that unites all those who belong to the caste system? Right? So let's say this is how the caste system looks like. Let's assume caste A is at the top, caste B comes next, caste C comes next, and caste D is at the bottom. So this is how the hierarchy looks like. Is this hierarchy same throughout the length and breadth of the country? Wherever you go, will you find A, B, C, D? Go northern parts of India, southern parts of India, some pockets in central part of India. Will you see this hierarchy? Dipankar Gupta says that this is not the case. You will not find exactly this kind of a hierarchy everywhere. He says there are many competing hierarchies within caste system. What he's trying to do is he's looking at individual caste. He's not looking at the whole, or he's not looking at the entire thing from the top. He's looking at each individual caste and he tries to understand the perspective of each individual caste. How does it feel? Does it think that the other castes are superior to it? Or does it think that it is superior? Right? He tries to look at those dimensions. And he comes up with different examples. You see that. So what he's saying is, if you look at each individual caste, each caste will have its own tradition, it will have its own customs, it will have its own ideologies, ideas, values. And each caste tries to maintain its own distinctive identity. It maintains its own traditions, customs, and ideologies. That way, it differentiates itself from others. No caste accepts itself as a degraded caste. Ludo, what he was saying, the entire value system of Indian society. It subscribes to hierarchy. That's what Ludo was talking about, right? He was saying that Indian society values hierarchy. Everyone gives importance to hierarchy. Which implies that those who are given lower status in the caste hierarchy, they also subscribe to it. They also agree. They also are okay with the fact that they are given lower status. Professor Dipankar Gupta is questioning that. He's saying that no caste accepts itself as a degraded caste. Each claims the others are more degraded than itself. And many times the lower caste, they will try to find a justification that why they have possibly been given a comparatively lower status. They will say that some particular community treated them or there was some sort of misunderstanding. So no one is ready to accept the degraded status, which Ludo was thinking is something which is acceptable everywhere. Apart from this, Professor Dipankar Gupta says that each caste will subscribe to some myths about how it originated. There are different kinds of caste revolts. There are different kinds of movements for caste mobility. So which also implies that you do not have that uniform stratification throughout the length of the country. Because in many places, different castes, they would have tried to change their caste position. They would have revolted. They would have different kind of movements for caste mobility. Right? So in some places, a particular caste might have moved up. In some other places, it might not have. So you do not have that uniform ABCD thing throughout the length and breadth of the country. Also, different kinds of caste alliances that we see in present day as well. They are on the basis of different settlement political factors. Before elections, you find different kinds of coalitions, alliances forming between political parties who again have a strong hold over certain caste. They're all not on the basis of primary loyalties. They're all on the basis of political factors. So what Professor Gupta is saying is we do not have that uniform hierarchy throughout. This perception that a particular caste will accept that they are a degraded caste, it's not correct. Each caste has its own distinctive traditions, customs, it tries to maintain it. And it differentiates itself from other castes on the basis of that. He also talks about certain instances where so-called lower caste might also be preserving its identity against higher caste. It will be maintaining its identity against the higher caste. It will be preserving its tradition. It will be restricting contact with members of the higher caste. So again, this is one more perspective related to the caste system. So I hope by now you get a flavor, right? How different sociologists, thinkers, they have looked at the caste system.
Now, what we'll do is we'll look at another aspect of caste system, one of the most unfortunate aspect of caste system, untouchability. So as we have seen, caste system divides the society into segments, and these segments are again arranged in a hierarchy. There is deemed superiority here, and then there is deemed inferiority at the bottom. Now, those who are at the bottom, they're subjected to different harsh forms of disabilities, civil and religious disabilities. Different kinds of sanctions are imposed on them. Those who are at the extreme bottom, those who are considered to be the lowest caste, they're sometimes treated as untouchables. So what we do now is we'll try to understand what untouchability is. We'll try to look at the different forms of untouchability and the different instances of that. Also, I want to point out here itself that untouchability is something which has been banned, abolished by the Constitution. There are different kinds of laws which exist to prevent the practice of untouchability. But despite all these things, untouchability is still there in different parts of the country. And there are different studies which point this from time to time. So what is untouchability? So untouchability has multiple avoidance of physical contact. It also includes different kinds of social sanctions, social disabilities, not allowing people to enter into a temple, not allowing people to carry out different kinds of religious rites. Maybe that is also part of untouchability. That is also practice of untouchability. So direct avoidance of direct contact or different kinds of social sanctions, social disabilities, they're all referred to as untouchability. And this is something which is descriptive. If someone is considered untouchable, right, that person is considered untouchable from, I mean, on what basis that person became untouchable? Again, it is something from birth itself. It's something which is descriptive in nature. Certain castes are considered to be untouchables, right? What is the basis of that? Again, descriptive criteria. Now, it can also be understood in terms of social distance. Different communities maintain distance from so-called untouchables. There have been different documented evidences of this. Certain communities, they were not allowed to enter into the villages during the early hours or the evening hours. Why? Because at that point of time, the length of the shadow will be the longest. And if the length of the shadow is longest, there's a possibility that their shadow might touch someone else. And in that process, the other person, right, can become polluted. Certain communities, they were asked to carry a stick along with them. So whenever they're walking, they have to erase their footprints with that stick. Or else, if someone else comes in contact with that footprint, they will become polluted. So these kind of notions have existed. So these are all instances of untouchability. Higher caste members not accepting different kinds of items, food items, or different kinds of goods from people who are from the lower caste. That's also an example of untouchability. Sometimes people will accept goods and items, but they will not take it from the hands of those people who are giving it. Rather, they will ask them to put it somewhere else, and then they will collect it. These are all examples of untouchability. Different kinds of utensils. A set of utensils for people from the upper caste and another set of utensils for people who belong to the lower caste communities in some tea shops. It's also an example of untouchability. There are schools, right? In fact, in the last few years itself, there have been instances where media reports pointed out that schools are having different tumblers to have water, right? Different tumblers for people who belong to the lower caste communities. There's an instance of untouchability. So the different dimensions of untouchability is exclusion, humiliation, subordination, and exploitation. People are excluded from the social discourse, from the social processes. People are excluded from participating in social activities. If people are not allowed to enter into, let's say, temples, it's an example of exclusion. If people are not allowed to avail the water of a common drinking facility, people are not allowed to drink water from a common source, it's an example of exclusion. It's also humiliation. Members from the lower caste are humiliated, they're subordinated. Sometimes they will be asked to respect the higher caste. They will not be allowed to enter into the place of the higher caste, the residence of the higher caste. They're humiliated. Also, exploitation is there. Sometimes physical violence is also practiced extreme form. See, here lies the irony. Violence is committed against the member of the lower caste. At that point of time, there will be physical touch, but that is considered to be okay. Right? That is something that is not polluting the upper caste members when they're practicing violence. So these are all different dimensions of untouchability. What we'll look now at, what we'll do now is we'll look at some of the different forms of untouchability, how it is practiced. There can be habitat segregation. Typically, this happens in villages where those who are from the lower caste, those who are from the caste which are considered to be untouchables, they stay separately. They will stay far away from the center of the village. They will be staying in the outskirts. And this is something that is practiced even now in many villages in India. Occupational segregation is also there. Certain kinds of jobs, people from the so-called untouchable caste they carry out. Members from the upper caste usually don't take up these jobs. So in some of the jobs, there is high concentration of people from the scheduled caste community. Then there is civic segregation. There's prohibition of social mixing. People from untouchable caste, so-called untouchable caste, they're prevented from using common building facilities, drinking water facilities, etc. They're not allowed to carry out different kinds of rituals. They might not be allowed to enter into temples. They might not be allowed to read holy books. They might not be allowed to read different scriptures. These are all example of ritual segregation. Certain rights are only allowed for the twice born caste, the Brahmins, Vaishyas, and the Kshatriyas. There's also restriction on intercaste marriages. Right? So people from the lower caste, right, they're not allowed to marry members from the higher caste. In case there is an instance like that, there can be violence on the members from the lower caste. These kind of instances are very common. When it comes to participation in politics, the Indian Constitution, you have universal electoral rights. Everyone has equal, everyone can equally participate in the electoral process. Everyone has equal amount of vote. But many times pressures might be there on the lower caste communities. The dominant caste over there might impose different kind of pressures on the lower caste communities, right, when they want to exercise their electoral preferences. Economic exploitation can also be there. People from the lower caste, they might be treated as bonded labor. Though bonded labor is also something that we have different laws which prevent bonded labor, but it might still continue. And who are the victims of that? Those who are from the lower caste. They might not be given the right kind of wages. They might be denied the market wages. And in some extreme cases, violence might also be committed. Different kinds of crimes might be committed against the living members, against the family of the living members. Right? So this also happens. This is something which is prevalent even in the present context. If you look at the NCR data, National Crime Reports Bureau data, it points out that the number of instances of violence against rights has been increasing in the last few years. But again, two reasons can be there. Maybe violence has actually increased. Maybe the reporting of violence has increased. Previously, violent activities were carried out, but the living members were not able to report it. There was this fear maybe, or there was not much awareness about the law, or there was this fear that there is complicity between the upper caste and the legal mechanisms maybe, upper caste members and the perpetrator community and the legal or law enforcement especially. Now they're questioning all these things because of awareness, because of a better level of education, because of better media skills. So these are different kinds of forms of untouchability, right? So keep in mind that untouchability is not just about physical touch. One component is physical touch, but then other things are there. Violence, marriages, politics, social sanctions, ritual segregation, habitual segregation, all these are different types of untouchability, right? So when you come across these kind of instances, right, maybe you will read about these things in newspapers magazines, or maybe you will yourself see it happening around you, right? So when you see these things around you, this register that this is a type of untouchability, this is something which is still prevalent, still happening in the present society. Now let's look at some of the instances of untouchability. So different human rights organizations, the human rights organizations, they keep on documenting what kind of untouchability still exists in Indian context. I've just taken one such document. So one human rights organization, such Human Rights Watch, it has documented some 100 different forms of untouchability present in Indian context. So they found out these instances. You can also go to the website and find out the different forms of untouchability. I just listed few of them, documenting or putting 100 forms of untouchability here might be difficult. But some of the prominent or most common kinds of untouchability in Indian context is drinking vessels might be segregated. In fact, many of the households they will have different drinking vessels or different utensils for themselves and for their household, maybe who is from a different caste.
when it comes to if there's a member of scheduled caste community who is thirsty and water is given to them, they might not be given water in a vessel directly, water might be poured into their hands. Right? There's again another kind of management. So again, if vessel is a value, not giving them water in a vessel, value just pouring it into their hands. There are again different kind of restrictions on jewelry, on clothes. Members of the lower caste community in some areas might be prevented from wearing specific kind of clothes and jewelry. In some of these functions, for example, marriage functions, members of the lower caste community might be prevented from riding a horse. Male members, the groom might be prevented from riding a horse. In recent times, also, you have seen some places there are opposition from the upper caste members that there's something this solely reserved for us. Why are you riding a horse? They might not be allowed to carry swords. Generally, in some places, they have these things as part of the culture. But if same thing is done, members of the lower caste community, they might not be able to do that. Many times, they might not be able to even use something as basic as an umbrella. Many times, they will be forced to carry out certain kind of works, manual scavenging, removing carcass of dead animals for daily use. And basic services might also be denied to them, laundry, haircut, etc. I remember a few years back, there was an article, not a few years ago, it was like a couple of years, there was an article in Hindu where they found out that a particular village, I think it was in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana somewhere, there certain a particular caste was there which was considered to be untouchable. Members of that caste, they had to travel to another village to get a haircut. Why? Because the barber, whoever was there in that particular village, he was previously cutting the hair of all the village members, but then the upper caste members complained that if you are cutting the hair of this particular caste, we will not come. As a result of which, the barber had to make a choice, and the barber decided that I will not cut hair of members who are belonging to this particular caste. As a result of which, these members now had to, these particular caste members, they had to move to another, they have to travel to another village to just get something as basic as a hair. So these are all different instances. What I would suggest is keep a watch or just look out for most of the instances. You will come across many of these instances, and you will also come across news articles where some members who are considered to be untouchable, they will be opposing these kind of practices, right? They will be demanding their rights, and then there is hostility from the upper caste, and many times it leads to different kinds of rights. So this is about untouchability. Now, some basic questions, right? This, again, I broadly covered the caste system here. Some broad questions that you can think of. Now, caste system is a system of stratification. It basically divides society into segments and it places different segments in a hierarchy. One question that you can think of is, how has this stratification system changed over a period of time? Is this hierarchy as strong as before, or is it changing? One hint I can give you is, this hierarchy might not be as strong as before, and it is changing. Caste hierarchy might be giving way to caste differences. It's not that people don't realize or don't, or people have completely forgotten caste. No, that's not the case. People still subscribe to their caste identities. A part of individual identity is caste. And how do you know about it? Just look at how marriages happen in India, right? Marriages happen within caste. And if you don't agree with me, what you can do is you can just look at the newspapers, the matrimonial pages of newspapers. Every newspaper, be it Hindu, be it Times of India, be it Times, they have a matrimonial section. And all these advertisements are on the basis of caste. Very few instances will be there where people will say caste nova, religion nova. Mostly it will be like people will be starting from that, this particular community, and seek alliances, etc. etc. Look at different websites in India, matrimonial websites. Right? They also will be segregating on the basis of caste. Who are the people who are reading these newspapers? Who are the people who are accessing these websites? People who are educated, right? Who can read, right? People who are educated. They're the ones who are using it. And now you also have websites which are community matrimonial websites, right? You might have a particular website, matrimonial website, whose customers, clients are people only from a particular community. So caste is definitely a part of individual identity, but the hierarchical arrangement might have gone down, right? So caste at this point of time might be more of a mechanism of difference rather than stratification. And what all factors have contributed to it? Maybe industrialization, maybe urbanization, maybe modernization. Look at urban areas, right? In urban areas, maintaining the social distance, maintaining pollution periods is highly unlikely. It's not feasible. People are working in the same industries, people are working in the same office space, people are studying in the same schools, colleges, in the same classroom. You cannot maintain that distance. People staying in societies, like flats, apartments, you cannot maintain those distance. In rural areas, maybe you have that segregated housing. Upper caste members staying in the center of the village and the lower caste staying away in the periphery. All those things are not possible in urban areas. So the concept of pollution purity, social distance, all these things might have become weaker in urban areas specifically. So urbanization, industrialization, modernization, all these things are being exploited. Another dimension you have to think about is as political system. How has caste or how has the role of caste changed? In the past, caste used to play a significant role in politics. So those who will be having power, they will belong to a particular caste. Caste is used to decide the occupation, right? Kshatriyas, that particular caste, so people who will be the rulers, they will most likely be belonging to the Kshatriya caste. So caste will have a role to play in the political setup. Now, is it the case? After independence, after drafting our own constitution, after we becoming a republic, the role of caste would have changed. It would have definitely gone down. Or it would have changed. Now, anyone can become a member of parliament, anyone can become a member of legislative assembly, irrespective of one's caste. To become a prime minister or chief minister, you do not need to be from a particular caste, right? To be, who else holds power? Maybe the civil servants hold power. You hold power. To gain bureaucracy, you have to be from a particular caste. No, anyone can. Right? You write a civil service examination, clear it, you will be one of those bureaucrats, right? Who will be having significant amounts of power. So when it comes to acquiring power, here also the role of caste system has changed. It has gone down. But does that imply caste has become non-existent in the political setup? No. Even now, when it comes to politics, caste does have a role to play. Why do I say this? How do people vote in the Indian context? Do they cast their vote or they vote their caste? Right? So people also, when they're voting, they also vote along caste lines. I'm not saying everyone does that, but large part of India does that. And political parties also mobilize along caste lines. They will form different kinds of alliances. Right? So different kinds of governments that you see are again on the basis of different kinds of primordial identities. One of those identities is caste, religion, multiple factors that are ethnicity. So caste does play an important role in politics. Here again, you'll find different kinds of mobilization. You might have horizontal mobilization, you might have vertical mobilization. So what is this? Horizontal mobilization means different castes. They're at the same level of hierarchy. Caste A, caste B, caste C, maybe they're having equal amount of status, or not much difference in their status. They might all mobilize together and they can form an alliance. They can form a political party. Right? So that is called horizontal mobilization. It might so happen that different castes at different levels of hierarchy. One might have a higher status in the caste hierarchy, another caste might have a lower status in the caste hierarchy. They might also mobilize together and they can form political parties together. So that is an example of vertical mobilization. So both things can happen. So the idea is the role of caste in politics has changed, but it has not become non-existent. Caste still is important role in the political system. Another question that you might have: what is the role of caste in economic system? In the past, caste used to play a significant role in the economic system. Caste used to decide occupation. Who is going to do what kind of job? Who is going to produce what kind of good service? Caste decided that. So how the exchange of goods and services will be happening, caste will decide that. Caste will decide that okay, this person can produce different items out of iron. Caste will decide who can produce crops. Caste will decide who can fight. Now caste doesn't do all these things, right? You can anyone from anyone irrespective of the caste can be part of the armed forces. Anyone irrespective of the caste can be part of the IT sector. So the role of caste here has gone down. But again, keep in mind, though markets have played a significant role, the role of caste has gone down. It might not have completely gone down. Now also you find certain occupations where people have predominantly from the particular caste. If you look at agriculture laborers, again, most likely they will be from the lower caste. Or construction workers, maybe most likely from the lower caste. Temple priests, mostly Brahmins. If you look at sanitation workers, sweepers, again, most likely from scheduled caste communities. Right? So the role of caste has gone down when it comes to the economic system, but it's not completely zero. The last question that you might have is when it comes to kinships, the extended network of kins, your relatives. What is the role of caste system? In the past, people used to marry on the basis of caste. The extended network of kins, relatives, they will all be people from the same caste. Has it changed? Not much. Now also marital alliances are on the basis of caste. So people marry on the basis of caste. So their extended family members, all of them are from the same caste. So caste as a kinship system has not changed much. So this is about the different dimensions of caste, how caste operates, how caste is changing, what are the different views of on caste and manageability. So with this, we'll wrap up our discussion on caste. What we'll do next is we'll try to understand tribes.
So the next feature of Indian society that we are going to talk about is tribes in India, the tribal communities. So who are the tribes? What are the features of tribes? Like how you identify what are the tribes? But at the same time, there are different kinds of difficulties in identifying who's a tribe. The definition of tribe, right? How you come up with that? There are different issues. We'll see that. And then we will see the distribution of tribes in India and how they're considered in different places. So this is what we're going to take up in the next few minutes. Now, who are the tribes? So before we look at the features, I just want to give you some history to it. See, when the Britishers were in India, they first initially thought that everyone right, is same in India. They were not able to distinguish. But over a period of time, they're realizing that different people have different traits. Cultural characteristics are different. The way they're organized in society is different. So anthropologists are actually playing a vital role here. So they realize that there are certain sections within the population who have some unique culture, distinct culture. They might have something different. They're geographically isolated. There is some form of shyness to contact the population at large. So these communities, they are over a period of time different names. In fact, some of the initial researchers, right, they're calling them emergence, emergence. And over a period of time, again, different terms have been used. At this point of time, the term scheduled tribe is quite frequently used. So the distinctive feature, primitive trait, geographical isolation, all these are things which are unique to the tribal communities. But when it comes to understanding tribes, or when it comes to identifying tribes, there are different kinds of challenges. In fact, I want to highlight these couple of challenges in the beginning itself so that you get the context. See, if you look at different other places world over, there will be some form of homogeneity, or you will not have that much amount of diversity among tribal groups. But in case of India, there is no homogeneity. There are so many tribal communities. There is massive amount of cultural, political, economic diversity here as well. Different tribal groups have their own cultural practices. Different tribal groups, they have their own organizations, maybe the way they're organized among themselves, the way authorities distribute among themselves, political diversity. The kind of practices they have, it also varies. The kind of ways by which they survive, right? They sustain themselves. The different kinds of economic activities they're engaged in, it also varies. Some of them might be engaged in agriculture. Some of them might be engaged in primitive form of agriculture. Some of them might be engaged in herding of animals. Some of them might be engaged in fishing. Different kinds of activities they're engaged in. So there's massive amount of diversity. So it becomes very difficult, or it becomes very difficult to classify who all are tribes and who are not. On top of that, different tribes in India, their interaction with the population at large has been different. Not only interaction, some of them have also got integrated. But they are again at different levels of integration. So that adds to the complexity. Right? So identification of tribes in India is complex. So let's try to see what is the definition of tribe, what are the features of tribes. A little bit one of the older definitions of tribes first. So this is from the Imperial Gazette of 1911 during the British time. So they're saying that tribes are a collection of families bearing a common name, speaking a common dialect, occupying or professing to occupy a common territory, not usually endogamous, though originally it might have been so. It's a collection of families that have a common name. Maybe this common name traces back to a particular ancestor, or it might be something else as well. They're speaking a common dialect, a common language, and they occupy a particular territory. And they need not necessarily be endogamous. Members from one tribe can marry someone from another tribe. So not necessarily it has to be endogamous. So this is how tribes were defined long back. At this point of time, there are different understanding of tribe. In fact, tribes are referred to by different terms. Some of the terms you can see on the screen. They're sometimes called Adivasi. The original settlers, if you look and try to find out the literal meaning, they were the original inhabitants of the land. Adivasi. Adi means the original. Sometimes they're called as scheduled tribes. Anusuchit Janajati. This term scheduled tribe is there in the constitution, and it can be traced back to the government of India Act of 1935. Now, why this term scheduled tribe? Schedule refers to list. So, government of India Act 1935, it has some specific provisions, some form of affirmative action, some form of positive discrimination for those communities which are backward, right? And it has identified in a list, in a schedule, which are those communities. So those communities which have mentioned, which are found mentioned in that list or schedule, they're called as scheduled tribes. And it's something which is carried forward in the Indian constitution as well. So schedule refers to the list. List of whom? List of those communities which are backward, right? Some form of backwardness is there. And backwardness could be because of multiple reasons, right? Geographical isolation and a bunch of factors. So scheduled tribes is a term that is used for the tribal members. Sometimes they're also referred to as Janajati, folk communities, Girijan, hill dwellers. Many of these scheduled tribes, right? Many of these tribal members, they stay in inaccessible terrains, in high hills. So they're called hill dwellers. Some of them will be staying in forests. They're called Vanavasis. They're also called as Vanjati, forest caste. Adim Jati, primitive caste. Many of them have primitive characteristics. So over a period of time, since they have not had contact with other sections of the society, they have remained away, they have remained geographically isolated. So whatever traits they had thousands of years back, the same trait continues. So they have primitive characteristics. Hill tribe, right? They're also called indigenous people who have been here, who are the people from here itself. So these are all different names by which tribes go. Now, what we try to understand is, or if you have to understand tribes better, one thing that we can do is we can look at some of the defining characteristics of tribes. What are some of the features of the tribes? Here again, different thinkers, different researchers have come up with their perspective. One such researcher is Mandelbaum, who has again studied Indian society details. So Mandelbaum has identified some defining characteristics of tribes. Now, at many places, you will be realizing that we are using the names of some researchers and thinkers. Do you really need to use these terms in your general studies paper? Not required. But it is always good if you know from where these concepts are coming. In case, let's say, you want to research it further, you can search Mandelbaum tribal features and get more details. So sometimes you might want to research more out of curiosity. So when you know these names, right, it is better. In general studies paper, these names are not essential. If you are able to quote them, it's good, but it's not something which is required. So what are some of the features as per Mandelbaum? So Mandelbaum says that among tribal members, there is strong kinship ties. Right? So they're held together. They relate to one another. There's strong bonding among those tribal members. Second thing is, there's lack of a clearly defined hierarchy. They have strong ties between them. One particular tribal community, they have strong ties. But you won't find hierarchy among them. In fact, they are egalitarian. Most of the times, right? They are egalitarian. In fact, between men and women, here also they have equal ties. If you look at the larger society, generally men will be the ones who will be having authority, they will be having leaders, say women don't have. Women lag behind. Right? But among tribals, that egalitarianism is also there. Men and women are treated like one. So in fact, if you look at the different sex ratios, child sex ratios among tribes, it is way better as compared to the overall population. Right? Also look at some of these places where tribal members are more concentrated. For example, region, you'll find the sex ratio is better. Absence of strong complex formal organizations. Different kinds of large-scale organizations do not find among tribes. Different kinds of bureaucratic organizations do not find among tribes. Now, another way to think of it, what kind of activities tribals are engaged in? Very basic activities, primary activities. Some of them will be engaged in agriculture, some primitive form of agriculture, like shifting cultivation. Some of them will be engaged in herding of animals. Some of them will be engaged in fishing. These kind of very basic activities. Now, for these kind of activities, do you need large-scale organizations? Maybe not. In fact, many of these things that they are producing, or many of these things that they're creating, they might not be even selling them in the market. They might not be even gathering surplus. Most likely, they'll be focusing on their day-to-day survival, sustenance. Think about on the extreme end, right? Different organizations that we see around us, Microsoft, or Google, or Infosys, or Hindustan Unilever. These are all organizations which have their presence worldwide. Right? Or Unilever has its presence worldwide, Hindustan Unilever will have its presence in India. But most of these organizations, they're all formal organizations, complex organizations. Why do they need these kind of people? They're producing goods or services at different places, and then they're providing these goods and services to different people. Right? So there's a need for that. But again, the tribal members, they don't need, I mean, at least they might not want all these things. There's not a requirement for all these things among them, maybe. Right? So they don't have these complex formal organizations, strong organizations. In fact, in most of the tribes, there's an absence of the concept of private property.
whatever property they have is held together, commonly held. The community holds it. They might have some land, they might be able to area, they might hold that land, but they will hold it together. Concept of private property might have community basis of holding the property. They do not really focus on surplus. They don't want to make a lot of profits. They are just focusing on their day-to-day sustenance. In fact, they might have different psychological effect. They don't enjoy life. They're not really bothered about what will happen a day after or next year or maybe after 5 years. They're not really bothering about making a lot of money, revenues, profits. So these are mental things about tribes. These are all some features as per mental. Apart from this, there are some other features as well, which has been identified by multiple speakers, common features. Tribals have distinctive culture. They have simple religions. Many of them believe in animistic practices. For example, animistic practices refers to the belief in spirits, souls. So around them, there might be different kinds of objects. They might be worshipping those objects. Like maybe they will be worshipping the river around them, or there's a lake around near them. They might be worshipping it. There might be a hill around near them, or they're staying in a hill. They might be worshipping it. So animistic practices they might believe in. Totemic practices. Totemic means worshipping of different kinds of physical objects. Right. So simple religious practices they might be subscribing to. Distinct language might not be there. They have their own unique dialects maybe. They have very simple economic organization. They're not engaged in different kinds of complex activities. For example, industrial activities they might not be engaged in. They might not be present on markets because they're not producing for the markets. They're just producing for themselves for their own survival. Maybe some amount they will barter. But for large scale profits, they're not carrying out different kinds of economic activities. They're relatively small in size. And usually they will be inhabiting inaccessible terrains. They'll be staying in hills, forests. So these are some of the characteristic features of tribes. Now, you might have a question. All these points that we're talking about, are they relevant, equally applicable in the present context? For example, I'm saying that as per these definition, right, or as per some of these research, we're saying that tribal members are engaged in very simple economic activities and they're relatively small in size. Does it always hold true? We're saying that they're egalitarian. Does it always hold true? And other features, there is no caste-like hierarchy among tribals. Is it always true? See, all these features that we're talking about, more or less they're true. Or if you have to create an ideal type of tribes, these are the features, common features. But keep in mind that among tribes, again, things are changing. Not all tribal communities will be exactly following all these things. In the beginning, we saw that different tribal communities are different level of integration. Within tribes also there is massive amount of diversity. So all these features might not be equally applicable for all the tribes. So we should not just limit our understanding of tribes to these features. We should also be aware of different kind of limitations that might exist if we just focus on these features. So we'll see some of these limitations. And keep in mind, because of these limitations, understanding of tribe becomes difficult. Who should be qualified as a tribe, who should not be qualified as a tribe, that also becomes slightly controversial at some point of time. And this is a problem that is not new. This is a problem that has been there for a while now. So what are some of the limitations, right? The features that we talked about. One thing we mentioned was tribals stay in places which are relatively inaccessible, right? Hills, forests, etc. But keep in mind that inaccessibility is also a function of the kind of infrastructure that we have. Maybe 100 years back, most of the places in India were inaccessible. But over a period of time, our infrastructure has become better. Now, most of the places in India, they will have access to roads. Many places in India will have rail connectivity, right? So, over a period of time, transport communication facilities have become better. As a result of which, many of the communities which were inaccessible because of the place they were staying, they were inaccessible. Similarly, we said that tribes usually have smaller size, the community size is small. Here also there are variations. There are some tribes where the community size is very small. Not, I mean, there will be hundreds or thousands. But then there are also some tribes which are spread across different states. Right? They're in different parts of the country. Right? So there might be millions as well. So, for example, Bhils, Gonds, again, the size, the population is huge. But some of the tribal members in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they are those particularly vulnerable tribal members. Very few in number. Culture. See, we said that okay, tribals have a distinctive culture. But as they are coming in contact with the population at large, as again, they're also entering education institutions, they're moving to the cities, they're participating in different economic activities. In cities, they're migrating from one place to another. Many tribal members, many tribal communities are losing out on their distinctive culture. Many tribals actually lost their language. Many are also losing out their cultural identity. I'll give you another reason why they're losing out their cultural identity. Tribal people have been traditionally staying in forests, they've been staying in places which are possible rich in minerals, different natural resources are there. But as we go ahead with the process of development, different kinds of infrastructure threats come up. And these are coming up in those places where tribal members were traditionally building. So now they have to move from that place to another. Tribal members, they have a particular kind of link with the nature. A part of their culture, a part of their identity is that nature around them. So when they move from one place to another, there is not only a geographical shift, there is also a change in the culture. Right? The culture also changes because of that. So many of them might also losing out their cultural identity. For example, some of them might be worshipping the hill where they're staying. But if a project comes up near that, they have to move to another place. The hill no longer exists near them. Right? The hill exists where it existed, but they're not staying near the hill. So part of their culture gets impacted. What about economic organization? We said that they are involved in very basic economic organization, primary activities. But that might not be true. Nowadays, many of them are involved in agriculture. Many of them are also practicing mechanical agriculture. Many of them are using high yield varieties, green revolution. Many of them are also working in tea states. For example, some of them are working in tea states. So the economic organization also varies. Some of them might still be engaged in very limited kind of economic organization, but some of them have carrying out different kinds of activities, have participated in different forms of economic organizations. The next one, as they are participating in different kinds of economic activities, as they are moving from one place to another, they're migrating. As the economy is getting more advanced, among them also stratification is important. We saw the concept of stratification something back. How every society will find some form of stratification on the basis of wealth, status, power. So tribal community, yes, you have egalitarianism, but with exposure to the economy, here also different kinds of stratification is developing. And there have been multiple studies, study Puma study Gujarat, there have been different studies in Northeastern China. They find out that among tribal members also different kinds of strata has emerged. We mentioned that tribals have some form of very basic religion. Many of them are engaged in totemism, animistic practices. They have distinctive religious practices, but that is also gradually changing. Many tribals in the Northeast they now follow Christianity. Tribals in Lakshadweep they follow Islam, and then many tribals they are following Hinduism as well, right? So that is also changing. Many of them are now part of institutional religions. These are all institutional religions, right? Islam, Hinduism, or Christianity. So that change is also gradually seen in different parts of the country. In fact, some studies point out that within tribal members, caste-like stratification is also emerging. And again, how is this caste decided? Multiple factors. One of the factors can be the kind of occupation that they're taking. Let's see how caste and occupation are linked to one another. You're born in a particular caste, occupation is decided. But here's something interesting happening. There are instances where tribal members they have moved from one place to another. They have migrated, and when they have migrated, after the migration, they have taken some economic activities. And based on the kind of economic activity they have taken up, a particular caste has been designated to them. Right? So they are finding a place in the caste hierarchy. So there was a study by Kibos, and he finds out that Juan tribes in Odisha, they migrated to different places. Some of them migrated to Hingalas, some of them migrated to Palhara. And depending on the kind of occupation that they took up, they're given a particular caste. If they're taking up agriculture, they're assigned a particular caste. If they're becoming basket makers, they're given a particular kind of caste. So these are some of the variations that we are seeing. So we initially saw what are those distinctive features among tribes, but all these features might not be equally applicable. Different tribal communities are at different levels at this point of time. And this is what makes it difficult for sociologists, anthropologists, policymakers, or whoever is trying to understand tribes in India. Now, what we will do is we'll try to understand the spread of tribes in India. We'll try to understand which are those places where you have concentration of tribes. And again, some of the variations that we saw, we'll look at some of the numbers for the variations. So let's look at it one by one. How many tribes are there in India, or what is the population of tribal members in India? As per the 2011 census, 8.6% of the total population is tribes, and total number is around 104 million, and they are spread out over 15% of the total geographical area. 85% of the tribal population they're concentrated in 8 states. Mostly it is the central part of India, middle part of India. About 11% they're in the 8 northeastern states. Like Sikkim, also you have to include. Right? That's one of those northeastern states. The rest they're in the northern and southern part of India. So this is how they are spread. Now, how they are concentrated. In some states in India, 64 to 95% of the population is tribes. Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, Sikkim, Arunachal. What Do you understand by this? So majority population is tribes. So these are the bases where the majority population constitutes of tribals. In some states, around 30 to 35% of the population is tribes. People and Manipur. In Lakshadweep, again, the total population of Lakshadweep is not much, but here over 90% of the population is tribes. Odisha and Madhya Pradesh, 20 to 20% of the population is tribes. Now keep one thing in mind. See, in these states, 64 to 95% of the population is tribes. But these are also small states. The size of the state, the geographical area is not much. Also, the population is not much. States like Odisha and Madhya Pradesh, the overall population is huge. So 20 to 20% of the overall population will be huge. That means the number of tribal members in the state is going to be huge. The rest of the country, if you look at different states in India, the proportion of tribes in the overall population of the state is somewhere between 1 to 5%. Some more data points. Maximum tribal population in Madhya Pradesh, then Maharashtra, then Odisha. This is as per the 2011 census. And Bhils, they are the most populous tribe. 37.7% of the total scheduled tribe population constitutes of Bhils. And somewhere around 46 lakh Bhils are there as per 2011 census. Gonds are the second largest tribe. 35.6% of the total tribal population. Around 43 lakhs is the total population of the Gonds. So these are some data points. Now, why am I discussing these data points? Sometimes in prelims, you might get these kind of questions. They might ask you to arrange states as per the proportion of tribal population. Sometimes they might ask you these questions like, which is the most populous tribe in India? Which is the state with maximum tribal population? So these kind of questions can be there in prelims. You can answer this question, or you can think of this question as a geography question, or it can also be a question related to social issue. Now, how are the tribal members distributed throughout the length and breadth of the country, right? And what are some of the prominent tribes in India? So this is something which has been extensively studied by sociologists and anthropologists, and there are different ways by which this classification has been done. Some will do it on the basis of language, some will do it on the basis of geography. Again, geography can be divided into different types. So different variations are there. We're not going into all the variations. We just look at one such classification because as part of gender studies, we might not need to know all the different types of classifications. So we look at just one classification that should be good enough, and this mostly because sometimes you can get a question in prelims about some tribes. Right? So if you have a rough idea where are these tribes located, you will be able to answer this question. So only for that factual part we are doing it. Analytical part or analytical based questions based on distribution of tribes might not be there. Most likely will not get anything. So one researcher, he goes ahead and he classifies tribes. And he classifies tribes into 5 types. Those tribal members who are in the Himalayan region, those tribes which are there in the Vindhya region, those tribes which are in the Western region, and then some tribes are there in the Southern India, and then there are some tribes who are in the island region. So we look at all these regions one by one and try to just remember the name of the tribes. You might not be able to remember all the tribes in these regions in one go. Maybe you have to relook it after a few days, or maybe every few months you can just relook it. That way you'll be able to remember it. So what is this Himalayan region? This Himalayan region again constitutes of multiple regions. It constitutes of the northeastern Himalayas, like the Himalayas and northeastern part of India, the central Himalaya. So basically, the region of the Pradesh and Bihar, the central Himalaya, the northwestern Himalaya, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu Kashmir. So all the tribes who are in this region, northeastern Himalaya, central Himalaya, northwestern Himalaya, right? So they are all part of that Himalayan region, the Himalayan region tribes. Which are some of these tribes? Kukis, Khasis, Khampis, Garos, Lepchas, Bhotias, Akas, Daflas, right? So these are all tribes who are in the Himalayan region. Then comes the tribe in the middle India region. Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh. Juangs, Khaya, Kons, Gons, Santals, Muyas, Mundas, Baigas. Right? So these are the tribes who are in the central part of India. Also keep in mind that the central part of India, as well as the western part of India, most of the tribes in India are considered India. Western India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. What are some of the tribes here? Gons, Barodias, Bhils, Thanwas, Kolis, Minas, Varlis. You might have heard of the Varli painting, you might have heard of Gond painting, Bhil painting. In fact, I'll be showing you some of these paintings in some subsequent sessions. So these are some tribes whom you find in the western part of India. Then the tribes in the southern part of India. Tribes in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Kurumbas, Irulas very recently featured in one movie, try to figure that out. Tudas, Nilgiri regions, Kotas, others, Chinchos. These are all different tribes in the southern part of India. The island region. Andaman, Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep Islands, Jarawas, Great Andamanese, North Central East. These are some tribes over in the island region. Some of these tribes in the island region have been in the news. Multiple reasons, right? Try to figure that out. If you try to find out news related to some of these tribes, that is the best way to remember the tribes. Right? So as an exercise, you can do this. Maybe search some of these communities, try to find out what kind of unique things they're up to. Some of them might be making some handicrafts, some of them might be making some interesting paintings, some of them might be engaged in some kind of economic activity, maybe certain kind of production they're engaged in. Maybe they're producing certain kinds of textiles, or maybe they're producing certain kind of food commodity. Right? So try to Google it. That way, it will be easier for you to understand. You'll be able to form some form of mind map in that case. So this is how LP Vidyarthi classifies tribes. So this is about tribes in India. Firstly, who are the tribes? Why defining tribes becomes a difficult thing? What are the different terms by which tribes are referred to? What are some of the features of tribes, common features? Why just focusing on these features might not be good enough because there are different kinds of variations. What are those variations? How tribal communities are spread throughout the length and breadth of the country? How they're considered in some places? And lastly, how are they distributed? Right? On what basis distribution can be there? And we saw about distribution. So this is about tribes in India.
The last part of Indian society, or last part of the first topic, social change. So to this point of time, we have understood what is society and what is the structure of society, what is the structure of Indian society, what are the features of Indian society. Last part, how does society change? We have discussed something in the beginning that society is not static. It varies from time to time, it changes from time to time. Now the question is, what are those factors which cause changes in society? What leads to society changing? Right? And how these changes have happened in the Indian context, or how these factors have played their role in the Indian context. So what we'll do is we'll first look at what are the factors which typically bring about change in society, and how many of these factors have been at play in the Indian society. So this is what we will do, and then we'll look at some of the questions which have been asked in the past. So let's look at the factors that lead to social change. What we have done is we have divided the factors into different types, and again within each of these types there are certain sub-points. First is there are some factors which are related to population, which can bring about change in society. If population changes, society changes. I'll give you an example. If you have a very small society, the requirement of the society will also be limited. Organized social organization within the society will also be very, very basic. If you look at large societies, these societies are extremely complicated. The demands for the society will be huge. Just compare a village. In a village, the society is very small. And compare a society like the society in Mumbai. Look at the entire population in Mumbai. Extremely complex. Look at the transport system. Look at the communication system. Extremely complex. You have road networks where you have again different buses, government buses flying. Then you have local trains. You might have metro. This is just to meet the transportation needs of the people over there. In villages, all these things might not be required. Health requirements extremely complex in urban areas. In villages, again, health requirements will be less complex. There are also some difficulties will be there, but the requirements will be much less. So what I'm trying to say is, as population changes, the requirements change. And as to meet those requirements, again, you have to create different kinds of institutions. And again, the society will change accordingly. But how does population change? Sometimes the child birth rates will child birth rate might increase. If the child birth rates are increasing massively, what will happen? The population will grow exponentially. Sometimes mortality rates might increase. If mortality rates increases, the population growth rate will decrease. So population growth rate will be dependent on child birth rate and mortality rates. And if population growth increases massively or it decreases, it stabilizes, it will now have a bearing on the society. Social structures will vary according to that. And population can have a bearing on technology. It can have a bearing on the economy. If you have a large population, there will be massive competition for different kinds of resources. Within society, different kinds of conflicts can emerge, which can lead to changes in society. I'll give you an example. Let's say you
a small society and you have a large society, what we do is we look at an analogy. Let's say there's a small family, 4 members are there, husband, wife, and their children. Look at the requirements of this family. Everyday requirement. One of the everyday requirements is food. They will be consuming multiple meals. So small family, how will they meet this requirement? Maybe the elder members of the family they will cook and everyone consumes the food. And generally in Indian context, what happens? It is generally the female who cooks. Generally, in urban areas, maybe husband, wife both share the responsibility or they hire a cook. So usually this is the case. So within the family, most likely, most of the people will be using resources within the family. Right? Either the husband is cooking or wife is cooking. Most likely the wife is cooking or in urban areas, maybe they share the responsibility. But now, let's say they have a family function where maybe 200 people are invited. Now, if 200 people are invited, again, food is one of the things that has to be served for them. That's why they have this function. How will that requirement be met? Can it be met by that female cooking or that husband cooking or they sharing the responsibility? Most likely not. Because now, multiple things are you have to ensure that these 200 people are happy, they get the right kind of food. You might have experience of cooking for 4 people. Cooking for 200 people is difficult. You don't know what kind of combinations you have to use for masala and all those things. And again, it might require some specialized skills. It will require some specialized skills. So as the demand is increasing from 4 to 200, you might now hire a catering service. You might now hire people who are experts, a chef. And again, the chef will be having some support staff maybe. And so what is happening here? When it is very small, when the requirements are small, general skills are good enough. But when the requirements increase, you now need specialized skills to meet those demands. Same thing applies here. As population increases, the requirements change. And now to meet those requirements, you need specialized skills. If you have to produce for your own self, you're cultivating for your own self, whatever skills you have, that is good enough. But if production has to happen for a larger economy, for the markets, you need specialized skills, you have to be trained. Maybe you go for mechanization. So as population increases, demands increase, people need to have specialized skills in that economy to meet the requirements. That is what happens in industrial areas, that is what happens in other areas. People are all specialized. People are all doing their own things. They're not doing everything. They're doing their own things. Look at any other area. Like people generally will have one particular occupation and they're specializing in that. They take years to get specialized. A doctor spends like 5 years in MBBS and they will be doing some MD, then they will be going for super specialization. Engineers, again, they will be spending 4 years and studying, some of them will go for MTech. Professors, they will be having some graduation, then they will be doing their masters, then they will be doing their MPhD, whatever. So everyone is specialized in their areas. And not necessarily you need to have education qualifications. Some people will go for vocational training. But whatever the case, they're all specialized. So increasing population creates these kind of needs. And society is not divided. Different kinds of tasks are carried out by different kinds of people. All the labor is divided. Complex division of labor is there. In rural areas, this kind of complex division of labor might not be there. In other areas, you just go around the market. Then you find what all kinds of skills people are offering. Like go to salon. In salon also you find people are having expertise in different things. Like someone is expert in cutting the hair of females. Someone is having expertise in cutting the hair of males. Some of them are experts in nail paint. Some of them are expert in doing massages. Like these are all different kinds of specialized skills within one small unit. In factories, again, different kind of expertise. In legal profession, again, different kind of expertise. In engineering, so much of expertise. So complex division of labor and specialization happens if the population changes, you have larger societies. Another factor that can bring in change is culture. What kind of culture you have, what kind of cultural ideas are there, what kind of norms are there. That also has a bearing on society. I'll just give you an example. This is kind of the most prominent example of culture bringing in change. Now, some researchers, prominent researchers being Weber found out that, Max Weber, there is some form of correlation between a particular kind of religion and emergence of capitalism in Western Europe. Weber finds out that in Western Europe, capitalism emerged. What is capitalism? People are pulling in their resources, right? And they're investing their resources, they're working hard, they're making profit out of these resources, this capital. And again, what profit they're making, again, they're investing it back. And again, they're making profits. He finds out that this is something that is emerging in Western part of Europe. And he finds out that in Western part of Europe, you have a specific group of people who are following Protestantism. And again, there's a specific sect among Protestantism they're following. Now, what is the relation here? Weber says that they are influenced by certain ideas. What are these ideas? This particular religious sect, it talks about austerity, and it talks about hard work, it talks about finding what kind of place you will have after your death, whether you are the chosen one of the Almighty or not. How do you find out that? The leader of the sect is saying, you can find out where you are going to, what is your destiny, right? Whether you are the chosen one of the God or not. You can find out when you are alive. How do you find out? You can find it out by working hard. Work hard. If you are succeeding, and that means you are the chosen one. If you are not succeeding, then you are not the chosen one. But how do you know that you are the chosen one or not? You have to first work hard. So this is one of the fundamental values among the Protestants. So this is a cultural item, right? Values, people follow this. So as a result of which everyone is working hard. But then there's another condition that you have to lead a life of austerity. You have to be disciplined, which implies that you work hard. But you are not expected to lavishly spend your money. You have to be very, very careful about it because you need to have an austere life. How do you do that? If you're working hard, you make money. What do you do with that money? So you make money, you're making profits, you're generating revenues, but you can't spend it back. What will you do? You put it back. You will invest it back in whatever you're doing. And as a result of which, your business will go further. So the teachings among the Protestants that work hard, it will help you find out whether you are the chosen one. Second thing, lead a life of austerity, lead a life of discipline. It is leading to emergence of capitalism in Western Europe. So culture is impacting it. Impacting people here, it is impacting societies. And because of capitalism, there's industrialization, there's urbanization, and society is impacted by it. And initially it started in Western Europe, and the entire world gets impacted by it. So those religions which are this world, which say that whatever is there is here. Work hard. You can find your purpose here. This is the world. Don't think about the other world which exists after death. So those religions which are this worldly, they massively influence people's behavior. And again, Protestantism was this worldly. Many other religions are not this worldly. They're outer worldly. They talk about what will happen after death. Culture also can change your value systems. It can create a new value system. When you get exposed to a new culture, you realize, okay, the things that we are taught, the things that we are socialized into might not be correct. Whatever the new culture you are exposed to, maybe you will start thinking of the culture in a better light. And you will also start questioning your own culture, your own values, which have been imparted by your own culture. Culture moves from one place to another. There's diffusion of culture, especially in the present world, where you are exposed to different kinds of ideas. Every day you are watching movies which might have been made in some other part of the world. You get to know about their culture, their ideas, their values. You get influenced by that. Not only does it move from one place to another, you travel, people also travel from their countries to here. When you interact with them, you get to know about their cultures. Maybe a part of their culture you like. Sometimes what happens is there can be cultural lag. What is the meaning of this? See, we are exposed to different kinds of cultures. As a result of which, yes, we get influenced, and as a result of which, society changes. But sometimes a part of our culture changes, but a part of our culture doesn't change. It is resistant to change. Generally, what happens is the material components of our culture, it changes quick. If you look at it, our culture is also divided into parts. One part is the material part, the technological part. Another part is the non-material part. Different kinds of values norms. If you are exposed to a new culture, you might adopt the material technological component of that. For example, different kind of technology. In the West, new kind of technology might come up, you will easily take it. 5G and other things, right? You will easily accept that. New video formats and bunch of things. But when it comes to values, norms, ideas, again, there is some amount of resistance. You might not easily accept it. So you will find a lot of people in India, they use most modern gadgets. Right? They will have the fanciest of cars, they will have the best of gadgets. But are they modern in their ideas? Values? Maybe not. They will still subscribe to different kinds of traditional ideas, primordial identities. When it comes to marriages, again, they will look at religion, caste, and other things. Right? Subscribe to different kinds of traditional ideas, primordial identities. When it comes to marriages, again, they will look at religion, caste, and other things. Right? Instead of marrying on the basis of individual compatibility. Right? So the values don't change as quickly. People are still not individualistic. But when it comes to all these technology, you will easily accept it. So that difference is called cultural lag. A part of culture you accept, a part of culture you won't accept. So part of culture has changed, a part of culture remains the same. That's the lag. But whatever be the case, culture can bring about changes in society. The next aspect, politics. Politics has a massive role to play in bringing about changes in society. In fact, time and again, we resort to politics to bring about changes. What do we do? Laws. Laws at least try to bring about change in society. How do they do it? Sometimes laws are made to uplift certain sections of the population. For example, reservation system, positive discrimination. You're trying to ensure that certain sections of the population which have been lagging behind, they are better off because of these policies. Laws are also made to bring about change in the society. Untouchability is there. The constitution says untouchability is abolished. There was practice of trafficking of human beings. Law says we cannot do that. There was inequality in society. In fact, also it continues, but the law tries to ensure that you have equality. The constitution says you should have equality. Also, laws ensure uniformity throughout the length of the country. Right? Laws are the same. That is, the constitution is the same. Some laws might vary, state laws might vary, but the fundamental law of the land remains more or less the same. It ensures uniform treatment. But when it comes to laws as a mechanism to bring about social change, there are certain hindrances. There are certain challenges. What is that? See, you might make a law to bring about change in society. In fact, constitution is that. Constitution is trying to bring about some form of social revolution. When the constitution was drafted at that point of time, equality and all those things would not have been something that society would have subscribed to. Society was completely, or mostly, it was hierarchical. It was on the basis of caste system. Right? There was inequality between men and women. Certain communities would have been treated as untouchables. But the constitution is saying all these things are wrong. You should have equality. Abolish untouchability. Abolish bondage. Abolish trafficking of human beings. Men and women are also at par. You cannot discriminate someone on the basis of caste. So constitution is trying to bring about the social revolution. But has it completely succeeded? Most likely not. Because now also men and women they're not treated equal. There's discrimination against women. Look at all the different indicators, sex ratio, child sex ratio. It is in favor of men against women. The numbers. Now also you have discrimination on the basis of caste. Right? Though the instances have come down, but it still follow. So what we see here is you need laws, but laws also to be completely successful, they have to be supported by the right kind of social structure. They have to be supported by public opinion. If people do not agree with the law, then the law loses its legitimacy. I'll just give you an example. In case of India, the parliament makes laws, the state legislative assemblies make law, the executive can also make law, ordinances and all. At the same time, judiciary also can make law. Many times judiciary has come up with different pronouncements which are progressive. For example, judiciary says women are also having equal rights to enter into a political temple, where women are not allowed to enter. Judiciary says women can enter, but you see the society opposing. They're saying that no, women cannot enter into this particular temple. You can see different kinds of groups of people opposing women's entry to the temples. So the law will become ineffective if you do not have enough support of social structure. Right? So laws can bring about change in society, but there is limitation. Right? Society also has to change. Another example is in India, sex-selective abortion, determining the sex of the fetus, and aborting the fetus. All these things are banned as well. Sex-selective abortion is illegal. In fact, determination of the sex of the fetus is also illegal. But what happens? You have instances of people going for sex-selective abortion. If there is a female is pregnant and they find out that finding out is something is illegal, people have find out ways to find this out, and then they abort the fetus if it's a female child. Look at India's child sex ratio. Look at India's sex ratio. It all points to that. Points to the same thing. So society is patriarchal. Society is preferring male child over female child, and as a result of the laws are ineffective. So this politics does have a role to play, but it has some limitations as well. The next factor which can bring about change in society is education. Education is a process by which different kinds of values are imparted, different kinds of skills are imparted, and all these things have a role to play in bringing about social change. If new values are imparted, right, people will again use those values. Right, people will, for example, if people are educated, they might have a broader mental horizon. They will be more rational. They will not accept things as they are. They will question things. The societies might become more secular. Societies might become more accepting to new kind of changes. Society might be accepting to the different communities that exist. Right, different kind of diversity that exists. So new attitude values can be imparted through education, which has a bearing on society. And at the same time, education means some skills are imparted. And if skills are imparted, that also has a bearing on society. How? If people are more skilled, their contribution to the economy changes. Their contribution to the economy increases. They themselves will become better off. At the same time, they will also create new things. They provide for different kinds of services. So the economy does better. You have people who are skilled. We have doctors, engineers, lawyers, different kinds of professions. Economic growth will also be there, which in turn will also impact society. Right? So skill upgradation happens. People are now more open to change. Apart from that, society benefits because education imparts a particular kind of attitude. The attitude for deferred gratification. Gratification means satisfaction. Deferred means your satisfaction is delayed. If let's say someone is not in school and rather that individual is working as a child labor. A child labor is something which is bad, but I'm just giving you an example. So when someone is working as a child labor, what happens? Immediate gratification is there. You work today, by evening you're getting some money, cash in hand. Or maybe you work for 7 days, you get some cash, or you work for 1 month, you get cash later. But it's more like immediate, right? Immediately you're getting some money. You're immediately getting some results out of that. But in education, that is not the case. You're studying today, so that in future at some point of time you get something. You're studying your 8th standard, everyone is saying study for the next 2-3 years. After 10th, life is sorted. But that doesn't happen. Then you move to the 11th standard, then people say study till 12th standard, after that you get admission into some good college and your life is sorted. Again, after 12th you get into some good education institution, and then also people say, oh, study for the next 3-4 years, after that you have placement, life is sorted. But then you realize that you're applying for civil service examination or you're doing MBA. So the point is, you are at any point of time when you're somewhere, you're getting yourself educated, you're building your skills, you're not getting immediate results. Your satisfaction is deferred. And this attitude is being inculcated in you. That it's okay if you get the results later on. But this helps because this helps in building the skill of individual. If everyone is now focusing on immediate gratification, the overall skills will not develop. Specialization will not happen. You have a population which is kind of generalist in nature, but they're not specialized. You will not have doctors who have studied for 7 years, 10 years. You will not have geologists, you will not have architects, you will not have archaeologists. No. So that society will not be competitive enough. So this attitude for deferred gratification helps in this aspect. And all these things have a bearing on society. The next one, societies also change due to collective mobilization. Collective mobilization means people coming together, demanding something, or people coming together, questioning something. Different kinds of protests, social movements, they're all collective mobilizations. In many societies, I'm not talking about India, many other societies, people did not have voting rights, despite they being free, independent, having their own constitution. So women are coming together and they're demanding that we need to have voting rights. And as a result of which, women are given voting rights. And as a result of which, women's participation in society changes. It's an example of women's movement in these countries. In India also we have had different kinds of social movements. Environmental movements, Chikku Andolan. We have movements, collective mobilization by different caste communities as well. They have protested against different kinds of discrimination, but have been better off with them. And as a result of which, our policies have also changed, which in turn have impacted our society. Temple entry movement is an example of that. So social movements also bring about change in society. Sometimes, in some economies, especially emerging economies, underdeveloped economies, there might be an attempt for planned social change. Planning. At the top level, the political elite is deciding that we should have some plan in place. We should decide what should be our priorities and how we should achieve it. Example, in case of India, we used to have plans. We had 12 plans. So there will be a planning commission at the top. The planning commission used to decide what are the priorities for the country. Right? How do we go ahead with that? Right? How do we implement that? We used to also allocate resources to the length and breadth of the country to different states. We should decide which sectors should be given more importance. So you identify a common purpose. You identify what should be our growth rate, what should be the literacy rate, what should be the life expectancy, what should be the mental rate, how do we change all these things, right, from the present state to the expected state. So this is what is called as deliberate social change. At the top, you're deciding what are your priorities for society, and accordingly you're finding out tools to bring about that change. Last part, chance happens. So here you plan things out, but sometimes things don't work as expected. Whatever you have planned might not work. Some black swan event can be there. Something unexpected happened, and as a result of it, the society changed. In the past, there have been some of these instances. For example, in England, 14th century, there were multiple instances of disease, plague, and so many people died that the existing social structure changed. The kind of relation people had back then, you had a feudal society, you had a feudal lords and feudal serfs. They had some sort of interdependence between them because so many people died. This interdependence changed. In fact, this also facilitated the transition from feudalism to capitalism in India, not only India, by the way, all countries, they have been impacted by a recent chance happening pandemic. The pandemic is expected to bring about change in the society. And in fact, it's happening. The way people are working, the way people are availing different kinds of services. Education, for example, move towards online education. Some of the impact of these things will be more tangible, more visible in maybe next 10, 15 years. During the pandemic, how people are getting themselves educated, how children are getting educated on the basis of technology, right? Online education. But many people in India, they do not have the capacity to access online education. So all these people are already poor. All these children are already poor. They cannot access education facilities. And what will happen? Over a period of time, you realize that because of the pandemic, since they're not able to access education, the learning levels have become further worse. So already they're poor. On top of that, they're not able to access education for a good amount of population. And this will maybe have a bearing on their wage, on their skill development, on their employment facilities, all these things in the future, inequality, many things. So sometimes chance happenings can also cause these social change to happen. So this is about the different factors causing change in society in general. Now what we do is we try to see what are some of those major events, processes that have impacted Indian society. Right? So one by one we will look at some of these things. As I was just talking about law, political factors just now, right? How law and political factors bring about change in society. So in just India also, constitution has played a significant role in bringing about social change. Right? And at the point of time when constitution was drafted, society would have been completely hierarchical, stratified society, completely hierarchical, massive prevalence of inequality. But the constitution is saying we are a democracy. Everyone has equal say. Universal right franchise, right to equality. It is giving people equal power. Also, over a period of time, we have changed our constitution, modified our constitution. Democratic decentralization in the 1990s. More power to the people at the bottom. People at the bottom, they also realize that they have power. They can decide things on their own and for themselves. So constitution has played a significant role. Different provisions for upliftment, different provisions for prevention of atrocities. All these things are in the constitution. Atrocities against certain communities, upliftment for certain communities. All these things are part of the constitution. Apart from the constitution, the state, from time to time, with the models, with the policies, programs that it has taken, has also brought about changes in the society. We're just discussing how planned economic change, planned social change is also initiated. In India also we did that. The planning commission used to do that. Every 5 years they will be evaluating, right, what has happened, what are the problems, what needs to be done for the next 5 years. We went for plan. Also we went ahead with mixed economic approach. Mixed economy means the government will also play a role in the economy. So government will be producing different kinds of goods and services. But at the same time, private players will also be there. But initially what happened, the role for the private space was limited. There were massive rules and regulations which were implemented, which kind of did not incentivize private sector participation. And government used to have a very significant role. Government was producing steel, government was producing different kinds of capital goods. And for a long period of time, government was there in each and every sector of the economy. Even now, in many areas, government is still there, like banking, insurance. Till recently, government was also running airlines. Right? So government plus private sector, both will be there in the economy. And it also has a impact on the society, right? How much amount of jobs can be created, how much social mobility will be there. All these things are impacted by the amount of opportunities that we have in the economy. Preventive industrialization, urbanization, 1990s, we have had the reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Some of these things, urbanization, globalization, what has been the impact of all these things on the Indian society, we will be seeing that in subsequent sessions. We have a separate discussion on urbanization, we have a separate discussion on globalization. So what I would recommend is, at this point of time, keep in mind that we have industrialized. We have also urbanized. In 1901, just 11% of India was in urban areas. By 2011, somewhere around 31% of India was in urban areas. In fact, this number can be more. Some commentators say that this number is definitely more. 11, it is not 31%. If you change the measurement criteria, it will be more than that. But whatever the case, we have urbanized. So all these things has a bearing on social structures. It has bearing on caste, it has bearing on tribes, it has bearing on social classes that we have. Some of these things we have already seen. So society changes because of that. Similarly, globalization. Globalization has a bearing on our society, it has a bearing on our economy, it has a bearing on our culture as well. Our cultural diversity might change. So all these things we are going to discuss in details. So try to link all these things with those sessions, right? When you study urbanization, when you study globalization, impact, how our society has been impacted. Apart from that, we have promoted education. Education is a factor which leads to social change. The number of people who are getting educated now, the number of people who are getting enrolled in education is huge. Almost 99% of our kids are getting enrolled in schools now. Our enrollment in secondary education has also increased, though still it is modest, but over a period of time it has increased. When it comes to population, we have done a tremendous job in stabilizing our population. In 1950s, on an average, a female used to give birth to 6 kids. You ask your grandparents, right, how many siblings they have. Right? So the fertility rate used to be around 6. Now, more or less, we have stabilized our population. In most of the states, the fertility rate is less than 2.1. Right? So that is again another massive development. And keep in mind, population has a role on as a bearing on society. There have been different schemes, policies to bring about change in the rural areas. There have been different schemes, policies which bring about change in the agrarian economy. Right? Different programs, community development, cooperators, green revolution, different poverty alleviation schemes we have come up with. So the state has played all these roles, but not just the state. The society has also played a significant role in bringing changes. We have seen different social movements as well. Environmental movements like Chikwa Andolan, different kinds of protests at different points of time. In 1970s, different kind of price rise movements were there. People were concerned with rising prices. People came out and protested. Also, people have participated in politics. In 1960s, later part of 1960s, 70s, the agrarian economy changed. And as a result of which, we now had emergence of different kinds of agrarian leaders, leaders from the farm sector, right, who were concerned about what was happening in the agrarian economy. Different members of different castes who thought that they were discriminated, they were exploited. And from time and again, they also protested. Women have also raised their voices against different kinds of atrocities. So, at various points of time, we have seen social movements. In few years back, right, there was an incident of a gang rape. And then after that, not only women, men, everyone came out to the streets and they demanded changes in the law. And it also has some bearing in the way society thinks about the concerns of women. Right? Some many things have not changed completely, but some change does happen. So these are all the different kinds of things that have happened from time to time, which have had a bearing on the Indian society. Right? So with this, we will be wrapping up our discussion on Indian society. I just wanted to give you a primer to how society looks like and how Indian society looks like. We started from what is society, what are the fundamental features of society, how we as individuals get impacted, influenced by society, the process of socialization. Then we looked at some features of society, and specifically features of Indian society: caste, tribe, religion, family, social classes, all these things. And then we saw how society changes. What are the factors bringing change? And in India, what are some of the factors at play? So this is about society. What we will do now is we look at some of the questions which have been asked in the past.
So let's look at some questions which have been asked in the past.
But one disclaimer here. See, when it comes to social issues specifically, when many times you get questions which are linked with multiple parts of the syllabus, right? So, multiple parts in the sense, maybe they will be linked with social issues itself, sometimes they might also link with geography, history, or some other components. Right? So, you realize that. So, maybe when you're trying to answer some of the questions that I'll show you right now, maybe you realize that, okay, I don't know a part of it. Right? Don't worry about it, because when you complete the other sessions, right, when you study those other components, you get an idea. Right? So, then you can link all these things together, you can answer it better. So, let's look at some questions. And again, all these questions, detailed solutions and all, have been discussed in separate sessions. I'll just show you the question and I'll just give you a broad overview maybe what the question is asking from you. First question: has caste lost its relevance in understanding the multicultural society? Elaborate your answer with illustrations. So what it is asking you is, if you have to understand Indian society, can you just not consider caste without thinking about caste, without reflecting about caste? Can you understand Indian society? Which implies that, does caste matter or not in the present context? So what will be your answer? You have to identify whether caste is significant or not. Caste is significant even now. If you have to understand Indian society, look at different social institutions that you have. Right? For example, the institution of family and marriage. Has caste lost its significance? No. Now also caste is relevant. Now also people get married on the basis of caste. If you have to understand how kinship patterns are formed, who all are your relatives, most likely all your relatives will be from the same caste. So when it comes to understand family marriage, caste is important. If you have to understand classes, right? What kind of social economic classes you have? They also caste based on. If you look at the agrarian economy, we saw that now also who are the ones who hold land, who are the ones who are the holding lands, land holding classes. Most likely people who have traditionally held lands. Again, that was on the basis of caste. If you have to understand politics in India, can you be blind to caste? No, because now also different kinds of alliances are formed on the basis of caste. These alliances can be for vertical mobilization. It can also be for horizontal mobilization. Different castes at the same level of hierarchy, they can come together. Different castes, different groups on the basis of caste at multiple levels can come together. Vertical mobilization. So the point is, every aspect of Indian society, you will find the role of caste. In economy also, by the way, apart from this, right? In economy also, certain kind of occupations, you find people from the same caste. Certain communities, business communities, right? They also use different kinds of caste networks. Right? When they need any help, they will again turn to people from the same caste. So relevance of caste is still there. Caste has not become irrelevant. If you have to understand society, you cannot do away with caste. You cannot ignore caste. But when you're Indian, you can also talk about how the role of caste has also gone down. For example, when it comes to politics, it's not that people only from a particular caste are allowed to be in politics. When it comes to occupation, or when it comes to different kinds of goods and services, it's not that only when you belong to a particular caste you can produce those goods and services. That has also gone down. When it comes to different kinds of rituals, different kinds of practices, right? They also, the relevance of caste has gone down slightly, right? Different kinds of practices like, or the different kind of prevalent practices like untouchability. All these things have, again, it does exist, but it does not exist as much as it used to exist in the past. So that also you can talk about that. Okay, some of the way caste was entrenched in the Indian society in the past, it is not as strongly entrenched maybe, but it still continues to remain relevant. Right? So you cannot understand Indian society if you are ignoring caste. Let's move to the next question. Caste system is assuming new identities and institution forms, hence caste cannot be eradicated in India. So this question is also more or less like the previous question. Here what you have to talk about is how new kinds of institutions are forming, how new identities are forming, and at the end of the day, caste still remains relevant. What examples you can give? You can talk about how certain communities, right, even for business purposes, even if they're in the markets, even for their business purposes, they use the caste networks. You can talk about how you have different kinds of mobilization on the basis of caste, horizontal vertical mobilization, different kinds of organizations can form for that. If you look at institutions for education, there also you will find out caste-based hostels. These are all different kinds of association forms. Political parties might form on the basis of this. Cultural groupings can form on the basis of this. New kinds of associations, new kind of websites, they form on the basis of this, which helps promote marriages or social get-togethers between people of similar caste. So you can talk about the changes that are happening in the caste system, and you can talk about how these new things are forming. And as a result of which caste is more or less intact, just some form has changed. But at the end of the day, that structure is still intact. So this is the second question related to caste system. In the context of diversity of India, can it be said that regions form cultural units rather than states? Give reasons and examples from your viewpoint. Now, what I would suggest is don't answer this question at this point of time. Just keep a note of this question. When you have completed your study of regionalism, regionalism is another topic on social issues, type it in that. So in regionalism, we will study what is the meaning of region. Right? So if you understand what is region, then only you'll be able to answer it. Since this particular question also talks about diversity, which is part of the topic that is discussed right now, that is why we have this question here. But I would recommend answer this question when you have studied regionalism. The spirit of love and tolerance is not only an interesting feature of Indian society from very early times, it is also playing an important part at the present. Now, this question has linkage with multiple parts of the syllabus. It has linkage with history, since we're talking about different times, early times, present time. It is also talking about spirit of love and tolerance in the Indian society in the past, which implies you're talking about Indian society in the past, which then implies you're talking about maybe medieval India, maybe ancient India, you're talking about the culture at that point of time. And you're also talking about the present. So how do you answer this question? Society, art, and culture, history, all these things are important. So what we can do is we can talk about the different cultural values that we have had, or the different cultural values in the Indian society or in the Indian mainland. For example, just we can talk about Buddhism, we can talk about Jainism, what all you're talking about, right? Equality, non-violence, right? All these things, fundamental values of some of these religions. Then we can talk about how different rulers in the past, different monarchs, they have also talked about some of these things. Ashoka used to talk about Dharma, Akbar, right? How he tried to create a new kind of religion where he tried to learn from different practices, different faith. We can talk about Indian art and culture, right? We can talk about paintings, we can talk about architecture, how there's an amalgamation of different cultures, Indo-Islamic architecture, how maybe a Muslim ruler is commissioning a piece of art, but it has Hindu elements. How a Muslim ruler is commissioning a particular building, but it has elements from the cross. We can talk about that. So all these things reflect that there was some amalgamation of culture, and that cannot happen if people are not tolerant of each other's culture. So there was the spirit of love and tolerance in the past. We can also talk about our freedom struggle, right? How did we go ahead with that? Right? They also we focus on Ahimsa, they also talk about non-violence, Gandhiji. And at this point of time, what is happening? Something that we already discussed, right? How the Indian state is talking about it. Talk about how foreign policy is non-violence. What were Nehruji's Panchshil thing, what is non-alignment movement, all these things will go here. How at different points of time we have welcomed refugees from different parts of the world. Tolerance and love. So all these things will go hand in hand, right? Then only you'll be able to answer this question. So again, sometimes you have these broader kind of questions which are linked with multiple parts of the syllabus. How do you answer it? You can only answer it if you're able to connect things together. Is it possible for you to just go to the exam hall and connect different points? No, you have to practice all these things before. Right? So when you answer more and more questions like this, you'll get a hang of it. Right? Directly go to the examination hall and attempting a question like this will be difficult. You might answer it, but it will take like maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, which implies you have lesser time for the remaining questions. Why are the tribals in India referred to as scheduled tribes? Indicate some of the major provisions in the constitution for their upliftment. Now keep in mind that this question is linked with some part of social justice. In social justice, we study mechanisms for vulnerable sections, right? So there we study different kinds of provisions in the constitutions for different vulnerable sections. One of the vulnerable sections is scheduled tribe. The first part, why are tribals for scheduled tribes? We already discussed that. So both these things you have to bring it together. And this kind of straightforward question is not an analytical, right? Right question, why are tribals for scheduled tribes? And what are some of the provisions? Ensure that these kind of questions you are able to answer completely. To what extent globalization has impacted the core of cultural diversity in India? Now this question has two parts. One is about diversity, another is about globalization. Globalization we have not discussed till now. There is a separate session on it. Once you have attempted or once you have studied globalization, then you try to attempt this question. Right? Then you will be able to appreciate it better. Globalization leads to change in culture, and it changes culture in different ways. Right? There, when we discuss globalization, we talk about those things. So after studying globalization, answer this question, you will be able to better appreciate it and you will be able to get more points. Since diversity was something that we discussed, that is why I have included the question. And if you have already studied globalization, now you're studying this, then you can answer it. The life cycle of a joint family depends on economic factors rather than social values. Discuss. This was something which was asked long back. But nevertheless, interesting question. Now, what do you have to do? You have to think about what are those social values impacting family. And you have to think about all the economic factors impacting family. Economic factors, urbanization, industrialization, it's all different economic factors. If a society is becoming industrialized, that means means there are new kind of jobs coming up. There's a need for people to take up specialized skills. There's a need for people to go to colleges, go to universities, go to schools, and get special training. So where will you get these skills from? In universities, colleges, most likely, high chances are there that these universities, colleges will not be in the same place where you are staying. Also, the jobs that you will get, it will not necessarily be the place where you are usually staying. So geographical mobility is something which can be caused because of these economic factors. Also, economic factors implies social mobility. If a society is industrialized, that means there are more chances now. There are more options now. There is a possibility of people becoming more mobile socially, which implies that based on your talent, you might be more successful as compared to your siblings, or your siblings might be more successful as compared to you. Which also implies that it will be very difficult for members within the family to stay together. There will be some amount of incompatibility, which also implies that the joint family will break down. So geographical mobility, social mobility, they are all caused because of economic factors like industrialization and urbanization, which leads to breakdown of the joint family to nuclear families. And again, which will lead to kinship bonds becoming weaker and host of things. Also, within the family, the dynamics that are there, that will also change. Families will become more egalitarian, women's position will become better, women saying that decision making process will become better. So economic factors leads to all these things. What about social values? Social values which impact joint family, how strongly the family is held together, how much people subscribe to collectivistic ideas, collectivism, how much individualism is there. If individualism is there, the joint family will not be held together. How strong are the consignment bonds? How strong are the filial bonds? They're all social values, right? So which has a larger role to play? Most likely the economic factors will thrive over the social values, right? So this is what we talk about. What are the social values, what are the economic factors which impact joint family, and how economic factors have a larger bearing maybe, right? So that is how we can explain how the joint family changes to a nuclear family over a period of time. Also, you can keep in mind that you can include one point here, that sometimes economic factors can also lead to formation of joint family at a particular stage. How? If there's a nuclear family, both husband and wife are working, and they have kids, now they might need some support for their kids. Maybe they can hire a nanny or someone, but usually many parents, what they will ask their parents to come and stay with them and help them with the kids. So that way, again, the joint family forms from nuclear family because of economic factors. Maybe they don't have the resources, and both of them have to work. Another thing, when the parents become old, they might need some support. So again, they can come and stay with their kids. So that again leads to formation of joint family from a nuclear family. So both these dimensions we can talk about at the end, and we'll complete the answer. Again, this question has been discussed in details in the P by Q analysis. How does patriarchy impact the position of middle class working women in India? Right. So again, this question has massive linkages with the role of women in women of nation and social justice, which we cover in paper 2. So I would recommend that answer this question. Discussed in details in the P by Q analysis. How does patriarchy impact the position of middle class working women in India? Right. So again, this question has massive linkages with the role of women in women of nation and social justice, which we cover in paper 2. So I would recommend that answer this question when you complete role of women of nation and social justice. You get an idea, right? How middle class working women faces different kinds of challenges within the household. Chances of domestic violence can be there. Maybe she's not given equal say in the decision making process. At the workplace, again, she faces different kinds of challenges. There's risk of sexual harassment in the workplace. Maybe there's gender pay gap. Maybe she's not promoted up the corporate hierarchy. All those different kinds of issues she might face. But yeah, it is better to answer this question once you have the grounding of gender issues. So this is again linked with something, some of the parts of the syllabus. So this is about the previous questions that have been asked. And with this, we will also wrap up this session. I hope you now have a better understanding of Indian society. And when you look at things around you, when you just analyze the society around you, I hope you will keep all these points in mind that we discussed. Thank you.